A lone dandelion grows resiliently from a crack in the pavement. Kronos sits, a profound sigh escaping him as his hands clench in quiet frustration. He contemplates the critical situation, realizing that, without the designated K, even if he were to somehow open the door, his efforts would be in vain. His thoughts turn to a more pressing concern, as he wonders aloud what can be done about securing the nectar. Zeus, standing nearby, informs him that the Seven-Star Society is already making its move. Kronos remains silent as Zeus questions whether Gaia and Salome will simply stand by and do nothing. Unfazed, Kronos dismisses the thought, his eyes glowing with a powerful resolve as he declares that their silence or action is none of his concern. With a slight smirk, Zeus offers his apologies. Meanwhile, Kronos walks away, declaring that some sacrifices are inevitable to achieve something truly great. He dismisses the foolish Gaia for constantly babbling about ideals, crushing delicate dandelions under his foot as he speaks. The world around them transforms into a fiery, devastated cityscape. Zeus observes the destruction, stating he is not a fool like others who hold such ideals. A powerful narration from Kronos' perspective then proclaims his ambition. He is the man who will become the master of this world. Amidst the spreading flames, serene photographs of a family and landscapes are consumed by the inferno. Another man, Yugo Mizukami, holds a gun, expressing his frustration, lamenting that he wished to settle matters peacefully, yet others always complicate things. He then addresses an unseen individual, asking, "Yanagimoto-san, don't you agree?" A woman, Satsuki, cries out, "Dear!" As a bloodied man, Kenji Yanagimoto, collapses to his knees. His glasses lie shattered on the floor beside him. Kenji glares defiantly, blood staining his face, muttering the name of his assailant, Mizukami. The aggressor, Yugo Mizukami, an executive of the Seven-Star Society and boss of the Australia Zero team, looks down with a sneer, remarking that he thought Kenji would be more understanding. Mizukami then questions Kenji about the whereabouts of his daughter, who he claims ran off with the crucial nectar recipe. Despite his injuries, Kenji defiantly declares that he will not allow Mizukami to harm his daughter. Enraged, Mizukami snarls that he wishes he could show Kenji's dying moments to the fist guys. He raises a gun, aiming it at the wounded man, and a gunshot echoes through the scene. Meanwhile, in a different location, a hooded figure known as Yasha receives new orders. An unseen voice, Agent Alpha, informs Yasha that an ability user has been detected among the enemy forces and proclaims that this is Yasha's moment to shine. Yasha looks on with keen eyes as an intense battle rages below. Amidst the raging battle, where gunfire and explosions light the chaotic scene, a voice urgently commands the combatants not to give their enemies any openings, while another rallies the forces with a shout to attack. Unmoved by the surrounding destruction, Yasha, a hooded and masked figure in tactical gear, stands his ground. Sparks fly around him as he parries a direct attack with a sharp, forceful impact, then swiftly readies his knife. A cry echoes through the battlefield, announcing that Yasha is coming. As Yasha charges fiercely forward, one of his opponents exclaims that he is at least stage 2 and that they cannot possibly handle him alone. While Yasha pushes deeper into the conflict, a disturbing flash of memory or vision momentarily assails him. He internally curses, observing fragmented images of others, and wonders about this profound sense of déjà vu as a surge of yellow energy illuminates the vision, dashes rapidly through an explosion-ridden landscape, propelling forward with immense force. In the midst of the chaos, a tactical leader urgently commands his forces to stop the assailant. Yasha, unfazed by the pursuit, is momentarily seen gripping a chain before launching a powerful, spinning attack with his knife, enveloped in a swirling vortex of energy. Another tactical operative, the gunner, fires his pistol, striking Yasha, who is sent reeling, blood splattering from the impact. Despite the wound, Yasha quickly recovers, grabbing another blade as the tactical figures close in, their weapons glowing with energy. "Kill him quickly," the tactical leader insists. Yasha looks up with intensely glowing eyes as a powerful energy attack descends upon him. Yasha doesn't seem to be entirely human. A formidable individual, identified simply as an awakener, stands poised in the forest, an aura of fire flickering around him. He observes a shadowy figure who swiftly lunges forward, trails of crimson energy marking his path. The two combatants, Yasha and the Awakener, collide in a spectacular explosion of light and power. Yasha deftly parries a knife thrown by his opponent. The Awakener curses his predicament, lamenting that he is in the midst of a critical shedding process while engaged in combat. Yasha, meanwhile, lands from a maneuver, feeling his own symptoms worsening, and resolves to end the fight quickly. The battle intensifies as Yasha and the Awakener trade rapid, forceful blows. The Awakener's eyes glow with fierce intensity, a silent declaration of his resolve. Yasha then unleashes a powerful, arcing attack, which the Awakener meets with a defensive stance. Seizing the moment, Yasha delivers a devastating kick to the Awakener's chest, sending him hurtling backward. The Awakener crashes into the ground, skidding across the rough terrain as the force of the impact ripples through the area. A powerful, hooded mercenary, wreathed in roaring flames, engages Yasha in a fierce battle. The mercenary observes Yasha's combat, acknowledging his abilities as expected for someone of Yasha's reputation, but still finds his performance a bit disappointing. Yasha, knife in hand, clashes with the mercenary and assures him there is no need to worry. The mercenary responds dismissively, stating that Yasha's current level is more than enough for him. Suddenly, a blinding flash envelops the scene. In a separate, ethereal space, two enigmatic female figures converse. One, a horned overseer, questions if a certain kid can truly become the K. The other, a serene woman named Alara, calmly dismisses her worries, affirming that fate will guide him. Meanwhile, Ken Yanagimoto, looking distraught, finds himself back on a plane, clutching his head. He notes that he has been feeling dizzy ever since his return to Japan. Ken Yanagimoto gazes into his reflection, contemplating if his recent experience was a dream, but definitively concludes it was a part of his memory. He then ponders the meaning of the cryptic word, K. Looking out of an airplane window at the cityscape below, Ken is overcome by a profound sense of unease. Upon arriving at a familiar, aged building, Ken observes that he has been coming to this place with his father since childhood. He steps inside, surveying the dusty, unused interior of an old office, wondering if it has remained untouched all this time. The path to this hidden location has an ominous atmosphere, prompting Ken to wonder what could have transpired during his absence. He retrieves a rectangular black object from a box, placing it onto the floor. His immediate concern shifts to his family. He decides he must first contact his parents, knowing they must be worried. He takes out his phone, wondering if it still functions. The phone displays a loading screen. A message from Aki Kuniyama urgently states that her uncle's company is in trouble, addressing Ken Kun. Ken Yanagimoto is then bombarded with a rapid succession of notifications on his phone. One message thanks him for his continued patronage, while another, from a hospital, grimly discusses the release of a deceased individual, asking for understanding. Hayato Kimura expresses distress, needing an important document from Yanagimoto but finding him absent. The Power Systems Management Support Team also sends a message. Masumi Ohara urgently asks Yanagimoto about his whereabouts, imploring him to confirm his safety as things are getting serious. An international transmission advises him to check a notification regarding personal information content. Aki Kuniyama sends another message, pleading for Yanagimoto to contact her via email and ensure he replies. Yanagimoto's eyes widen in stark distress as the weight of these alarming messages bears down on him, particularly Masami Ohara's plea for his safety. His vision blurs and distorts into chaotic red and blue lines, reflecting his internal turmoil. He sees images of people, possibly his family or colleagues, enveloped in a swirling red vortex, breaking apart as if being consumed. Standing alone in a dark, ominous space lit only by a path beneath his feet, Yanagimoto receives the devastating news. His uncle and aunt have passed away. He looks down, reeling from the tragic revelation. A photograph reveals a family of 4, but the focus quickly shifts to a young girl named Mei, who is also tragically missing. The weight of this absence presses heavily. An official delivers the somber news, offering their deepest condolences and explaining they couldn't contact the family, thus preventing the release of the bodies without proper consent. The official then identifies the deceased Chio Yanagimoto and Uriko Yanagimoto, confirming they have both passed away. The stark reality of 2 covered bodies on gurneys emphasizes the irreversible loss. Overwhelmed by profound grief, Yanagimoto weeps uncontrollably. He later pours sake into a small cup, seeking a moment of solace, then sits on the floor, gazing out a window with a heavy sigh, reflecting on the immense tragedy that has befallen him. A powerful impact ripples through the surroundings, causing Ken to cry out in immense pain as he collapses. His bloodied hand scrapes against the torn ground, his body writhing in agony. He clutches at the earth, his face contorted in a silent scream as fresh blood streams down his face. Despite his critical condition, Ken's eyes burn with a fierce determination. He silently vows to find the ones responsible for attacking his father and mother, promising himself that he will surely achieve his vengeance. Bad days. Nothing seems to go right. Indeed, as soon as her day started, her weekend plans began to unravel, signaled by an incoming call from her company. A reporter named Oi Miyahara, identified by her World Nope 1 channel ID, grumbles about the rush surrounding an article. Miyahara, still complaining, hurriedly leaves her house, worriedly exclaiming that she needs to book her seat. She rushes, making her way to the bus station, where a sign confirms it's Sunday and a bus is Tokyo-bound. The schedule reveals that it's the last day of a long weekend, and all the express bus seats are sold out. Fortunately, Miyahara manages to reserve the very last seat on the bus. As she settles into her seat, a single word escapes her thoughts: seriously. Oi Miyahara despairs, wondering just how unlucky she can get. Of all the people she could end up next to, she finds herself beside Yugo Mizukami, whom she considers a weird guy with no common sense. She questions what is wrong with him, observing that he reeks of alcohol and his clothes are covered in dirt, soiling the seat. From his appearance, she deduces he must have been drinking all night. Overwhelmed by the situation, Oi expresses her exasperation and desperately wishes for a break, pinching her nose in disgust. To cope, she decides to listen to some music to distract herself, letting out a heavy sigh as she puts an earbud in. She laments that this is the worst, reflecting that while she thought she was having a bad day since morning, she never expected it to be quite this terrible. Oi Miyahara is startled as chaos erupts around her. An earbud falls from her ears, screams of "Ah! Amacha! Help! Someone send you!" and "Don't usage!" echo through the bus. Oi Miyahara stares in terror, trying to comprehend the situation. She observes the debris and injured passengers, noting that there was a huge noise, and wonders what on earth is happening as people cry out in pain. Someone questions if the bus got into an accident, as the vehicle is precariously tilted, dangling over a cliff edge. With a grimace of determination, Oi Miyahara declares that she needs to get out quickly. She struggles with the door, and once it finally opens, however, her relief is short-lived as she is immediately thrown out of the bus, looking surprised as she falls. Oi Miyahara screams in terror as disaster strikes, feeling as though her life is about to end. Just as she thinks, am I gonna die like this? A hand reaches out, desperately seeking something to hold on to. Suddenly, Yugo Mizukami firmly grabs her hand, pulling her to safety amidst the falling debris. Oi Miyahara looks up in shock, realizing her rescuer is the person who is sitting next to her. Overcome with relief and gratitude, she thinks, this person is from the seat next to me. As Yugo Mizukami pulls her up, she manages to voice her heartfelt thanks. Thanks to you, I survived. Thank you so mu. Her hand reaches out in a gesture of profound gratitude. They emerge from the destruction into a heavy downpour, both looking up at the catastrophic scene, their faces etched with disbelief. Oi Miyahara cries out in pain as she is violently thrown backward, landing roughly on the ground. Confused and disoriented, she shouts, demanding to know what is happening. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts behind her, consuming the bus in a fiery blast and sending fragments of the vehicle flying. Oi Miyahara shields herself from the impact, her mind racing. She realizes it is an explosion and is gripped by dread, remembering that there were still people trapped inside the bus. Her eyes widen in horror as she grasps the terrifying reality of the situation, realizing it is the bus that has just exploded. She stammers in disbelief before letting out a desperate scream of no, as the mangled remains of the bus plummet into the depths below, creating a colossal splash. A devastating bus explosion sends fire and smoke billowing across the rain-soaked road, causing a massive pile-up of vehicles. Onlookers from a bridge above cry out in panic, with one person shouting that the bus has exploded. Another desperately asks about an ambulance, to which someone confirms it has already been called. Amidst the chaos, Oi Miyahara holds an unconscious Yugo Mizukami. She observes the horrific scene, her thoughts consumed by dread as she realizes the person who saved her earlier is still trapped within the wreckage. A wave of disbelief washes over her, followed by the crushing weight of the many lives caught in the catastrophe. Oi Miyahara clenches her fist tightly, her expression a mix of anguish and resolve. Oi Miyahara, drenched and distraught, reflects on the suddenness of loss, thinking how someone could have simply died just like that. Her thoughts are interrupted when a voice exclaims that there's a survivor. Another voice confirms, pointing towards the tumultuous waters, that someone is still alive. Oi Miyahara, eyes wide with disbelief, wonders how anyone could have possibly survived such a powerful explosion. Amidst the floating wreckage and heavy rain, a figure slowly emerges. Her heart races as she realizes he's truly alive, and then, with a gasp, she observes that Yugo Mizukami is also carrying someone on his back as he struggles through the water. A new resolve fills Oi Miyahara. She decides she needs to let as many people know about this as possible. She pulls out her phone, realizing there is no time to contact her company directly given the urgency of the situation. Oi Miyahara decides to broadcast the unfolding situation, reassuring herself to remain calm as always. She initiates a live emergency broadcast, reporting from the scene. She explains that a bus accident just occurred on the highway, with a bus carrying many passengers plummeting approximately 30 meters off a cliff. The live stream shows the bus partially submerged in tumultuous ocean waves. Viewers flood the chat with comments, some questioning the government's response, others the ethics of live streaming an accident, and one user, Denjin Suzuki, simply stating their name. Oi Miyahara reveals that the bus, with 46 passengers including the driver, departed for Tokyo at 10:15 a.m. and critically, the rescue team has not yet arrived. The bus is on the verge of sinking entirely into the sea. Amidst this catastrophe, Oi Miyahara announces that a hero has emerged to save the distressed passengers. The man, a passenger on the crash bus himself, struggles to pull himself out of the water. Onlookers at the cliff's edge exclaim in surprise as he pulls himself onto the bus, wondering how he could have survived the fall. The chat erupts with questions and admiration, viewers wondering if he is injured, a rescue worker, or truly a hero. Alone, he is single-handedly rescuing the passengers from the sinking bus. The character, Yugo Mizukami, displays an intense focus, his glowing yellow eye fixated amidst the falling rain or dust. Yugo Mizukami, working all by himself, bravely battles the tumultuous waters as he focuses on rescuing the passengers. He meticulously moves everyone to a safe place, guiding them away from the immediate danger. Meanwhile, Oi Miyahara stands in the rain, receiving urgent messages on her phone. Her team leader questions her emergency broadcast. Undeterred, Oi Miyahara sees this as her crucial chance. She understands that she must provide the whole situation and all available information to the office. With resolve, she begins to type her response, acknowledging that she doesn't have the time to stop gathering information, but will explain everything as briefly as possible. Gathering vital information, noting there is no time to stop. Simultaneously, a distressed team leader, Kenji, grips Oi Miyahara, who reports urgently that the bus she rode to Tokyo has been involved in an accident. Oi Miyahara, clutching her phone, recognizes a critical opportunity, pleading to connect to the server and broadcast the news. She presses team leader Kenji, asking what their next move should be. Team leader Kenji pauses, deep in thought, as the control room around them hums with activity. A hand firmly pushes a fader, and an OAR sign illuminates, indicating a live broadcast has begun. Outside, amidst a torrential downpour, a survivor gasps in shock. She watches in horror as the bus violently flips over in the tumultuous water. The massive vehicle crashes into the rough sea, beginning to sink rapidly. A dazed rescuer observes the unfolding catastrophe with a grim expression. Nearby, a mother cries out in anguish, desperately struggling against those restraining her, pleading that her child is still trapped inside the submerging bus. Those holding her back urge her to calm down, stating that the bus is sinking, yet her child remains. The mother vehemently insists there is no point in saving her if her child is not also saved. The rescuer looks on, a silent no, escaping him as the grim reality sets in. The heavy rain continues to pour as massive waves surge around the partially submerged bus. Yugo Mizukami stands on the wreck, observing the turbulent water below. He takes a deep breath, his expression resolute. Nearby, another individual floats face down in the churning water. Yugo Mizukami reaches out, his hand extended as if to grasp them. From a distance, Oi Miyahara, holding her phone, recognizes him as the man from earlier and exclaims in distress that he is diving back into the bus. Without a moment's hesitation, Yugo Mizukami plunges back into the dark depths. Underwater, his eyes flare with a powerful golden light and intense energy radiating from him. Inside the submerged bus, the cabin is a chaotic scene of overturned seats and floating debris. Yanagimoto lies motionless on the floor, enveloped in a faint blue aura. Yugo Mizukami propels himself through the water, his hand glowing with golden energy, and a powerful burst of light and force erupts around him as he moves through the wreckage. Underwater, Yugo Mizukami tightly embraces Yanagimoto, his eyes glowing intensely as a brilliant golden aura envelops them, providing protection amidst the sinking wreckage. A large bus descends rapidly into the dark waters, reflecting the chaotic environment. Meanwhile, above the surface, Oi Miyahara stands alone in the heavy rain, anxiously checking her phone. She wonders why he has not yet resurfaced, a chilling thought crossing her mind. Could he be trapped inside the bus? Suddenly, the water explodes upwards with a tremendous force, sending debris flying. From a distance, an unseen observer questions the terrifying noise, realizing that no one is emerging from the depths. The horrifying truth dawns: the bus has exploded. A woman screams in desperation, pleading, "The people inside are out." As she fights against those holding her back, attempting to reach something just out of grasp, she cries out in anguish, "Ah! You can't!" While other onlookers urge her, "Miss, please." Her cries morph into a heart-wrenching "No!" as she strains, reaching a hand out in the turbulent waters. Amidst the downpour and crashing waves, she begs, "Let me go. Oh God, please save my son." Her hand stretches out, desperate, until a strong hand grasps it firmly. From the stormy sea, Yugo Mizukami emerges, clutching a small boy, Yuta, in his arms. The distraught woman, the boy's mother, covers her mouth in shock and relief before exclaiming, Yuta, I am glad. Thank you very much, though." She embraces her son tightly as Yugo Mizukami stands before them, a quiet hero. The scene reveals emergency services arriving, with a helicopter hovering and a fire truck and ambulance parked nearby on a rocky outcrop. A narration explains that the man risked his life to rescue the boy, who was successfully returned to his family. Online comments pour in, praising the heroic act. "Who is he? So cool! Where is this? Is he getting an award from the country? This is awesome! I cried so much. So beautiful! And wow, he's a real hero." In a humorous meta commentary from the author, a thought appears, pondering how helicopter sounds are conveyed in English manga and asking for suggestions. Truly, a hero has emerged from an extreme situation. Looks up at the stormy sky as a voice declares that the lives of many passengers were saved. An official statement then announces that as soon as the rescue operation concludes, an investigation will commence to assess the accident's damage. News reports from The Fact News question the cause of massive collisions involving 12 cars, with witness testimonies mentioning a gunshot. Investigations quickly point to conflicts between underground organizations, as authorities suspect that a clash between criminal groups caused the accident, leading to 200 fatalities. People are increasingly interested in the massive accident on Tokyo's Ozeki Pass, yet their interest lies not in its sheer scale. A report presented by Oi Miyahara from the crash site confirms the public's focused attention. Morning press media further reports on a highway accident involving a bus heading to Tokyo, revealing that it collided with a rail and fell from a cliff. The broken glass suggests a possible cause, and reports link the incident to friction between black organizations. Across the city, news declares that order has fallen and society's security is now in question. However, in a contrasting report from Daily Japan, titled Accident of the Highway, A Citizen Hero, it's revealed that amidst the series of unfortunate accidents, a single hero emerged, jumping into the sea to save lives. After rescuing many, the man disappeared, attracting considerable attention as a nameless hero. Modern society, however, has already forgotten the emergence of heroes. Nevertheless, the world begins to focus its attention on this mysterious man. The question lingers: who is this man? Several days after the accident's broadcast under a clear blue sky, a new development unfolds. Inside a control room, someone reprimands a person for their recklessness, questioning why they would deliberately start a broadcast even during an emergency. Aoi Miyahara is confronted by her superior Kenji, who questions why she only used a messenger app instead of making a call while at the crash site. He then asks if she understood how much they worried about her, to which Aoi Miyahara looks surprised. Kenji explains their concerns stemmed from her involvement in the accident. He then reassures her, stating that as long as she is healthy, it is fine. Aoi Miyahara murmurs his title, relief on her face, but Kenji demands she write a letter of apology later on. Aoi Miyahara acknowledges this with a slight shock. Kenji clarifies that he is letting her off with only an apology letter because the broadcast was a significant success, then instructs her to return to work if she understands. He further tasks her with writing articles about the hero, stating that everyone wants to know his identity. As Aoi Miyahara processes this, a thought crosses her mind, wondering if the hero is truly okay. She recalls the emergency personnel mentioning his sudden disappearance during her conversation with a rescue worker. Aoi Miyahara laments not having expressed her gratitude to him, and then considers that she might be able to meet him again if she uses an interview as an excuse. She reassures herself that he must be a good person, as he is a hero from the civilians. Separately, a phone vibrates, displaying an outgoing call to Hermes from Yugo Mizukami. A mysterious digital interface flickers as an unseen caller expresses surprise. This announcement is made over the protagonist's smiling face, who has his hands clasped together in a peculiar gesture. The protagonist, revealed as Ken Yanagimoto, looking exasperated while holding his phone, cuts to the chase, declaring that he didn't call for a mere chit-chat. The caller laughs, assuring him it was a joke and asking what he needs. Ken Yanagimoto, his expression now serious, states simply that he is looking for a person. The bustling city is alive with sounds as various people discuss the elusive citizen hero. A wanted poster featuring the hero is displayed publicly, inviting calls. On the other end of these calls, people inquire if others have seen the hero, questioning their whereabouts, or even asking if the caller is the hero himself or a friend. In an office setting, Kai responds to a call, confirming what he's heard, but quickly concludes, "Isn't this basically a prank call?" He slams the phone down in frustration. Nearby, Aoi Miyahara collapses in her chair, burdened by regret. She thinks to herself that she shouldn't have suggested this hero-searching plan, lamenting that everything is just fake. Her gaze drifts to a social media feed filled with posts about the hero. One user, Akita Shuri, comments on a photo, suggesting the person isn't merely cosplaying, while another user claims to have found the real hero, displaying another look-alike. Aoi sighs, realizing everyone is just cosplaying as him. A new message notification appears on her screen. Suddenly, a colleague calls out, "Senpai." With a renewed sense of purpose, Aoi abruptly announces, "I am going outside for a bit." Her colleague is bewildered, asking, "How?" "Hey, wait! Where are you going at such a busy hour? Hey, Miyahara, are you listening?" However, Aoi ignores the protests, already determinedly heading out. Someone emphatically demands that the citizen hero finish their apology letter first, while a computer screen displays various news headlines about the hero, mentioning topics like people being saved during the rain, a hero in June, saving a kid from the sea, and the truth about a bus accident. Rain steadily falls, obscuring the urban landscape in a soft haze as a car drives along a bridge, heading towards the city. The white mini-van continues its journey. Aoi Miyahara introduces herself, greeting the person she contacted earlier that morning, looking composed as she holds her phone. She then inquires about their meeting location, stating she will arrive soon. The other person on the call suggests meeting at the office of the park cemetery, which Aoi Miyahara confirms, stating she is heading there immediately. A car navigates a winding road surrounded by lush mountains under an overcast sky, eventually approaching a sign pointing towards the park cemetery. Aoi Miyahara's white mini van pulls into the park cemetery parking lot. Someone holds a phone displaying a picture and asks if the other person is the one who sent it. The person holding the phone then hesitates, trying to recall the other's name, before guessing, Akiyama Takaru-san. The man Akiyama Takaru confirms his identity, holding a phone in one hand and his cap in the other. A few months prior, a man at a rainy graveyard observes someone dressed rather oddly. This individual had placed offerings for the dead, then proceeded to buy a significant amount of alcohol, which he consumed continuously in front of a particular gravestone. Now Eriko Yanagimoto stands before that very grave, confirming it is the Yanagimoto family plot. She recalls the grave was made around June, right after an incident. Eriko reflects on the man's disheveled appearance, noticing an alcoholic smell and muddy clothing. A look of understanding crosses her face as she realizes, so this is the cause. She then turns to someone nearby, asking if they can tell her whose grave it is and who its owner is. Meanwhile, a news report details a search for a hero from a bus accident in June. The news anchor describes the man as having shabby hair, wearing a pale brown jacket, a white t-shirt, and gray pants. This male passenger saved many lives during the terrible accident, and it is announced that he will receive medals and rewards. The broadcast further states that anyone providing information leading to finding this male passenger will receive a reward. A reward poster publicly announces a 50 million yen reward for a passenger. Yugo, walking casually through the city, muses that those who have been searching for him should have already realized his presence. He considers, if possible, dismantling the criminal organizations hunting him. However, his current physical state prevents such direct action. Later, a hand pins a photograph of a man Ryo to a corkboard, which is intricately covered with red investigative strings indicating a complex web of connections. Yugo deliberately set a trap, provoking them to come after him, believing this proactive approach will actually be safer. He recognizes that a powerful financial sponsor must be backing them, though he doesn't know their identity. He decides to allow Ryo to create a pretext to confront him, contemplating the implications of this strategy. He hopes that by doing so, he might finally uncover clues regarding Mai. Back on the street, Yugo remembers a specific location, wondering if it's around here, as his mind flashes to a memory or vision of someone crying out, "Help!" Ken Yanagimoto stands on a bridge at night, his eyes fixed on a target below. He acknowledges that he has finally found those he was looking for, a dangerous smirk slowly spreading across his face. Below him, a group of criminals gathers around a luxury car. One of them casually inquires about the state of their victim from the previous day. A man in a blue suit, holding a bottle, nonchalantly replies that she was heavily drugged and that he sold her out simply because he was bored. Another criminal laughs, commenting on his friend's depravity and asking if the sale was profitable. A syringe and a bag of drugs are displayed, revealing the tools of their trade. One of the men admits they may have overdone it a little bit today. The eager criminal, with an open shirt, eagerly demands a second victim, urging them to hurry up. The unconscious, bound body of a woman is shown, revealing the tragic fate of their latest target. The criminals mockingly claim to be kind people, stating they enjoy playing with women like her. The grinning criminal with a sinister smile adds that this thing, referring to the woman, is expensive. A thug seizes Masami Hara's chin, his expression menacing, eliciting an uncomfortable groan from her as he coolly states that his assistance is not for free. Ken Yanagimoto, his eyes narrowed, intently observes the unfolding scene. As the thug's grip on Masami Hara tightens, another thug approaches Ken Yanagimoto, aggressively demanding to know his identity, while several other intimidating figures gather around them. With a confident smirk, Ken Yanagimoto finally addresses the group, declaring them to be trash indeed. He continues his biting assessment, asserting that for pieces of shits like you who are living like bastards, it seems you can't live without pleasing your crotch. Ken Yanagimoto then provocatively challenges a large thug, calling him a coward directly to his face, igniting a fierce rage in the thug, whose face is now contorted with fury. The enraged thug yells back, demanding to know what Ken Yanagimoto just said, before lunging forward with a furious punch. Mid-swing, the thug rages at Ken Yanagimoto, warning him that he's getting carried away just because I was silent, and threatening to rip that mouth of his. The thug's punch lands with a forceful impact as he screams for Ken Yanagimoto to die, "You piece of shit!" Meanwhile, two other thugs observe, one laughing and calling Ken Yanagimoto what an idiot, while the other expresses mock pity, stating he feels bad for that guy. A furious thug confronts Ken Yanagimoto, demanding to know where his earlier spirit had gone. He defiantly challenges Ken Yanagimoto to say it once more. Swiftly, Ken Yanagimoto blocks the thug's hand, delivering a blow that causes the man to cry out in pain as purple energy emanates from his twisted arm. Two more thugs, now shocked, react with alarm. The first thug, enraged, screams about the bastard and lunges with a punch. Ken Yanagimoto easily evades the attack, then retaliates with a powerful kick that sends the thugs sprawling across the ground. With all the attackers incapacitated and scattered around him, Ken Yanagimoto calmly observes the scene, noting that his assailants were the ones who initiated the physical confrontation. He firmly declares his actions were merely self-defense, a slight smirk playing on his lips as his eyes glow with a subtle power. Ken Yanagimoto calmly confronts a group of men, pointing out that they were the ones who made the first move, thereby establishing his actions as self-defense. Despite the clear numerical disadvantage, a thug leader berates his hesitant companions, questioning their fear of a single opponent. He then aggressively commands them to quickly eliminate Ken. With a confident, almost smirking expression, Ken prepares for the fight. As one of the thugs charges, Ken swiftly evades the attack and delivers a powerful punch that sends the man soaring through the air. Enraged, another assailant, the knife thug, pulls out a knife and lunges at Ken, screaming for him to die. Ken, however, expertly blocks the blade, readying himself to strike back. A powerful force erupts, sending multiple figures violently flying through the air amidst a flurry of red energy. A gang leader, smoking a cigarette, exclaims in surprise, noting that someone is causing a significant disturbance, making the area increasingly noisy. He commands his scarred enforcer to handle the situation. The scarred enforcer acknowledges the order. An observer watches as the scarred enforcer walks away, observing that the opponent seems like a formidable individual. However, the scarred enforcer's confidence quickly shatters as he is swiftly defeated and collapses to the ground. The observer then finds himself looking upon a scene of widespread defeat, with numerous men lying incapacitated around a mysterious figure. He confronts the enigmatic newcomer, demanding to know their identity. But Yugo Mizukami approaches him with a sly smirk, explaining that he only came to investigate the noise. The man, identified as Kaido, sternly warns Yugo not to grow overconfident just because he dispatched a few subordinates, emphasizing that Yugo should heed his caution if he desires a long life. Without delay, Kaido charges forward, delivering a forceful punch that strikes Yugo across the face, causing him to recoil and utter a pained grunt. As Kaido then attempts to seize him, Yugo's eyes suddenly glow with an intense red light, his form momentarily shrouded in a dark, ominous aura. He retaliates by unleashing a devastating wave of red energy that completely engulfs Kaido, sending him flying helplessly into the air. A sudden, powerful force sends one of the assailants flying through the air, prompting another to exclaim in shock, wondering who their formidable opponent is. Nearby, another thug collapses onto the ground, clearly injured. One enraged assailant glares, barely managing to articulate a curse, calling his attacker a bastard. His companion, gripping a heavy object, fiercely shouts for the opponent to just die as they both lunge forward with murderous intent. Amidst the ensuing chaos, the protagonist, Kaido, stands calmly in an area surrounded by burning vehicles, his intense gaze reflecting the gravity of the situation. He unleashes a devastating assault, striking one thug so hard that blood splatters, then impales another through the chest, and finally punches a third, sending him airborne with a pained cry. Kaido now surveys the scene, surrounded by groaning, defeated assailants lying in pools of their own blood. As Kaido looks up, a new threat emerges. Cars are effortlessly lifted and spun through the air by an unseen force. A vehicle, glowing with ominous intent, barrels towards him, and a menacing voice roars, wishing death upon him. The impact is catastrophic, sending Yugo's car tumbling violently through the air before it crashes. Yugo himself is left sprawled and lifeless on the ground, a chilling testament to the attack's brutality. However, the scene is far from over. Ken Yanagimoto watches Yugo's fallen body, his gaze hardening as his eyes begin to glow with a fierce red intensity, signaling his awakening power. He launches himself forward, a blur of motion and raw energy, and with a powerful, devastating kick, he strikes his assailant, a man we will call the first attacker. The force of the blow is immense, shattering the environment around them and sending the first attacker flying through the air. Ken Yanagimoto stands triumphantly over his defeated foe, a chilling smile gracing his lips, his glowing eyes revealing the depth of his unleashed fury. Ken Yanagimoto unleashes a devastating red energy attack, striking another man with immense force and sending him sprawling to the ground. The injured man cries out, then trembles as he desperately apologizes and begs Ken to spare his life. Ken looks down with a sinister smile, his eyes glowing intensely, and calmly reassures the man not to worry, for he will not kill him. The man loses consciousness, his eyes wide with fear and pain. Disoriented and confused by his surroundings, he struggles to comprehend where he is as Ken stands before him, asking if he is finally awake. The man, still groggy, questions who Ken is. Ken sternly instructs him to remain quiet, assuring him that everything will be over soon, before addressing him directly. "Isn't that right, Yosuke-kun?" Yosuke kneels, head bowed in distress, as Ken sternly demands his phone. Trembling, Yosuke hesitantly complies, stuttering a meek "less." Ken takes the device, confirming Yosuke's full name, Yosuke Mida, with a sinister smile. Still on his knees, Yosuke fearfully affirms his identity. Ken then probes further, asking about his father's occupation, planning to use the information as a stepping stone for deeper investigation. Yosuke nervously reveals that his father is a member of the National Parliament. Ken notes that this information perfectly matches his prior investigation, before asking if Yosuke's father is aware of his current activities. Yosuke remains silent, unable to respond, as the phone in Ken's hand suddenly begins to dial. A furious voice thunders through the phone, demanding to know where Yosuke has been, admonishing him for the late hour, and accusing him of causing trouble again. With a malevolent glint in his eye, Ken addresses the voice, confirming he is speaking to Mr. Maeda, Yosuke's father. The voice demands to know Ken's identity, to which Ken replies that he needs to inform him about Yosuke's involvement in various illicit activities. He details Yosuke's alleged crimes, including drug possession, attempted rape, assault, and various other transgressions. The scene is visually disturbing, showing several figures lying motionless on the ground amidst bloodstains. Ken further emphasizes the severity of the situation, stating that Yosuke was caught red-handed, making a prison sentence of at least 10 years inevitable. The fallen figures remain visible, casualties of a prior confrontation. A crucial piece of evidence is gathered from the dashcams of luxury cars parked nearby. On the phone, Yosuke's dad demands to know what the caller means, questioning if they are the police. Ken Yanagimoto calmly responds that he is merely a passerby. He then explains that Yosuke and his friends subjected him to terrible violence, stating he will need compensation. Displaying his phone, which shows a call to dad, Ken menacingly points out that they made the first move. Yosuke's dad immediately confronts Yosuke, demanding to know if this is true. A terrified Yosuke quickly apologizes to his dad. Ken continues, revealing that he also has footage of Yosuke trying to run him over while drunk driving. He adds that the drug dealer is present, along with the victim, both ready to testify. Growing desperate, Yosuke's dad offers to meet and talk, asking how much money he needs. Ken states his price, 100 million yen, and a written promise not to harm the victim. Yosuke's dad reacts in disbelief, asking if this is a joke. Ken then threatens to livestream the entire situation if the money isn't paid, causing Yosuke's dad to fall silent. Eventually, Yosuke's dad offers 50 million yen. Ken responds with a surprising twist, saying that more than just money, they will start something right away, asking Yosuke's dad to name the title. Yosuke's dad tries to regain control, threatening that Ken won't get away with this, then immediately tries to de-escalate, suggesting they handle things peacefully. He internally believes that a man of his stature can easily squash any media leaks, and that an ordinary person's evidence in lawsuit wouldn't be taken seriously. This is the quickest way to resolve the situation. The voice reflects on Yosuke, labeling him as nothing but a burden. Suited Man 1, visibly distressed and sweating, is on the phone. He is told to stop making excuses and to simply provide an answer. Suited Man 1 promises that he will not involve the victim any further and states that they will prepare the money. He then clarifies that the payment will consist of an untraceable check, securities, and bundles of old $100 bills. On the other end of the line, the hooded negotiator, smiling, declares that they finally understand each other. He instructs Suited Man 1 to come to a specific location tomorrow at 6 a.m. Overwhelmed, Suited Man 1 collapses to his knees. Later, the hooded negotiator approaches victim girl, who is sitting on a couch, and apologizes for the wait. He acknowledges her desire to go home quickly but warns that returning now would leave her haunted by nightmares for the rest of her life. With a sinister smile, he insists that to get rid of the fear, she must eliminate its source. He believes that what happened today should be resolved today so she can face tomorrow with a clear mind. Subsequently, two men in suits hand a bag filled with money to the hooded negotiator, who inspects the stacks of $100 bills. He then turns to victim girl, revealing the cash, and simply tells her to look as she gazes back in terror. A distressed woman looks up in surprise, her thoughts racing about the situation. She then addresses the hooded man, expressing her gratitude. The hooded man, however, brushes off her thanks, stating he didn't act out of goodwill. Despite his words, the woman insists he is a lifesaver to her. He dismisses her sentiment, calling himself merely a passing thug before telling her to forget about it entirely, clenches his fist in frustration, cursing the turn of events. He adamantly declares he won't let this slide, fearing that allowing the hooded man to escape would threaten his political career. Connecting with his subordinate. The subordinate answers, addressing him as sensei, then instructs his subordinate to take care of a man. The directive is clear: use any means necessary to achieve the objective. A substantial reward of 50 million yen in cash awaits those who succeed. On the other end of a phone call, an injured contact with a band-aid on his face appears to be reporting. The recipient of the call, an amused boss in a stylish suit, inquires with a smirk if some thug dared to pick a fight with his contact. He expresses keen interest, stating he would like to hear more about the situation, his grin widening with a hint of dark anticipation. The scene opens with Yugo Mizukami, engaged in a perilous rescue, single-handedly saving all the passengers from a disaster. Observing the live feed, a man holding a tablet expresses his disbelief, questioning if it is truly the person they suspect and acknowledging that the poor image quality could lead to a mistake. However, a woman seated nearby, biting her fingernail in contemplation, asserts with certainty that it is indeed him. She recognizes his face, his movements, and most importantly, vividly recalls his unique aura. Another man at the table, his face filled with frustration and disbelief, slams his fist down. He questions how the man could still be alive, having been presumed dead on the battlefield, and demands to know how he managed to return. Amidst the growing tension, a serious-looking woman reminds the group that this is no time for panic. stating their current gathering is precisely to discuss future countermeasures regarding this unexpected development. A calm man sitting opposite her adds that reporting this situation to Kay would be pointless, concluding that they must handle it themselves. Suddenly, the serious woman turns her attention to a man in a white suit who is standing apart and making a phone call. She sternly questions why he is on the phone at such a critical moment. Someone on the other end of a call informs Yugo that an associate has been sent to Maeda Kisuk's residence, as his son apparently got into trouble with some thugs. Yugo Mizukami, the 7-Star Society executive of the Australian Zero Group, smirks confidently, pondering aloud when the 7-Star Society began tidying up after mere children. He quickly refocuses, shifting the conversation to the main topic: what their opponent will do next. A news report flashes across a screen, detailing an incident where a citizen hero emerged, saving 18 lives before disappearing, an action that is currently attracting significant attention. A man with dark hair, the strategist, admits he has no idea what will do next, but muses that given his personality, he could storm the 7-Star Society headquarters at any moment. However, a woman with blonde hair, Minami, interjects, asserting that is not merely a reckless fool. She believes is likely seeking strong, even crazy, allies to counter them, her concern evident as she bites her lip until it bleeds. Later, on a bright day, a figure stands before a house, ringing the doorbell. From inside, Yosuke tentatively responds, and the door creaks open as he peers out. Oi Miara confronts Yugo Mizukami, exclaiming that they finally meet. Yugo, with a slight smirk, asks how she managed to find his location. Oi explains that she had tried many times before, but he was always away. Yugo then directly asks her purpose for being there. Oi quickly raises her hands, stating she is not interested if it is for an interview. She hastily clarifies that it is not that, admitting that as a reporter, she has said many things she did not mean, but this time, she genuinely wants to thank him. A moment of silence passes, with Yugo looking at her intently and Oi growing visibly flustered. She then abruptly demands to borrow his phone. Oi presses him, wanting to know why he helped her but disappeared without leaving any contact information. Yugo, however, points out that it is usually the other way around, prompting a confused, "Ha," from Oi. She then looks at her phone, explaining that her contacts are categorized into groups, specifically highlighting the group, "Whom I call." Oi ponders something while looking at her phone. Someone is meticulously categorizing contacts on a phone, distinguishing between those they receive calls from and those whose calls they must absolutely not pick up. Aoi Miyahara finds this categorization quite unusual. She understands the must not answer group, but questions the fundamental difference between the make a call and answer a call groups. Yugo Mizukami clarifies that the distinction lies in whether one makes the call personally or not, or if the individual is someone they need to proactively contact. This explanation leads Oi to deduce that these must be important people. Yugo, with a calm expression, then asks if those who merely answer calls are the opposite. Oi becomes flustered, worrying that her question might have been insensitive. Yugo reassures her that it is not, explaining that such a contact signifies someone she simply cannot refuse to answer. Comprehending, Oi asks if she should update her registration for this person. Yugo dismisses the idea, stating that it is fine, but adds that failing to answer a call from someone who went out of their way to visit could lead to significant trouble. Oi observes that when Yugo smiles, he appears to be a completely different person. Enthusiastically, she offers to treat him to coffee as a token of thanks for his help, insisting on paying. Yugo Mizukami and Oi Miyahara sit in a cafe, seemingly enjoying their time together. From a distance, the observer watches them, musing about what a great world they live in, and asking if others don't agree. He holds a newspaper with the headline, "Daily Japan Amidst Heavy Rain. A Citizen Rescued." The article details how reporter Kido, drenched in rain, leaped into a crashed bus, saving citizens, an act that brought surprise and inspiration. The observer dismisses this heroism, inwardly likening the scene before him to a thug bastard flirting with a girl at a cafe. As the cafe meeting concludes, the woman waves goodbye, promising to be in touch again. Later, sitting in a taxi, she reflects on her outing, acknowledging that she needed to thank him and had treated him to coffee. She recalls their conversation and even a walk, then pauses, questioning the nature of their encounter. A sudden realization hits her: wasn't this just like a date? The taxi driver, visibly annoyed, then complains about ending up with some weird customers and calls out to her. Feeling a strange presence for a while now, Yugo Mizukami narrows his eyes, directly questioning the unknown individuals before him. A smooth-talking man, accompanied by two others, quickly reassures Yugo that they are not suspicious. He introduces himself as Kizuki Hida, director of an investigative agency, by presenting his business card. Hida explains they received a report concerning an assault on students some time ago and politely requests Yugo's cooperation. Yugo, adopting an expression of grave concern, declares the incident terrible and readily agrees to assist, though a sinister, shadowed smile plays on his lips as he examines Hida's card. He reiterates the heinous nature of such a crime. Later, under the soft glow of a park lamppost, Haida elaborates that the victims reported being struck suddenly. He then provocatively suggests the students might have done something to provoke the attack. Furthermore, Haida accuses Yugo of manipulating the situation using his subordinates and resources to portray himself as the victim. The enforcer begins to speak, informing his captive Yugo Mizukami that there is both good and bad news regarding their situation. He then clarifies that the good news is their client has given instructions not to kill the perpetrator. The enforcer then pauses, delivering the ominous bad news to Yugo Mizukami as rain falls lightly around them in the dark park where several other suited men stand guard. Suddenly, the enforcer cocks his pistol, stating that Yugo's incessant talking has worn on his patience. He aims the gun directly at Yugo Mizukami, who looks up to ask a question. The enforcer, with a slight smirk, urges him to speak his mind. Yugo Mizukami's eyes narrow as he asks if the enforcer has already reported his capture to their client. A wide, predatory grin stretches across the enforcer's face as he replies that he has not and will not until he has killed Yugo. Yugo Mizukami simply replies, "Oh." His expression then shifts dramatically. His eyes begin to glow with a fierce, golden light, and a confident, almost unsettling smile replaces his previous vulnerability. Dark, ominous energy begins to surge around him as he declares, "Well, that's convenient." The enforcer's confident smirk vanishes, replaced by a look of pure terror as he stares at Yugo Mizukami, stammering, "This Gao." The enforcer aims his pistol, a cold glint in his eye, and fires a shot directly at Yugo Mizukami. But Yugo, displaying incredible agility, evades the bullet with ease, a blur of motion leaving the stunned enforcer vulnerable on the ground. Yugo's eyes glow with an intense golden light as he stands over his downed opponent. The enforcer reacts with a gasp of pure shock, his composure breaking as he curses, "Damn Itio!" His grip on the gun falters. Yugo moves swiftly, completely disarming him. "A furious UFK!" escapes the enforcer's lips as Yugo rips a piece of his attire or a device from him. With a decisive strike, Yugo sends the enforcer hurtling through the air. Two other henchmen, witnessing the brutal display, recoil in stunned silence. The enforcer, now injured and helpless, barely manages a disbelieving "Tetris!" as he lies on the ground. One of the henchmen draws a knife while the other yells, "Tes Bastard!" They prepare to attack, but Yugo Mizukami simply turns, his glowing eyes fixed on them, completely unfazed and ready for the next challenge. Yugo Mizukami moves with blinding speed, a knife flashing in his hand as he delivers devastating blows. One foe collapses, another coughs up blood, and a third drops their weapon as Yugo pierces them with his blade. He then throws a knife with incredible force, narrowly missing another opponent's ear as it embeds in the wall behind them. Yugo has brutally incapacitated everyone. As he looks upon the defeated, including the strategist who lies on the ground, Yugo proclaims that he has both good news and bad news for him. The good news, Yugo announces, is that he won't kill him. However, as Yugo picks up a discarded handgun and grins unsettlingly, he clarifies the bad news: he won't kill him, with an emphasis on the word. He aims the gun, his eyes glowing ominously, and challenges his opponent, asking what he will do now, before stating his intention to count to 3. Yugo Mizukami, his eyes glowing with an intense yellow, coldly demands an answer from the hostage, giving him a stark ultimatum: reply within a count of 3. The hostage, appearing injured and deeply distressed, remains silent as the chilling countdown begins, ticking down from 3, then 2, then 1. A pistol is then starkly pointed directly at him. After a tense pause, Yugo expresses his impatience, questioning why there is no response. He warns the hostage that any attempt to buy time will prove useless. With a menacing glare, Yugo continues to press, asking if the hostage's ears are clogged, and he simply didn't hear the demand. As Yugo's gaze intensifies, he sharply calls out to him. In a desperate final plea, the hostage manages to ask him to wait. A man lets out a pained scream as he is viciously attacked. His face is bloody and contorted in agony as a fierce assault continues. Nearby, the enforcer collapses to the ground, reeling from a blow. With a grimace, he ultimately concedes, vowing he will never show up in front of his attacker again. Yugo Mizukami stands over the enforcer, holding a pistol. He coolly informs the enforcer that he will receive the full payment for the job, with even more added. However, Yugo clarifies that his actions are not for the money. He then demands the enforcer's phone, explaining that it should contain the contact information of the person who requested the job. The enforcer reacts with alarm, pleading for anything but that and offering to double the money. Yugo dismisses his offer, stating that the enforcer still doesn't understand the situation, leaving the enforcer bewildered. Yugo's eyes narrow, and the enforcer realizes Yugo might already know who the client is. Yugo then reveals the client's identity: the 7-Star Society. The enforcer is utterly shocked, asking if Yugo knew this all along and still pursued the mission. Yugo calmly responds by asking if that makes a difference. The enforcer, his expression strained with anxiety, warns Ken Yanagimoto that the 7-Star Society is not an entity he can hope to handle alone. To cross them, he insists, is to incur the wrath of the entire state. He elaborates on their vast influence, revealing their control over politics and media, and their command of enormous wealth, symbolized by towering buildings, heaps of gold, and stacks of currency. He gravely states that even the president is a mere pawn in their game, emphasizing that no one can stand against the formidable seven. The enforcer specifically cautions Ken against harming Yugo Mizukami, asserting that such an act would not only prevent any chance of revenge, but would force Ken to flee overseas and hide, or face grave danger to his life. With a sinister smile and beads of sweat on his face, the enforcer offers to introduce Ken to a skilled doctor who could help him change his face, extending a phone as a solution. However, Ken, looking utterly unconcerned and even annoyed as someone gently tugs his ear, yawns dismissively. He acknowledges the advice but clarifies that this situation is neither a deal nor a collaboration. Crouching down with a gun in hand, Ken delivers his ultimatum. The enforcer has only one choice: to hand over his phone. With an intense, cold gaze, Ken sarcastically questions if the enforcer's ears are also clogged, hinting at his impatience. Yugo Mizukami presses a gun to the enforcer's head, mockingly observing that his ears appear clogged. He then shifts the weapon, aiming it directly at the enforcer's eye, questioning if something obstructs his vision. With a sinister smile and predatory teeth bared, he provocatively asks what the enforcer intends to do, offering to clean it up for him. The scene then plunges into darkness, implying the gravity of the threat. Subsequently, the enforcer, accompanied by two subordinates, flees desperately, their rag breathing heavy as they run through the night. As the enforcer continues his frantic escape, he can't help but wonder about the identity of the formidable individual they just encountered, realizing he barely made it out alive. Finally, collapsing on the ground with his subordinates, the enforcer understands the true extent of their plight. The aggressor stole all their crucial information. Kronos appears deeply distressed, sweat beading on his forehead as he grapples with a grave situation, fearing the consequences if it were to become public. The enforcer, sporting a bloody wound on his cheek, asks what their next move should be. The enforcer suggests they tell the truth, but Kronos sharply rebukes him, asking if he has a death wish. Kronos then considers that even if they report the incident, they have no tangible evidence to support their claims. He devises a plan, noting that this area is known as a hub for detective agencies, and conflicts and ambushes are common occurrences. Kronos instructs the enforcer to claim they were ambushed by an unknown group, pointing to the enforcer's visible wound as irrefutable evidence. The enforcer questions if those responsible for the ambush would cover for them, to which Kronos unequivocally states they would not. When the enforcer then asks how they should proceed, Kronos' eyes glow with a chilling resolve as he declares they will eliminate everyone involved, ensuring no one is left to testify against them. He muses that this world operates on the principle of survival of the fittest, where the weak are oppressed and only the strong possess rights. Meanwhile, Yugo Mizukami stands looking contemplative, holding his phone, seemingly reflecting on these harsh realities. Ken Yanagimoto approaches the 7th examination room with a contemplative expression. Inside, the doctor, scrutinizing Ken, questions him about any chronic illnesses, remarking that he moves surprisingly well for someone with such a body. Ken acknowledges having been sick in high school, asking if his condition is truly that bad. The doctor observes Ken's physique, stating that he appears to be in his 60s or even his 70s. Ken admits he is often told he looks like an old man, then directly asks if fighting is out of the question. The doctor, looking distressed, unequivocally declares that it is no good. He warns that if Ken were to punch someone, it wouldn't be their face that breaks, but his own fist. The doctor then astutely observes that Ken will not stop fighting, regardless of the medical advice. Internally, Ken notes that the detective Kisuk is quite useful. The doctor continues with his diagnosis, revealing severe emphysema in Ken's left lung and a suspicion of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. He further adds that Ken's memory is also significantly impaired. Ken, reflecting on his situation, realizes he has been haphazardly gathering trivial information. He acknowledges that the shedding process is now in its final stage, making it the perfect opportunity to deceive those around him. Clarifies that shedding is a process where an ability user's entire cells are replaced before reaching the 3rd stage or beyond. With a determined look, Ken understands that this is precisely why he came to a hospital affiliated with the Seven. The strategist reveals that all that is left is for their adversaries to fall into the trap, having successfully taken over Star Society's control. Later, a suited man strides down a dark street, briefcase in hand, before entering a brightly lit room. He calls out, asking about the others, as it is time for the meeting. Inside a dimly lit room, 2 figures await at a large table. Hayato Kimura, holding a phone, reports that Yugo Mizukami won't be attending due to an unexpected issue. A distressed woman, sitting alone, adds that Saki's trauma has worsened, preventing her from making it. Another man in a suit explains that Kazuki has gone to report to Kei. The red-haired woman at the table, looking annoyed, remarks that the situation feels like a college group project meeting. With a sinister smile, she dismisses the entire affair as too much fuss over a single thug. The associate, his features partially obscured by shadow, initiates a conversation, revealing a matter concerning Ken Yanagimoto. He then presents a folded document, stating that it contains the results of Ken's recent health checkup. Masami Ahara, upon reviewing the papers, reacts with a questioning expression, wondering about their contents. The associate clarifies that Ken is far from being a critical patient, attributing his injuries to a past battlefield incident and a bus accident. He then affirms Masami Ahara's earlier sentiment, declaring that the time is opportune to act. However, the associate identifies Ken's current location as a hurdle. This obstacle is quickly resolved as his unseen counterpart confirms that Ken has applied to return to university. Masami Ahara, a sly smile gracing her lips, remarks that Ken's motive seems to be group projects there, and then probes further, asking if their organization, the Seven Star Society, holds sway within that university. Her demeanor shifts to one of cold malice as she observes that it is a dangerous world, where a confrontation at a university could easily turn fatal. Following a glimpse of an array of liquor bottles, Masami Ahara lets out a disingenuous gasp. With a final chilling grin and an ominous aura, she playfully suggests the possibility of Ken being an agent from a dubious organization, only to swiftly dismiss it as a jest. Kanzaki Tomo, identified as the Prime Minister's chief secretary and daughter of a member of parliament, cunningly questions how they can leave a dangerous element unattended, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. Asushiyano Koji, the security committee clerk and son of the chief of staff, confidently asserts that as a member of the security committee, he will find a way to handle the situation. However, he then considers that if a murder were to occur at a prestigious university, it would be exceptionally difficult to cover up. Instead, he proposes that in such a case, they should strategically use it to write an article, one completely devoid of falsehoods, a chilling smile on his face. Kanzaki Tomo agrees, stating that this would be the narrative after the individual's death. The observer, looking concerned, asks if they can truly manage the situation with just their existing connections. Kanzaki Tomo, her smile broadening, reminds him that the Seven Star Society also has capable users and suggests they arrange for them to begin their university life starting the very next day. Minami's phone vibrates and rings, its screen displaying an incoming call from someone named Hermes. She reaches for the device, her eyes wide with a mix of surprise and apprehension, and brings the phone to her ear. A cheerful, digitized voice then addresses her, stating, "Hey there, darling." The voice continues, asking, "Did you miss me?" The informant answers the call, a sly smile gracing his lips as he sarcastically remarks that it is an honor to be called by the hero himself. On the other end, Yugo Mizukami, serious and direct, cuts to the chase, demanding an immediate update on Mei's case and dismissing any small talk. The informant playfully laments Yugo's cold demeanor regarding the ongoing situation, explaining that the case will take a bit more time. However, a mischievous glint in his eye, the informant quickly promises some juicy information. Instead, surrounded by glowing digital effects, a notification flashes pointing to Aki Kuniyama as a source of crucial clues. Meanwhile, a message addressed to Ken instructs him to reply by mail if direct contact is impossible, along with a contact number. The sender of the information then states they will transmit the location via message. Ken Yanagimoto, looking concerned while on a call, questions if Aki has been drawn into their predicament after all, and anxiously asks if she is safe. The mysterious informant Kaido contemplates how to best explain the situation, a thoughtful expression on his face as streaks of energy flicker around him. He explains that Aki is within the country, yet reaching her will be more challenging than traveling abroad. Kaido elaborates that while her location is nearby, it is an extremely difficult place to find. He suggests that though it is normally tough to even approach the area, Ken Yanagimoto might find it surprisingly easy to meet her. Kaido concludes by remarking that most people have no reason to be there, but Ken Yanagimoto certainly does, leaving his words hanging in the air as he stands enveloped in a digital glow. Yugo Mizukami, looking troubled, questions his caller, asking what they are ultimately trying to communicate. The caller, revealed to be a smirking young man with headphones, responds with a mocking laugh, clarifying that, to put it simply, someone Yugo cares about has been captured by the Seven Star Society. Yugo's eyes widen, and he internally questions the mention of the Seven Star Society. The caller confirms his statement, taunting Yugo to keep running desperately towards his death and to run until he is out of breath. Meanwhile, Yugo Mizukami is seen running frantically through a modern cityscape, a desperate chase unfolding as an unseen observer notes that they have lost track of the thug. From a high-rise office overlooking a city ablaze with lights, a man on the phone reports to his contact, stating that they were ambushed by another office. His caller apparently asks for more people, to which the man, whom we will call the manipulator, responds that they are short on staff themselves, so much so that he'd rather recruit the caller's excellent guards. His tone then turns sinister as he suggests that if his contact, Maeda Yoshinori, were to die in an unfortunate accident, they wouldn't need guards anymore. The call with Maeda Yoshinori then ends, and the manipulator scowls, declaring his hatred for those who don't know their place. He finds the thought of the escaped goods unsettling, as a shadowy figure is seen running in the distance. Furthermore, he's frustrated by the appearance of individuals he believed were dead, holds a gun. Back in his office, the manipulator continues to lament, stating that these individuals should have remained quiet, but instead constantly interfere. In a cruel display of his irritation, he pours a bottle of liquor over the head of a distressed woman seated on a couch, expressing his exasperation that those who could resolve the situation are completely useless. The enforcer, amidst a dark, blood-splattered background, coldly questions whether he should cut the tongues of their prisoners. He then asserts that as long as they retain their eyes and fingers, they can still transmit messages. Suddenly, an associate interrupts their grim discussion, apologizing as he informs the enforcer that the Seven-Star Society has made contact, wishing to discuss matters concerning Ken Yanagimoto. The enforcer, while pouring a drink, instructs his subordinate to tell them he will arrive shortly. He then directs his attention back to Eriko, ordering his men to keep a close watch on her and transport her to an alternate location. Meanwhile, on a grimy, rain-slicked street, a black car waits as several suited men stand guard. The observer watches the scene unfold from a slight distance. The enforcer, now smoking a cigarette, voices his irritation, referring to Eriko as a troublesome woman. He expresses that if she had simply performed her role as a decoy, he would not have treated her so poorly. As the men prepare to move Eriko, one of them spots an approaching figure and sharply asks what they are doing. Eriko looks up in shock, recognizing the newcomer and gasping, Ken-kun? The enforcer, surprised by the interruption, glares at the unknown man and demands to know his identity. Ken Yanagimoto defiantly asks who his opponent believes him to be, before casually dismissing himself as just a passing thug. Another man, with long hair and a cigarette, scoffs and laughs, mockingly asking if Ken is a drunkard. He warns Ken to get lost if he does not wish to die, but before he can finish his threat, Ken swiftly attacks, sending him and his companions flying back from the impact. Amidst the chaos, Ken remains standing, his body radiating power. The long-haired man, now injured and with blood staining his face, appears impressed, repeating the word drunkard and declaring that he likes this setup. He then commands his men to drink until they all collapse, urging them to get dead drunk and cause trouble. His two companions look on with bewildered expressions, uttering short, surprised sounds. The first attacker, enraged, screams at Ken Yanagimoto. Ken calmly replies that he is addressing the current situation. Still furious, the first attacker demands to know Ken's assessment, but suddenly, he is violently propelled backward, his body slamming into a nearby car as blood splatters across the scene. An observer carefully approaches from behind the damaged car, his expression one of concern. Meanwhile, a man with reddish-brown hair, henceforth referred to as Kenji, lies injured on the ground. He weakly calls out as Ken stands over him, a bloodied weapon in hand. Ken holds Kenji's head firmly, his expression chilling as he remarks that the situation is far from good. He admonishes Kenji, reminding him that even if intoxicated, hitting his comrades in such a manner is unacceptable. With brutal force, Ken slams Kenji's head onto the asphalt, causing a violent spray of blood. He continues criticizing Kenji's bad drinking habit, which led to him ramming his head into a car. Ken then points out the expense of the car, his hand still pressing Kenji's head against the vehicle's bloodied surface. As Kenji lies still and bleeding, Ken, with a cold, determined gaze, simply affirms his statement. A man in a dark suit firmly advises a bleeding, incapacitated figure that when drunk, it is best to simply sleep quietly. Suddenly, a woman's voice calls out, Ken-kun. Ken Yanagimoto looks up, his expression a mix of surprise and slight alarm. Chio Yanagimoto appears, her face etched with exhaustion and worry, questioning why he is so late. Ken takes her hand, apologizing and admitting it is all his fault. Chio reveals that she had escaped to a neighboring country in the north, prompting a startled, "What?" from Ken. She adds that she overheard Yugo Mizukami discussing it. Elsewhere, an unnamed enforcer on a phone call expresses concern, stating that if she escaped to the northern neighbor, it would be troublesome. He adds that Sam would not let it slide. He slams his fist in frustration, cursing that this happens just when they had taken care of her parents, growling that the brat only causes more trouble. A cold-faced Masami Ahara then laments that if they had simply made an excuse and held her for another day, Yanagimoto's goods would now be in their hands. Back with Ken, a grim realization dawns upon him. It was the Seven-Star Society that was responsible for the death of his father and mother. Ken Yanagimoto urges Aki Kuniyama to seek safety, but she steadfastly refuses, her expression etched with worry. Aki reveals the dire situation: her mother is being held hostage, forcibly admitted to a hospital under the control of the nefarious Seven-Star Society. Understanding the gravity of her words, Ken takes Aki's hand, offering a solemn promise. He vows that one day he will rescue both her and her mother. Aki manages a reassuring smile, explaining that her association with the Seven-Star Society, ironically, provides a measure of protection from other organizations. She then turns her concern towards Ken, observing how much he has matured since the days he and Mei played innocently together. Ken brushes off her sentiments, refocusing on their immediate next steps. He declares that he has crucial investigations to conduct and people to meet, and to accomplish this, he will re-enroll in university, indicating a strategic move to infiltrate or gather information. As he makes this decision, a new, imposing group of individuals is seen, with one prominent figure dressed in traditional attire, hinting at the powerful forces at play. Crypt observing a report, Kazuki muses that his target is heavily wounded and surely not in top condition. Holding the papers, he contemplates whether to seize this opportunity presented by the target's weakened state, a cunning smile forming on his face. He decides he will deal with Yanagimoto Ken before he recovers, emphasizing that they will use a loophole in the law. A title card identifies him as Kondo Kazuki, chief of the intelligence department. Another individual asks what kind of person Kazuki plans to assign to the task. Kazuki replies that he will send 2 individuals who are at the second stage. The observer, with a distinct smile, then inquires if there is any possibility of these people being awakened. Kazuki admits it is not impossible. The observer acknowledges this, stating it is not something big, but ultimately finds it a bit disappointing. Ken Yanagimoto sits thoughtfully in the passenger seat of a car. Outside, the sun shines brightly over a modern building. Suddenly, an astonished Yosuke exclaims, questioning if Ken is truly alive, calling him a bastard. Ken, looking indifferent, remarks that Yosuke's loud voice has dispelled any nostalgic feelings he might have had. Yosuke demands to know where Ken has been for the past 5 years, noting that Ken's personality remains unchanged. Ken calmly explains that he went abroad to study and met several people. Yosuke then presses him, asking if he's not engaging in any dirty activities again, specifically referencing extortion, which brings to mind an unsettling past incident where Yosuke himself menacingly pointed a gun at Ken. Ken clarifies that he was not involved in those particular dirty activities, prompting Yosuke to tell him to stop playing with words. Changing the subject, Ken asks who the approaching group of people are. Ken then explains that they are from Paradise, a group originating from a country in the north. Observer 1 questions the presence of sharply dressed men in what appears to be a university setting, wondering if they are merely cosplaying as mafia members. Observer 2 dismisses the idea, stating that the reality is far more complex than a mere cosplay. He explains that Japan's situation in international affairs has become intricate due to a new energy source called energy pack, which is replacing oil. This energy can also be used to push a human body beyond its limits, creating individuals known as awakeners. Japan, as the developer of this new energy, is now seeing a surge in awakeners, leading underworld organizations to make their moves. Observer 2 reveals that the individuals posing as cultural exchange participants are, in reality, spies. Observer 1, with a serious expression, disputes this, reiterating that these individuals are no different from actual mafias. The narrative then highlights the origins of various groups. Paradise from the northern country, Pure Stream from the eastern country, and Hanrang from Japan. The narrative begins by explaining the arbitrary rule of dueling as a means to resolve complaints, indicating that if one has grievances, they must fight. This system exists despite the student's self-governing committee, which should hold arbitrator authority, having essentially lost all its power. A student, the annoyed passerby, expresses his disdain for such a waste of time when another individual, the confrontational student, calls out to him. The confrontational student then tells the annoyed passerby that he is in the way. Suddenly, the green-eyed enforcer appears, curtly telling the annoyed passerby to get lost. As the story continues into Winning God's Birth, the confrontational student attempts to explain why the annoyed passerby cannot pass through. Before he can finish, a smirking individual, the smirking student, interjects, sarcastically asking if it is because the annoyed passerby's body is too big. The green-eyed enforcer, having never seen the smirking student's face before, perceives his words as a sign of disrespect towards Hanrang. He furiously demands to know if they do not teach the smirking student in Paradise to keep his mouth shut, before unleashing a powerful punch that connects squarely with the smirking student's face, sending him sprawling. Ken Yanagimoto, held firmly on the ground, defiantly states that he knows the situation. A dark narration reveals a warning he received. They told him not to meddle in kids' play as an adult. A close-up of his intense, red-eyed gaze underscores his resolve. Suddenly, an authoritative voice interjects, declaring, "That's enough." A small group surrounds Ken, who remains pinned. Chio Yanagimoto, observing the scene, questions whether Hanrang is planning to tip the balance. Meanwhile, a narration introduces Jong Kyuxia from Paradise. The strategist looks on as Ken despite his predicament, remarks that his opponent does not seem to care about himself. Confused, the strategist touches his chin, wondering what is wrong with Ken and if he knows him. With a dismissive expression, the strategist then asserts that Ken is nothing, capable only of watching while being consumed. The narration echoes this harsh judgment, declaring Ken to be, basically, trash. Chiho Yanagimoto stands beside the strategist, her expression serious, as the soft sound of a tap reverberates. The man with dark hair casually observes the dire circumstances, noting how such a university has been treated so poorly. Suddenly, a concerned student rushes forward, urgently asking if their sensei is alright. The brown-haired man, who is the president of the students' self-governing committee, Tachibana Ori, apologizes profusely, expressing regret for his tardiness and looking deeply ashamed. Ken reassures Tachibana Ori that no one is hurt, telling him there is no need to worry. Tachibana Ori then expresses his embarrassment at being seen in such a state, acknowledging the committee's current predicament. He explains that the organization has become nothing more than a name, devoid of any purpose. With a hopeful and earnest expression, Tachibana Ori bows deeply, asking Ken to look after them, addressing him as Counselor Yanagimoto Senpai. Ken begins to respond, promising to do his best, but then pauses in confusion. Tachibana Ori then questions if Sawayama-sensei had not explained the situation to him. As Tachibana speaks, Ken's form begins to shift, enveloped in a shadowy, fiery aura, hinting at the immense power simmering beneath his calm exterior. Ken Yanagimoto, deep in thought, recalls how he was told an amazing person would be brought in as a counselor. Yugo Mizukami smirks, noting that Ken has already figured things out. Ken confronts Yugo with an angry glare, accusing him of deceit. Yugo challenges Ken, questioning if his group is truly different from other gangs and if they can maintain their humility even after gaining authority. A nervous Ken assures Yugo that they would certainly change. Yugo pauses, then turns his back, stating that he has nothing more to do with Ken. Panicked, Ken calls out, promising that he will definitely change. His expression then hardens as he asserts that once they regain their authority, no matter what, they will make the rotten school into something to be proud of, even if it means using their counselor as a mere stepping stone. Yugo looks back at Ken with a slight smirk. Kato observes Tachibana Ori with a slight smirk, noting that Tachibana possesses quite a lot of charisma. Tachibana Ori, appearing as a cheerful chibi figure, raises his drink enthusiastically, proclaiming that the most important quality for a president is, after all, alcohol tolerance. Kaito agrees with this sentiment. Tachibana Ori then shyly approaches Kaito, asking if he might pose a question. With a hint of nervousness, Tachibana Ori inquires about Kaito's rumored closeness, with Kei-sensei attempting to ask how they met. Kaito remains silent, a thoughtful expression on his face as he holds his drink. Later, Tachibana Ori is seen sprawled on the ground amidst blood spatters, clearly incapacitated, as he dazedly mentions that scary Kei-sensei. Kei stands over him, his expression stern, as Tachibana Ori lies on the blood-stained pavement. Ken Yanagimoto, bruised and on the ground, manages to ask his assailant how he met the scary Kei-sensei. Kei stands over him, observing the beaten Ken and the blood-stained floor. He asserts that Ken was always so proud of bullying the weak, a boast that now rings hollow as Ken lies defeated among other fallen figures. Kei reflects on the encounter, stating that being close to individuals like them feels like trash, his expression hardening with resolve. As Kei turns away, Ken, struggling to move, attempts to speak, suggesting that his opponent possesses a similar trait, though he cannot finish his sentence. The white-haired figure explains that the symptom Ken is currently experiencing is identical to one he himself endured, describing it as a sensation of the body and soul being torn apart. He refers to this painful transformation as molting. The figure declares that since he has witnessed Ken's state, he can no longer simply overlook it. He vows to protect Ken until the molting process is complete, ensuring no one can interfere. However, he warns that once the process is finished, Ken will be on his own. Ken, now seen sitting at a desk, contemplates his feelings, wondering if this sensation is akin to nostalgia. He quickly dismisses the thought, concluding that it is not the same. Instead, he perceives it as an excitement for something entirely new, as he holds a medical report bearing the name Yanagimoto Ken. Kei observes that another individual had undergone the same molting process as him and has already healed from a past incident. He finds it peculiar that this person was completely fine at the time and speculates if they have perhaps already reached the next stage of development. Later, Kei sits at a desk covered in numerous documents, contemplating various factions such as the Awakeners of Paradise and Harang, along with the ones from the Seven-Star Society. He muses that while his expectations are low, the situation is becoming interesting, suggesting he might soon acquire a guinea pig for his experiments or observations. The scene then shifts to an outdoor setting on a sunny day, where a person calls out to Ken Yanagimoto, expressing surprise that he appears to have no hangover. Asushi Ayano Koji watches as Kazuki, overwhelmed, thinks to himself that he is just too weak. Asushi expresses his disbelief that Kazuki would accept the role of counselor for the students' committee. Kazuki, composing himself, retorts that it is ironic to hear such words from Asushi, suggesting that Asushi also desires a stable place and dislikes seeing his friends pushed into a corner. With a slight smirk, Kazuki declares he is glad, clarifying that he accepted the position not for the lodgings but because he sensed someone's true feelings. Meanwhile, Kenzaki Tomo reveals her innate ability to discern when someone is lying. She then remarks on her preference for individuals who are genuine and do not pretend to be someone they are not. Kazuki, still holding his beverage, concludes that such authentic people are a rarity in the current era. Oe Miara walks along, her thoughts suddenly interrupted as she gasps in surprise, noticing something ahead. Meanwhile, another individual exclaims, addressing Chio Yanagimoto and noting how unexpected it is for someone like her to appear before them. Yugo Mizukami, mid-sip from his water bottle, reacts with such shock that he sprays water everywhere. Chio Yanagimoto, her honesty evident, cheerfully declares it a coincidence and waves hello as Yugo Mizukami looks on, utterly dumbfounded. Sporting a kind smile, Yugo Mizukami tells Chio Yanagimoto that he thought it would be nice for her to find a place where she feels at home, though his internal chibi self laments that he is merely playing with her feelings. Oe Mihara then confronts Yugo Mizukami, asking what he is doing in this area. A chibi Yugo Mizukami privately wonders if she perhaps doesn't believe he's a student. Suddenly, a stern individual Kaido in a blue long-sleeved shirt grabs Yugo Mizukami by the collar, while a chibi Yugo Mizukami frets internally, realizing this bastard is already making himself at home. Kaido expresses his doubt, stating that Yugo Mizukami sometimes makes him wonder if he's not actually a nice person. Turning to Aoi Mihara, Kaido then asks what she is doing there, addressing her as Mihara-san. Meanwhile, a chibi Yugo Mizukami desperately wishes for his worries to be returned. Oe Miyahara explains that she came to interview a student, having heard about the many organizations rising in power inside the campus. She continues, explaining that because this university is the top in the country, it naturally attracts many external influences, with various student groups visible across the campus. Oe Miyahara clarifies her mission, stating she came to understand the severity of the situation. However, her expression turns dejected as she reveals that no one wants to be interviewed. Yugo Mizukami watches her, expressing a quiet no of concern. Yugo Mizukami casually remarks that he is surprised she is still alive. Oe Miyahara's internal monologue reveals her distress. She doesn't know what to do and fears her team leader's wrath if she returns to the office empty-handed. She stands clearly worried, contemplating her next move. Aoi Miyahara wonders if she should offer a bit of help, though she immediately expresses doubt, questioning if it's truly alright since she hasn't even managed to interview a single student yet. Professor Han, gesturing towards a disgruntled chibi-fied Professor Lee, reveals that despite his casual appearance, Professor Lee is one of the university's professors. Oe Miyahara acknowledges that she's aware of him as Professor Lee looks away in exasperation. The scene shifts to a bright university campus under a clear sky. Oe Miyahara processes the information, murmuring that she understands. Professor Han then explains that, as expected, the situation isn't merely a cultural exchange, the factions are backed by stronger organizations. However, he notes there is an exception. He introduces a faction called Fluorescenti, depicting a serene woman with long green hair amidst lush greenery. He clarifies that they haven't caused any problems and don't appear to be backed by anyone. Despite not being a strong faction, they are strangely quite famous. Professor Han concludes his report, stating that's as far as his knowledge goes. He advises Oe Miyahara not to interview the other factions, a warning that leaves Oe Miyahara feeling dejected, as she had even received permission from the university, questioning if she is being overly cautious. Aoi Miyahara questions if her actions are being perceived as tactless, quickly denying this thought to herself as Kaido stands nearby observing her. Kaido explains to Oe Miyahara that he believes she is being overlooked because she is seen as an outsider, as the two stand in what appears to be a busy university setting. Oe Miyahara expresses confusion, stating she doesn't understand what Kaido is talking about. Kaido then announces he still has work to do and excuses himself, turning to leave. Kaido stands beside Aoi Miyahara, offering her a drink in a disposable cup, while an assistant manager observes from behind. Oe Miyahara gratefully accepts, thanking Kaido for the information he provided. As Kaido walks away, the assistant manager gives him a discreet thumbs up, praising his good job. Kaido acknowledges the compliment with a subtle expression. Aoi Miyahara ponders if Kaido is genuinely a kind person, covering her mouth thoughtfully before quietly concluding that, maybe, he is. Kaido stands close by, his gaze steady. Kaido then asks Oe Miyahara about her next move. Clutching her bag, she deliberates for a moment before deciding to persist and try a little bit more. Kaido grants Oe Miyahara permission to explore the campus. However, his expression suddenly turns serious as he firmly instructs her to never leave my side. Oe Miyahara blushes deeply, taken aback by his possessive words. Flustered and surprised, Oe Miyahara gasps, "Why? Yes!" Her thoughts race, wondering if Kaido's statement implies they are now having a campus date. Overwhelmed with excitement, Aoi Miyahara joyfully runs ahead, playfully challenging Kaido, "Please, try to catch me if you can." Kaido laughs heartily as he chases after her, declaring with a smile, "Ahaha, you're dead once I catch you." They enjoy a spirited chase amidst a beautifully landscaped campus. The scene shifts to a different, more somber setting. A dark-haired man, Chairman Lee, casts a shadowed glance downwards, demanding to know the whereabouts of that reporter bastard. Mentioning he heard, they're sniffing their nose around. Chairman Lee continues his inquiry, speculating if the reporter might be someone who would endorse the students' committee. Ken Yanagimoto, holding a terrified woman close for protection, states that this woman is an outsider, and since she's from outside, she's essentially a pest. The white-haired elder then delivers a devastating punch to the ground, shattering the earth beneath him as the woman screams in terror. Ken Yanagimoto internally acknowledges that the disciplinary code is in chaos, yet he, as a member of the students' committee, is expected to simply observe, just as usual. The white-haired elder, with a menacing smirk, then confronts Ken Yanagimoto, asking if he intends to resist against the paradise. Ken Yanagimoto responds by asking why he should resist, prompting the elder to scoff and retort that he should have said so from the beginning. The elder then mockingly tells Ken Yanagimoto to stop acting strong, but Ken Yanagimoto sharply defines resistance as the struggle to not have one's rights stolen. Ken Yanagimoto assures the unseen party that he will not take something away from them, as a frightened woman stands behind him. Old Man Kang, clearly annoyed by Ken's words, challenges him, questioning what he just said. Ignoring the interruption, Ken Yanagimoto confidently declares, on behalf of the committee, that he is initiating a duel against an entity known as Teach Paradesi. With a smirk, Ken dares them to resist as best as they possibly can, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous resolve. Elsewhere, Aaron, a younger man, is seen walking while meticulously reviewing notes in his notebook. He has written down the name Yanagimoto Ken, noting that he is Sawayama Sensei's friend. Aaron ponders if Yanagimoto Ken is suddenly becoming a counselor, and questions if he might be a henchman of Hwarang, observing that his scores are not good. Despite this, Aaron's notes also suggest that Yanagimoto Ken seems to be a reliable man. Internally, Aaron doubts his own assessment, wondering if Yanagimoto Ken is truly reliable. He concludes that he cannot draw a definitive conclusion yet and decides to wait and observe the situation further, looking thoughtful as he holds his pen to his chin. A figure, later identified as Irie, urgently calls out, exclaiming to Kai that they have a problem. Ori is visibly shaken as he reveals the shocking news: the new counselor is challenging the paradise for a duel. Ori's expression is a mix of disbelief and concern as he questions what was just said. Below, two figures stand in a vast open space, surrounded by a multitude of onlookers, poised for the impending duel. Among the crowd, a brown-haired woman observes the scene with a serious expression. Meanwhile, the white-haired duelist, Akira, powerfully brings down a wooden staff, then lifts it high as he demands to know his opponent's terms. Kai, the new counselor with an eye patch, responds thoughtfully, pondering the question. Akira then declares his demand: if he wins, the paradise will be disbanded. Akira's face twists in fury, asserting that there is a limit to such mockery, yet Kai insists he is not messing around. An unidentified opponent scoffs at the prospect of Yanagimoto Ken joining the committee, questioning his suitability. Yanagimoto Ken, however, maintains his unwavering resolve, internally confirming his intention to secure victory. Suddenly, the committee president, a concerned student, desperately calls for a halt to the proceedings, explaining that Yanagimoto Ken only just entered the university yesterday and is therefore completely unaware of the duel's rules. Amidst the commotion, a woman with dark hair and a confident smirk, Eunice, interjects, sarcastically asking the committee president if any knowledge about a duel is truly necessary. She then asserts that the committee itself appears uncultured due to such an inquiry. The committee president falls into a state of panic, realizing the dire implications if this situation is allowed to continue. Not only the committee but the entire campus will face severe repercussions. He questions if the fault lies with him and grapples with the thought of using his authority as committee president. He contemplates relinquishing Yanagimoto Ken's position as counselor, hoping that such a drastic measure might at least preserve the committee's image. Amidst the escalating tension, Yanagimoto Ken stands unfazed, his calm and collected demeanor betraying no concern. Ori moves closer to Kai, asking if he didn't want everything to return to normal. Kai appears startled and apprehensive. Ori then asserts that Kai knows he cannot achieve everything alone. Looking down, Kai somberly acknowledges that he understands this more than anyone else. With a satisfied smirk, Ori simply replies, "Good." Suddenly, Aaron, a man in a dark suit, rushes towards Kai, calling out his name with concern and asking if he is all right. One of Aaron's subordinates immediately interjects, blaming Kai for acting foolishly and suggesting they strip him of his position right away. The subordinate insists that if they allow Kai to continue, Aaron himself would be dragged down. Aaron, however, looks at Kai with a serious expression, concluding that if that were the case, then their current situation is pointless. He firmly tells Kai that he must at least prioritize saving his own life, reminding him that this is what he has been doing all along. Aaron then turns to another subordinate, beginning to explain that in order to achieve something impossible, normally, a young man, Kaido, confidently states that they must bet on something out of the ordinary. However, Kaido expresses concern, remarking that Yanagimoto Ken is quite a rough person. Despite this, Yanagimoto Ken, looking contemplative, decides they should trust him for once. Appears, Yanagimoto Ken playfully apologizes, asking what they were just discussing. He then recalls that they were talking about a wish, wondering if it was something someone wanted to eat. An enraged Master Gao, clutching a wooden staff, angrily interjects, demanding the same thing. Master Go then shatters his wooden staff with sheer force and declares that the entire committee should be dismissed. Suddenly, Akira, with a maniacal grin and wide eyes, fiercely commands someone to beat him up thoroughly. Her expression quickly shifts as she is violently struck, her words cut off as she exclaims, "Because of you, the committee will be..." Master Go declares with fierce intensity that everything is finished starting from today as he delivers a powerful blow with his staff. Kai, caught off guard, lets out a surprised you, before Master Go, enraged, shouts back, "You bastard!" as he continues his relentless assault. Kai's expression tightens as he processes the situation. He deduces that the Seven-Star Society is not backing up the Paradise, speculating that if they were involved, they would have demanded something related to him. He then wonders if Waring is perhaps behind this. Observing the gathered onlookers, Kai notes that even if his suspicions are correct, they do not appear interested in interfering in this duel, allowing the fight between him and Master Go to continue with full force as the crowd watches. From the sidelines, onlookers observe the unfolding battle, noting that Ori has been continuously dodging without a single counterattack. They comment that his actions fail to live up to his earlier bravado. Ori, meanwhile, internally questions how much longer he must maintain this defensive stance. Master Go, growing increasingly frustrated by Ori's evasiveness, violently swings his staff and bellows at him to cease his constant dodging and running. Ori, finding the incessant attacks somewhat irritating, then blocks Master Go's forceful staff strike with his arm. With a swift movement, he decides it is time to deal with the nuisance. Declaring that he still needs to clear out some of the trash, Ori lands a devastating punch, sending Master Go flying backward, crashing onto the ground. Calmly, Ori picks up Master Go's fallen staff, stating that he is borrowing it. The onlookers are stunned, one gapes in disbelief, repeating, "No way, impossible." Another observer, reeling from the sudden turn of events, questions how Ori could stand against Paradise, especially after defeating Master Go with only a single punch. They wonder what just transpired, and amidst the shocked crowd, someone whispers if it must simply be a coincidence. Jinwoo observes a somewhat distorted circle drawn on the ground with a stick, pondering its imperfection. Unbeknownst to him, a gang member lunges from behind, reaching out menacingly. With a swift motion, the gang member attempts to strike, but Jinwoo adeptly uses his stick, evading the blow as the gang member's punch impacts the ground. Jinwoo then counters, swinging his stick forcefully. The gang member is sent sprawling through the air by Jinwoo's attack. As Jinwoo stands over him, the gang member coughs painfully. Jinwoo reflects on words spoken by a mysterious woman. With his eyes now glowing crimson, signifying a fierce determination, Jinwoo declares that he needs to make sure to beat his opponent thoroughly. The gang member, sprawled on the ground, stares up in utter terror, barely able to form a coherent thought. Jinwoo continues his merciless assault. The gang member lets out a pained scream, desperate for assistance. Around them, bystanders recoil in horror as the gang member is savagely beaten, his blood splattering the ground. Some onlookers frantically shout for others to move and beg for help. Madame Jin clenches her jaw, letting out a pained grunt as a student nearby desperately pleads for the violence to cease. The surrounding crowd of onlookers recoils in horror, letting out gasps of fright. Standing over a bloodied, prone figure, Jae Hyun, his own clothes stained crimson and holding a heavy wooden bat, chillingly states that he is simply doing what he was told. He then brazenly asks if this brutal display is good enough. From a distance, Madame Jin's eyes narrow with seething rage, her internal thoughts branding Jae Hyun as a cheeky bastard. Jae Hyun then nonchalantly tosses the wooden bat to the ground, where a crude symbol has been drawn amidst bloodstains. He pauses, realizing his error, as he had intended to write the number 2. Muttering about the troublesome nature of having to redo his work, Jae Hyun turns his gaze to the silent, terrified students before him and begins to count them in an ominous rhythm. 4, 6, 8, Hato. His face and clothing stained with blood, urgently calls out to Ori, asking if he is still there. A surprised Eri quickly responds, confirming his presence and inquiring about the situation. Kato then poses a crucial question: is it possible for multiple individuals to join a duel, specifically in a one versus many scenario? Ari confirms that it is indeed possible if the number of participants is mutually agreed upon. Kato internally acknowledges that this implies there will be no limit to his opponents, dryly remarking that he is too lazy to count every time. With a determined smirk, Kaito challenges the numerous thugs surrounding him, declaring that he will be their lone opponent. The enraged gang members immediately charge forward, but Kaito stands his ground, ready to face them all. The scene erupts into a violent confrontation as Kaito is engulfed by a multitude of attackers, poised for battle. His hand already bloody from previous encounters, declares he is too lazy to count his fallen foes every time. With a determined grin, he beckons the approaching figures, confidently stating that he will be their opponent. The street is already littered with unconscious bodies as more enemies charge towards him. Undeterred, Kaito faces the onslaught. One assailant leaps into the air for a flying kick, but Kaito deflects the blow with surprising speed. As he counters, striking his attacker, he angrily retorts to a perceived insult, asking if the opponent really told him to go to hell. He then scolds the attacker, demanding how dare they speak to their senpai like that. The force of his blow sends the opponent reeling back, crying out in pain. Kato continues to battle, surrounded by multiple attackers. Even as one grabs him from behind, he swings his weapon, striking another assailant directly in the face, eliciting another scream of agony. Yanagimoto Ken endures a brutal assault, repeatedly struck with a wooden bat, blood staining his blue shirt. He is overwhelmed, falling to the ground as multiple attackers swarm him. One assailant gleefully declares they have him cornered, while another yells for them to strike now. A thug raises his bat for a finishing blow, shouting for Yanagimoto Ken to die. Suddenly, an intense white light erupts from Yanagimoto Ken. His eyes glow with fierce power, and a massive burst of energy explodes outwards, effortlessly sending the surrounding thugs flying. The blonde thug leader, recoiling from the shockwave, frantically screams for his men not to falter and to kill Yanagimoto Ken. Yanagimoto Ken, now standing firm and holding the very bat used against him, blood dripping from his hand, expresses his disdain. He remarks that it seems he must teach them some courtesy. He reminds them that their senpai graciously gave his time to play around with them, and instead of showing gratitude, they chose to attack. With a powerful swing, Yanagimoto Ken retaliates, striking down one of his attackers. Jae-hyun relentlessly engages his numerous assailants, his mind replaying their harsh words and curses, recalling how they dared him to die or go to hell. He strikes out with overwhelming force, sending enemies reeling and screaming in pain. Jae-hyun calmly observes their lack of polite manners even as they attack him. With powerful swings of his staff, he dispatches more opponents, littering the ground with fallen bodies and splattered blood. His gaze unwavering, Jae-hyun reflects on their demand for him to go to the next world, understanding it as a blatant command to die. He delivers another furious blow, shattering an enemy's weapon with an upward strike, then follows with a devastating punch that sends an attacker flying. As the dust settles and enemies lie defeated around him, Jae-hyun stands resolute, asserting that if they cannot succeed in killing him, they should at least have the courtesy to speak with more polite words. As the brutal assault unfolds, an enforcer, his face contorted in terror, curses Kai, calling him a bastard. Kai, moving with relentless efficiency, quickly overwhelms his attackers, declaring their ultimate failure. He then delivers a cutting monologue remarking on their lack of courtesy, ability, and situation awareness, before concluding with a stark pronouncement, "You are all trash humans." He stands amidst the defeated, a wooden staff firmly in hand, his clothes bearing the splatters of blood, a chilling smirk gracing his lips. From a short distance, an observer, Haruto, watches the entire scene, his eyes wide with a profound realization that Kai's earlier words were not a lie. Sometime later, with the violence now subsided, Kai and Haruto sit side by side, calmly drinking from cans, and unexpected and peaceful camaraderie having formed. Yanagimoto Ken, with a confident smirk, informs Ori that he is quite reusable, much like the current situation. Ori remains silent, contemplating his words, before tentatively responding with a "yes." Kai, in a celebratory chibi form, cheers excitedly, exclaiming that Ken has acknowledged Ori. A worried Ori, still in chibi form, wonders if he is being recycled like trash. Observing this, Ken states that despite his choice of words, he is actually praising Ori. Then Abe, a man in a sharp suit, reveals he has bought some sake. He then asks Ori if he has ever heard the term dirty beggar. Ori, looking confused, admits he does not know the term. Abe then declares that if that is the case, he must give Ori a special lecture. A narration box explains that a dirty beggar is a term for someone who has been wandering around and never settled down as various figures move through a somber cityscape. It continues, suggesting that even if you were to give such a person something, it would hold no special significance or meaning to them. The narration emphasizes that no matter what these individuals received, they simply accept it. However, the narration points out that they could at least discern which items are usable and which are not. A narration box then clarifies that Yanagimoto Ken was using his own past situation as an example. Even when he was seemingly alone, Ken was constantly surrounded by enemies. He had experienced countless killing, intense, profound fear, and things that one would truly detest. Yanagimoto Ken possesses a unique ability, actively dividing specific experiences and absorbing them into a vessel filled with countless eyes and blood, like liquid, transforming them into his own strength. His eyes glow with an ominous gold as he manipulates these experiences. Among the people close to Ken, especially those he deems incompetent, many are treated as mere stepping stones, discarded like garbage. Ken is truly a man who differentiates between humans, as Haruto somberly reflects, looking up at the night sky. Haruto is then violently struck in the face, a brutal punch that sends him reeling. This harsh treatment is a direct result of Yanagimoto Ken's nature, solidifying his reputation as the dirty beggar, a man who callously disposes of others for his own power. Haruto lies beaten and bloody on the ground, a victim of the very system Ken embodies. Yanagimoto Ken confronts a bloodied man, commanding him to open his eyes as he forcefully grips his face. The injured man groans, his nose streaming with blood, struggling to comprehend the situation. He inwardly marvels at how many opponents he has already defeated, only to find himself in this predicament. Standing amidst a field of fallen bodies, Ken reiterates his demand, insisting the man tell him what he wants to know. The man, enraged and in pain, curses Ken silently. Ken's intense eyes fix on him, pressing the issue and asking if it is truly so hard to speak. As the man cries out, Ken taunts him, wondering if his ears are perhaps clogged. The man's hand trembles uncontrollably from fear and agony. Through his tears and blood, he begins to count the defeated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sheer number of lifeless bodies surrounding him highlights the terrifying scale of Ken's power. Overwhelmed with despair, the man questions how events spiraled so far, perceiving Ken as an inhuman monster. A woman, Yumi, watches the brutal scene unfold, her eyes wide with shock as she also declares Ken to be a monster, instinctively recoiling and stepping back in terror. Madame Jin, visibly distraught, stares intensely at Aki, accusing him directly of orchestrating the current chaos. Aki, in turn, confidently dismisses her, asserting that Yanagimoto Ken, whom she suspects he called in, is merely an alumnus. He sternly tells Madame Jin to know her place, implying she has no right to question his actions. Madame Jin observes Aki looking down on her, noting that even he treats her with disdain. She grapples with the dire situation, realizing all her fighters are incapacitated and that the paradise is on the brink of collapse, necessitating a strategic withdrawal. Kai then interjects, musing about the consequences if he were to win and the paradise disbanded, or if he were to admit defeat. A sinister smile spreads across his face as he considers his options. He then addresses someone named Wei Zilong, commanding him to use his sword. Kai instructs Wei Zilong to use his sword, assuring him that he will take full responsibility for his actions. Wei Zilong, with a confident smile, agrees to the request, preparing to draw his weapon. Elsewhere, a bloody Jae Hyun, clutching a wooden bat, walks amidst a scene of chaos, dragging the weapon across the gore-splattered floor where several bodies lie motionless. Jae Hyun stands amidst several fallen figures, the ground stained crimson, with the number Y82 scrawled in white on the concrete. He pauses, observing the grim scene. A new figure, Aaron, approaches, drawing his attention. Jae Hyun, bruised and looking wary, remarks that Aaron has arrived quite late. Annoyed, he states that he now needs to rewrite whatever he was doing. Aaron, a long-haired man in traditional black and gold attire, casually begins to draw his sword, responding with a confident smirk. He suggests it would be rude to make a half-hearted preparation against a respected senpai. Jaehyun repeats, "Preparation, huh?" a sly grin spreading across his blood-splattered face. Aaron swiftly draws his sword and unleashes a rapid attack. Jaehyun, however, expertly parries the forceful sword strike with his simple wooden stick. Aaron looks utterly surprised, questioning if that was all Jaehyun had to offer. Immediately, Aaron rapidly retreats, swift motion blurring his form as he pulls back. The surroundings blur as the intensity of the moment escalates, leaving Aaron utterly surprised. He observes Jae-hyun, who confidently declares that Aaron's presence exerts no special pressure. Jae-hyun further taunts, asserting that compared to him, Aaron is nothing, emphasizing his point by tapping his ear, his fingers stained with blood. He then issues a challenge, announcing that he won't use a weapon and invites Aaron to come at him. Aaron, initially appearing composed, narrows his eyes, acknowledging that this self-imposed handicap likely won't make any difference. He cynically notes that Jae-hyun must feel overly confident, believing he's facing mere trash. However, his expression quickly shifts to one of intrigued amusement as he realizes the situation will actually be interesting. With a determined grip, he draws his sword, its sharp blade glinting as he prepares to strike. He then lunges forward, a powerful blur of motion, promising to silence Jae-hyun's arrogance by cutting out his tongue. Aaron unleashes a swift, decisive sword strike, leaving Jae-hyun reeling and collapsing, blood erupting from his mouth. Jae-hyun moves with incredible speed, leaving a blur of motion in his wake. Aaron, reacting with alarm, realizes just how fast his opponent truly is. Suddenly, a powerful punch lands squarely on Aaron's chest, forcing blood from his mouth. The impact sends him hurtling backward, crashing onto the ground as more blood escapes his lips. Jae-hyun continues his relentless assault. As Aaron struggles to recover and counter with his sword, he questions the nature of this bewildering encounter. He acknowledges the absurd power his opponent possesses. His sword then strikes the very ground, creating a massive fissure in the concrete, a testament to the sheer force involved in the clash, while Jae-hyun watches with calm intensity. Kai, bruised and bleeding, defiantly asks if his opponent believes he is allowing him time to rest. Master Go, calm and collected, retracts his previous words. He then admits to having underestimated the committee, but declares that he will now get serious. His eyes blaze red as a surge of dark, potent energy envelops him. Master Go launches into a blinding assault, his movements so fast they leave trails of red and blue energy in their wake, cracking the very ground around Kai with each impact. He boasts that his speed is now unmatched, no one able to keep pace with him. With another lightning-fast strike, Master Go warns Kai that he won't even see the attack coming as he delivers a critical blow. A sinister grin spreads across Master Go's face, his red eyes glowing as he vows to make Kai regret his existence in the afterlife, delivering a final, forceful strike. Yanagimoto Ken, his face splattered with blood, stares intently as an explosion of energy erupts around him. From a distance, shocked onlookers struggle to comprehend the scene. One calls out, "Hey!" while another questions, "What was that just now?" A third admits they couldn't see anything because it happened too fast, prompting another to muse, "I wonder." The collective confusion culminates as someone demands, "What the hell is happening?" Amidst the chaos, Yanagimoto Ken's eyes glow crimson, his thoughts forming an incomplete declaration, "I'm..." This thought is quickly overtaken by profound disbelief as he registers the situation. He finds it utterly impossible, witnessing Kai standing firm, his hand gripping a blade now stained with blood. Yanagimoto Ken is astounded, realizing that instead of deflecting his sword, Kai has caught it. He concludes that Kai's speed isn't the sole factor. Rather, Kai is deliberately adjusting his pace to perfectly match Yanagimoto Ken's own. A powerful aura emanates, making it feel as though the challenger is merely facing a child. Jae-han, with blood smeared across his face and hands, mockingly asks his opponent, Aaron, if that was his full effort. Aaron, struggling with his sword, is bewildered, realizing he cannot move his blade at all against Jae-han's casual block. Jae-han, with a slight smile, feigns innocence, remarking that his junior, Kun, still wants to play and apologizes for being dense. Suddenly, Jae-hyun moves with incredible speed, appearing behind Aaron, and states that as a senior, he has an obligation to accept his junior's invitation. Aaron is stunned, exclaiming in disbelief as he realizes the other man's astonishing speed. Jae-hyun then mimics Aaron's previous sword stance, asking if that was how Aaron moved. Aaron internally asserts that he can finish this with a single strike from this range, but before he can act, Jae-hyun swiftly grabs his sword hand and then his neck. With a single, decisive motion, Jae-hyun lifts Aaron effortlessly into the air by his neck, completely overwhelming him. Haruto, his face streaked with blood but his eyes burning with defiance, recognizes that at this rate, he will be dead. Yet, with a swift and brutal reversal, he gains the upper hand. Haruto's bloodied hand now grips the neck of his assailant, the assassin who chokes in terror. Haruto calmly observes the assassin's sword, remarking that it looks pretty good and requesting to borrow it for a bit. He takes the weapon with force, compelling the assassin to release his grip and collapse to the ground. Haruto then turns his back on the assassin, who lies defeated as the surrounding ground cracks and splinters from the impact of their fierce struggle. He reacts with a soft, upon examining the sword, finding it broken. With a sigh, Haruto observes the damaged blade, concluding it was a cheap one. The number 182 remains conspicuously painted on the wall, marking the site of the encounter. Yanagimoto Ken, despite his apparent injury, scoffs, believing he was given a subpar sword for a leader. Jae-hyun, bruised and bleeding, quickly corrects him, asserting that the individual in question is not the true leader. Meanwhile, Kai, smirking and covered in blood, reminds someone of a prior agreement. Yanagimoto Ken looks on in shock as the scene unfolds. A wave of despair washes over as a voice laments that this was not supposed to happen, expressing shame and concluding that paradise is, after all, an illusion. The thought lingers, pondering how events escalated to this point. Madame Jin, her eyes glowing with intense emotion, seems deeply distressed by the carnage surrounding her. She then turns, her expression hardened by fury, and challenges her opponent, asking if they still have more men left to fight. Kaido confronts his opponent, sternly reminding her, "Mu made a deal, right?" He then sarcastically wonders if she has forgotten, or perhaps if she still has more men to fight against him, his expression one of confident disdain. The scene shifts to Eunice, her eyes blazing red with fury and disbelief. She questions the reality of the situation, utterly dumbfounded, wondering, "No way, is this real?" Her gaze falls upon a typical modern building, leading her to exclaim in shock, "Paradise lost." She finds the entire circumstance impossible to comprehend, reiterating, "Impossible." The onlookers exchange bewildered comments, questioning if anyone remains standing to fight for the paradise. Some identify Wei Zilong as their strongest, but the revelation that he was beaten bare-handed leaves others in disbelief. Confirming his defeat, they realize that all of the paradise's combatants are now completely incapacitated, unable to even walk. This grim reality leads them to a unified conclusion: the paradise is utterly finished. Meanwhile, Aki, deeply distressed, curses the situation, wondering what she can possibly do now. She desperately wishes that that man had never appeared. As the scene cuts to Yanagimoto Ken, standing confidently amidst the aftermath, his clothes splattered with blood, yet he remains seemingly unharmed. Yanagimoto Ken observes the surprisingly calm atmosphere, noting that the events haven't caused much public fuss. He deduces that other factions are actively working to clean up the aftermath left by the paradise, and expects them to already be discussing countermeasures against the committee. He also recognizes that the regular students share concerns about the current situation, preventing any open celebrations. As Yanagimoto Ken walks amidst blood, splattered ground and clothing, a student approaches him, politely requesting his time. Yanagimoto Ken pauses, acknowledging the student's presence. The student gently reaches out to touch a blood stain on Yanagimoto Ken's cheek, prompting Yanagimoto Ken to inquire if the student is truly fine with the situation. The student responds, confessing that he is more worried about adding to Yanagimoto Ken's burdens. Yanagimoto Ken accepts this, and the student steps forward, stating that he will be satisfied once he confirms something important. Madame Jin watches the scene unfold, her gaze fixed on Yanagimoto Ken as he turns towards her. Yanagimoto Ken, splattered with blood, confronts Madame Jin, asking if they are mere foxes, or perhaps a dog or a chicken, implying weakness and subservience. Madame Jin, looking bewildered, responds hesitantly, asserting that she has never borrowed the power of the tiger, an idiom for relying on the authority of someone stronger, and clarifies that her food comes from her family, an idiom for ascending through connections rather than ability. Yanagimoto Ken acknowledges her honesty, conceding that she doesn't seem to be lying. He then scratches his head, contemplating the situation. Standing amidst the fallen figures, including Madame Jin, he sternly retracts his previous statement about disbanding the paradise. As a murmuring crowd gathers in the background, Yanagimoto Ken issues a grave warning. He addresses the Yanis who are coveting the lost paradise, those who disrespect the committee, and anyone who would harm normal students and civilians. With a fierce, bloody grin, he proclaims that if such individuals exist, he will personally challenge them to a duel and commands them to prepare themselves. A wave of euphoria washes over the crowd as they erupt in cheers, celebrating their newfound freedom. They declare that they no longer need to be afraid and enthusiastically shout praises for the committee. An observer captures the joyous scene on their phone, mentally noting that such exclamations can be interpreted as expressions of gratitude and respect. Meanwhile, Elara, watching the celebration, harbors a deep concern. She worries that if the faction were to disband, the people would face even greater oppression. She realizes, with a sense of awe, that he had considered this far-reaching consequence. Yanagimoto Ken reflects on the situation, acknowledging that the student's self-governing committee now has a renewed purpose. He internally muses that such a development would have been impossible without Yanagimoto Senpai. He finds himself relieved that this powerful individual is on their side. A chilling thought then crosses his mind: what if this person were their enemy? He pictures a grim scenario where a severely injured man lies bleeding on the ground, a mysterious woman standing over him. The woman, Madame Jin, begins to speak, seemingly offering a thank you, but the injured man cuts her off with a defiant, bloodied smile, stating that their conversation is far from over. An injured Yanagimoto Ken declares that he has only changed his demand. He instructs his opponent to get down on their knees and apologize sincerely, adding that after this, their conversation will be over. Madame Jin, looking startled, realizes that in his homeland, such an act signifies the highest regard. With blood on his face, Yanagimoto Ken defiantly challenges her to fight him if she dislikes his terms. Madame Jin retorts, observing that he is not as strong as his underlings. She then asks if she just needs to perform the requested action. After a moment of internal thought, Madame Jin lowers herself to the ground, bowing deeply, and humbly asks for forgiveness for their rude behaviors throughout this time. Yanagimoto Ken stands over her, informing her that she is saved by Ori and to keep that in mind. Madame Jin responds with a soft, "I know." Yanagimoto Ken, his expression shifting to surprise, questions her knowing. A distressed young woman, clutching her head, manages a tearful, "Yes, thank you." Meanwhile, Kai, splattered with blood but standing firm, contemplates the situation, realizing if this isn't paradise, then something else is amiss. He finds the group known as Waring to be particularly suspicious. Observing the people around him, he concludes they are likely watching him closely because of how easily he won, making him consider his next move. To draw out those truly orchestrating things, he muses that he must set a bait. Suddenly, a new figure introduces herself as Yukita Nanami, the representative from Pure Stream. Nanami declares that she cannot simply obey without a struggle and challenges the committee to a one-on-one duel, her hand already on her sword. Seizing this opportunity, Kai decides he should use her and directly asks Nanami what her demand is. Ori's hands firmly grasp the hilt of his katana as he declares a binding promise: if he loses, his faction will obey the committee. Kai, his face already splattered with blood, responds with a smirk, challenging Ori about the terms if Ori were to win instead. Ori dismisses Kai's proposition, stating that he doesn't care about such conditions. His sole purpose for being there, he asserts, is to demonstrate their strength. With a determined expression, Ori quickly unsheathes his blade, initiating a blindingly fast attack. He moves with such incredible speed that the ground beneath him cracks, delivering a powerful, sweeping blow. Kai visibly reels from the impact, his eyes wide in shock as he struggles to comprehend the sudden force. Despite hearing that the eastern neighbor country is in a chronic situation due to some calamity, Kai marvels at their astonishing talent, recognizing the formidable power Ori possesses. After an intense battle, Ren, wielding a broken katana, concedes defeat, declaring the fight pointless and suggesting they stop. He reflects on the immense resilience of his opponent, noting that striking them felt like slashing hard ground, which ultimately shattered his blade. Meanwhile, Kai, despite being covered in blood, casually brushes through his hair, commenting that he's not bad as a hairdresser. He then surveys the surroundings, concluding that there's no one left who desires a duel, and expresses his own need for rest. A close-up on Kai's eyes reveals a profound wariness as he remarks on how tiresome it is to continuously fight against Stage 2 Awakeners after such a prolonged farce. Suddenly, Kai is violently knocked back by an unseen force. A formidable red warrior, whose strike created a crater in the ground, slams his fist down, demanding that Kai not rest yet. Standing beside him, a stoic attacker joins the red warrior, who then chillingly offers Kai an eternal rest, implying they are there to finish him off. The red warrior observes the intense battle, acknowledging his opponent's strength and pondering if Waring still possesses such formidable individuals. Meanwhile, a bloodied Yanagimoto Ken directly questions his adversaries, asking if they are indeed from the 7-Star Society. A Waring member attempts to speak, but the stoic attacker interjects, clarifying that they are merely challenging Ken to a duel as members of Waring. The stoic attacker then sternly commands Ken to stop joking around, his gaze piercing. Yanagimoto Ken, covered in blood, silently thinks that it is finished, a quiet grunt escaping him as he touches his injured face. The red warrior, surprised, questions Ken's words. With a chilling smirk and eyes now glowing a menacing yellow, Yanagimoto Ken clarifies, declaring that he is talking about the red warrior, and affirms that the red warrior is finished. In the late 1990s, as the 20th century neared its end, something extraordinary began to unfold among the countless humans. Individuals with special abilities started to appear. These individuals, known as ability users, managed to break through the hidden wall that controlled and maintained the energy within their bodies, thus becoming beings that transcended ordinary human limits. They not only possessed sharpened senses, but also exhibited astonishing physical abilities. At their first stage, their capabilities were 4 times that of an ordinary human. Progressing to the second stage, their physical abilities reached 16 times that of an ordinary person. However, this didn't simply refer to numbers, it meant their combat prowess was comparable to 4 or even 16 ordinary humans. In critical situations, their strategic value could even rival that of hundreds of people. However, a severe side effect emerged. A mysterious phenomenon caused ability users' bodies to collapse, ultimately leading to their deaths, as depicted by a person bleeding profusely from their face and another suffering a fatal decline. Then, an unknown group of pioneers introduced a peculiar drug, pouring a crimson liquid into a chalice. They claimed this substance not only prevented the fatal collapse, but also granted abilities to ordinary people, making it an easy way to create new ability users. A mysterious hooded figure is shown holding this potent chalice. As a result, the control and manufacture of ability users became possible, leading nations and organizations to eagerly work on producing exceptional individuals. We see scientists monitoring a man in a high-tech tank, while an official diligently works on paperwork, indicating the widespread effort. Yet, creating second-stage ability users remained incredibly difficult, even with government support. These formidable individuals can perform extraordinary feats effortlessly, doing things ordinary humans cannot, as 2 figures radiating purple energy demonstrate. Sending these elite users into action was understood to mean ensuring success at all costs. This unwavering conviction, this common sense, prevailed in a world where a man's bloodied legs hang lifelessly over a cityscape, and a crowd observes somberly, accepting this harsh new reality. A character, Minwoo, with dark hair and striking red earrings, looks on with a bewildered expression, convinced that what he is witnessing is impossible. Nearby, Ren holds up a bloodied fighter from the Hwoarang organization. This injured Hwoarang member lies battered on the ground as Ren presses him, demanding to know who sent him. Ren's eyes glow with intense power, his face splattered with blood, as the injured fighter defiantly reiterates that they are from Hwoarang. Despite his grievous wounds, the fighter challenges Ren, urging him to just end it if he plans to kill him. Ren responds with a chilling threat, stating that killing him is not happening yet, but if the fighter answers properly, he will be killed afterward. The injured fighter recoils from the implied violence. Observing this brutal interrogation, Minwo clutches a small knife, his concern growing as he realizes the formidable power of Ren. He contemplates whether to launch a surprise attack, but then Ren, without even turning fully, addresses him directly. Ren declares he doesn't mind a surprise attack from behind, but ominously asks if Minwoo is prepared for the consequences. Minwoo's face tightens with a mix of anger and shock. Ren's eyes ignite with even greater intensity, radiating immense frustration as he thinks to himself that these pesky insects keep interfering, and his patience is quickly running out. A powerful, glowing aura surrounds a man in traditional clothing, his face contorted in fear as a wave of intense killing intent washes over him. He realizes that merely a glare was enough to trigger such a terrifying sensation. The immense, glowing eye of Hyun looms over him like a monstrous entity, representing the sheer force of the killing intent. Overwhelmed, the traditional attacker cries out in agony as blood splatters, and he collapses to the ground, desperately reaching out for help. He wonders about the true nature of what he just experienced, acknowledging that even the Seven Stars Council executives are not this powerful. He concludes that Jae-hyun is many times more dangerous than anyone from the Seven Stars Council. The traditional attacker lets out a weak gasp, attempting to explain himself. He points towards two other fallen figures, clarifying that they are not from Hwoarang, perhaps hoping to de-escalate the situation or plead for mercy. A traditional attacker, his face grim and splattered with blood, furiously demands to know if Kai has a death wish. Kai, his own clothes stained with blood, smirks menacingly as he warns the attacker about the consequences of causing trouble. Meanwhile, Uchida Nanami, the hot-blooded reporter, stands nearby, diligently filming every moment on her phone. The traditional attacker, now completely defeated and bloody on the ground, stares up as Kai asks him what he plans to do. With a sinister grin, Kai watches as the traditional attacker struggles and falls further. After the commotion, Kai casually checks his surroundings, musing that the others must have run away, though he claims not to care. He then addresses the Red Warrior, who is now kneeling on the ground, terrified. The Red Warrior nervously responds, and Kai presses him, asking if he knows where the two attackers originated from. The Red Warrior remains silent, visibly distressed. Kai observes his silence, remarking that he cannot simply drop the name of the Seven Stars Council. Kai then reveals his conclusion. Hwoarang was merely being used in this situation. With his foot on the Red Warrior's shoulder, Kai tells him that his earlier decision was not bad. He then leans in with a chilling smile, adding that had the Red Warrior made the wrong choice, he too would have been made an example of. An injured man, covered in blood, demands to know the identity of his assailant. The protagonist, smirking, replies with a rhetorical question, asking if his nature isn't obvious. He then declares himself a returning student here to bully the newbies. Later, two figures, Red Warrior and Stoic Attacker, are seen fleeing across a rooftop, clearly in distress after encountering the protagonist. Traditional Attacker and Minwoo, also battered and bruised, express their shock and fear, with Traditional Attacker exclaiming about the monster they've faced. Minwoo then suggests they need to return to that person, for now. Traditional Attacker interrupts, trying to speak, but Minwoo angrily demands clarification, asking who exactly that person is. The protagonist, his face sinister, grabs one of them and asks if they all want to go home with smiles on their faces. Traditional Attacker, despite his fear, defiantly warns the protagonist that messing with them will not go unpunished and menacingly asks if he's fine with something happening to his family. The protagonist merely smirks, internally noting that one of his captives is annoyingly chatty, while the other remains completely silent. With a chilling stare, Ori acknowledges his opponent, knowing exactly what he's about to do. He violently grabs the stretch-mouth opponent, forcing his mouth wide open, grotesquely stretching it to an unnatural degree. Blood spatters as Ori continues his brutal assault, tearing at the opponent's mouth. Moments later, two bloody teeth lie on the ground, a gruesome testament to the attack. As the bloody teeth opponent groans in pain, Ori looks down at the fallen teeth, a cold smirk on his blood-smeared face as he declares the outcome perfect. Still covered in blood, Ori walks toward the stretched-mouth opponent, offering a grim challenge, telling him to speak up if you have a better idea. The stretched-mouth opponent, utterly terrified and clutching his injured face, can only manage a weak "Hey!" as Ori approaches. He frantically warns Ori, pleading, don't come any closer! Meanwhile, from a distance, onlookers are left stunned and questioning the truth of what unfolded earlier, wondering what will happen next. Someone asks about the student council representative, and another replies that he went after those guys earlier. Amidst the chaos, Yuna smiles subtly, then casually asks if Yanagimoto Ken is no longer present. A new presence catches the attention of a brown-haired woman, whom we'll call Reina, who gasps in recognition, realizing it is Urokurin Uryoku Ran, the representative of Oi Midori. Reina notes that Yanagimoto Ken left some time ago and asks if anything is amiss. Urokurin Uryoku Ran, with a graceful smile, explains that she came to invite him for tea, wishing to personally thank him for his impressive, human-like effort. Reina repeats the peculiar phrase human-like effort with a slightly bewildered expression and a small nervous laugh, then muses that tea might not be Yanagimoto Ken's preference. Urokurin Uryoku Ran confidently reassures Reina not to worry, stating with a knowing smile that she knows that kid very well. After a significant incident, the atmosphere at the university drastically changes. The student council's status soars dramatically, with the council president and other members appearing powerful. In contrast, Tenshu is left effectively in ruins. The hooded leader is seen among a group, while a Tenshu member looks distraught, reflecting how many members have left, reducing it to a nominal organization. Hwoarang is placed under the supervision of the student council as a Hwoarang member walks away, carrying a red jacket. Meanwhile, Seiryu retains many of its members but becomes a subordinate organization under the student council, with the Seiryu leader looking down sadly. The scene shifts to Miyahara-san, who gained recognition for her on-site reporting. She is acknowledged for her past achievements and rises to fame as a star journalist, holding a bouquet of flowers and a trophy. On a rooftop man sits pensive, observing the city. He declares that it seems the Seven Stars Council has begun to make moves. Suddenly, a falling man wearing a suit and a red sash is shown mid-fall. Nanami contemplates that if she is to act independently, she must first stabilize the situation within the school. She faces several students who advance on her with various weapons. Nanami swiftly draws her katana, deflecting an incoming strike. Her eyes glow with a fierce red intensity as she parries another attack, countering with a fluid movement that sends one student reeling. She moves with incredible speed, delivering decisive blows as more students fall around her. After the brief, intense skirmish, Nanami secures her katana, her hand resting on the hilt, confirming her identity as Nanami. Kaido scolds Nanami, stating that he told her not to draw her sword recklessly, and a flustered Nanami quickly apologizes. Kaido observes that with order gradually taking shape, it seems unlikely that any troublemakers will cause chaos on campus now. He then tells Nanami that she would probably rank among the top 5 in her homeland. Nanami responds that there was a time when such a comment made her conceited, and she recalls hearing during the calamity that a key person was necessary, believing she was meant to be that key. Kaido questions her about this key. Before Nanami can elaborate, a woman with long, light-colored hair and blue eyes, Elara, approaches them and declares that Kaido has arrived. Elara then politely asks Kaido if he would join her for some tea. The scene shifts to show Kaido and Elara seated at a table, engaging in their tea session. Kaido internally expresses his displeasure, thinking this is someone he didn't want to meet. Meanwhile, Elara stirs her tea and thinks to herself that she never imagined inviting someone for tea would be this difficult. After a significant incident, the atmosphere at the university drastically changes. The student council's status soars dramatically, with the council president and other members appearing powerful. In contrast, Tenshu is left effectively in ruins. The hooded leader is seen among a group, while a Tenshu member looks distraught, reflecting how many members have left, reducing it to a nominal organization. Hwoarang is placed under the supervision of the student council as a Hwoarang member walks away, carrying a red jacket. Meanwhile, Seiryu retains many of its members but becomes a subordinate organization under the student council, with the Seiryu leader looking down sadly. The scene shifts to Miyahara-san, who gained recognition for her on-site reporting. She is acknowledged for her past achievements and rises to fame as a star journalist, holding a bouquet of flowers and a trophy. On a rooftop man sits pensive, observing the city. He declares that it seems the Seven Stars Council has begun to make moves. Suddenly, a falling man wearing a suit and a red sash is shown mid-fall. Nanami contemplates that if she is to act independently, she must first stabilize the situation within the school. She faces several students who advance on her with various weapons. Nanami swiftly draws her katana, deflecting an incoming strike. Her eyes glow with a fierce red intensity as she parries another attack, countering with a fluid movement that sends one student reeling. She moves with incredible speed, delivering decisive blows as more students fall around her. After the brief, intense skirmish, Nanami secures her katana, her hand resting on the hilt, confirming her identity as Nanami. Kaido scolds Nanami, stating that he told her not to draw her sword recklessly, and a flustered Nanami quickly apologizes. Kaido observes that with order gradually taking shape, it seems unlikely that any troublemakers will cause chaos on campus now. He then tells Nanami that she would probably rank among the top 5 in her homeland. Nanami responds that there was a time when such a comment made her conceited, and she recalls hearing during the calamity that a key person was necessary, believing she was meant to be that key. Kaido questions her about this key. Before Nanami can elaborate, a woman with long, light-colored hair and blue eyes, Elara, approaches them and declares that Kaido has arrived. Elara then politely asks Kaido if he would join her for some tea. The scene shifts to show Kaido and Elara seated at a table, engaging in their tea session. Kaido internally expresses his displeasure, thinking this is someone he didn't want to meet. Meanwhile, Elara stirs her tea and thinks to herself that she never imagined inviting someone for tea would be this difficult. Lyra, a woman with long, light green hair, converses with Yanagimoto. She tells him that every time she tried to approach him, he would disappear. Yanagimoto, looking irritated, expresses his frustration at being dragged into political maneuvers and demands to know what Lyra wants from him. Lyra smiles gently, explaining that she simply wanted to have a conversation. She reminds him that he is the hero who saved the university. Taking a sip from her cup, Lyra then reveals that seeing Yanagimoto reminds her of many things, painting vivid pictures of flowers blooming in spring, cicadas chirping in summer, trees changing color in autumn, and the quiet piling of the first snow. She describes how these natural occurrences, though cyclical, stir a sudden longing within her. Lyra elaborates that it feels as though these experiences are connected by the threads of a complex fate, and she finds herself wanting to get closer to Yanagimoto. After a moment of silence, Yanagimoto takes a drink from his cup and instructs Lyra to stop saying things so carelessly. He then adds, with an intense gaze, that even so, he too feels a similar connection. Yanagimoto sits contemplating a feeling of profound familiarity, a nostalgia akin to home or family that resonates with what Amadori is describing, yet it is tinged with an indescribable strangeness and elusiveness. Amadori asks if the tea suits his taste. Yanagimoto counters by asking what if he said it did not. Amadori confidently states that she doubts such a thing is possible. Yanagimoto remarks that she seems to know a great deal about him. Amadori, with a sly smile, declares that she probably knows him as well as his own parents. Yanagimoto responds, stating he is not in the mood for jokes. Amadori places her hand on the table, asserting that the cafe Green, operated by her, Amadori belongs to him, and he is free to come and go as he pleases. She describes it as the perfect spot for quiet conversations. Yanagimoto observes that despite Amadori's immense popularity, no one outside directs even the slightest glance or gaze their way, despite the cafe being completely visible from the exterior. Amadori modestly states that what she did was nothing extraordinary, mentioning she merely made a few adjustments. Yanagimoto considers that without proper guidance, this location would be no different from a random tree on the roadside. He further muses that Amadori is not an ordinary human, even doubting if she is human at all, while Amadori smiles confidently. The scene transitions to an office where Otsuka Ruji, the KNSC deputy director, sternly asks if Warang and Tenshu were taken down. A man with neat brown hair confirms that they no longer possess their former influence. Otsuka Ruji then inquires which faction is responsible, recalling that Tenshu had the backing of Akasan and Warang was supported by the Seven Stars Council. The man reveals that it was apparently the work of a single individual. Looking at a world map, Otsuka Ruji questions if the United States might have intervened. The man refutes this, stating that the U.S. seems just as bewildered, a point Director McConnell also mentioned. Otsuka Ruji observes that an awakened has likely appeared. He declares that they will establish contact with this individual and instructs someone to prepare a car immediately. Ayanokoji Asushi, identified as a Seven-Star Council executive and KNSC officer, then confronts Otsuka Ruji. Ayanokoji Asushi questions Otsuka Ryuji's decision to get involved in what he calls a mere university dispute, reminding him that as a high-ranking official of an institution dedicated to protecting the nation, he should refrain from reckless actions. Otsuka Ruji, looking angered, asks if Ayanokoji Asushi considers the incident to be of a level where a director's involvement would be strange. Ayanokoji Asushi then asserts his belief that soldiers who follow orders should be prioritized over uncontrolled strategic weapons. He then provokes Otsuka Ruji, suggesting he is still clinging to the failure regarding awakening. Otsuka Ruji, visibly enraged, warns Officer Ayanokoji to be careful with his words. Otsuka Ruji attempts to calm Yanagimoto, suggesting they leave a certain matter alone. Yanagimoto reacts violently, striking Otsuka Ruji and declaring that Otsuka Ruji appears to know nothing about awakened beings. Yanagimoto explains that these beings can be both strategic weapons and one-man armies, and unlike weapons, they are capable of communication, making cooperation and negotiation much easier. Otsuka Ryuji is shown coughing in pain from the assault. Yanagimoto then questions what would happen if they were monsters incapable of communication. Meanwhile, Ayanokoji Asushi is on the phone, stating that awakened beings possess monstrous power, but questioning if they are not fundamentally the same as humans at their core. He expresses his belief that if sincerity is shown, mutual understanding can be achieved with anyone. Kane, a man with dark, messy hair, is also on the phone, asking to use the place he mentioned right away and apologizing for his abruptness. Amadori, observing Kane, offers to step out, sensing that he has been caught up in some troublesome matter. Kane reflects that the other person was insistent, so he decided to meet them for now, finding the future worrisome. Later, Amadori, in a verdant garden, muses that perhaps accepting it as fate would make things easier, and concludes that trials always come with the path of a hero. So looking ahead is key. Yanagimoto expresses his surprise, noting he did not notice Aaron even though he was right next to him as they approach a house. Inside, Otsuka Ruji gets straight to the point, stating he isn't there for a difficult contract but is merely seeking a cooperative relationship in case of emergencies. Aaron questions Otsuka Ruji, asking if he is suggesting he become a government asset. A flashback begins, revealing Aaron was experimented on in America and lived as a mercenary for several years. He recalls receiving urgent messages from Kuniyama Aki. Aaron reflects on returning home, only to be met with news of his family's death and a missing person. Kuniyama Aki's messages confirm that Aaron's uncle and aunt have passed away, and Mei is also gone missing. Otsuka Ruji asserts that during a difficult time, his country never extended a helping hand, and from his perspective, the Seven Stars Society operates differently. Aaron points a finger, declaring that Otsuka Ryuji is offering cooperation for his own objectives, aiming to exploit Aaron's strength. Eren insists that Otsuka Ruji's actions are not for the country but for his personal goals, urging him to consider this. Otsuka Ruji counters that they share the same enemies, emphasizing their common ground with the symbol of the Seven Stars Society appearing behind him. He states that regarding the direction of power, he wants Eren to acknowledge their intentions. Otsuka Ruji explains that he would not hesitate to break the law for his goals, as it is their duty to legitimize Eren's actions. Eren then asks Otsuka Ruji what he would do if Eren were to become a threat to the country. Otsuka Ruji immediately replies that he would stop Eren by any means necessary. Eren's eyes glow yellow as he questions if Otsuka Ruji would truly try to stop him. Otsuka Ruji, looking visibly distressed and sweating, thinks to himself that stopping Eren seems impossible. He feels his body frozen by an intense murderous intent, recognizing the pressure as far stronger than that of average awakened individuals, as Eren radiates a powerful red aura. Eren appears as a powerful figure with glowing yellow eyes, confronting Otsuka Ruji, who looks small in comparison. Otsuka Ruji declares that what can be done and what must be done are two different matters, clenching his fist on a table, his eyes glowing red with frustration. A vision of two incapacitated figures, one of whom is Eren himself and the other Yanagimoto, lies on the ground, surrounded by vibrant energy. Eren then smirks, telling Otsuka Ruji that he cannot even tell a lie, let alone a compliment, and is not cut out for politics. Otsuka Ruji expresses his struggle and how it affects the director. Eren states that he accepts something because he likes Otsuka Ruji's attitude. Otsuka Ruji acknowledges this, and extending his hand, he tells Eren to let him know if anything comes up. They shake hands. Eren instructs Otsuka Ruji to find Mei Yanagimoto and Kyoko Kunikiyama, explaining that Kyoko Kunikiyama should be hospitalized somewhere. Eren says he will send Otsuka Ruji possible locations for Kyoko. As Otsuka Ruji walks away, he promises to contact Eren as soon as he finds them. Otsuka Ruji states he will take his leave and mentions they will probably meet frequently from now on. Eren acknowledges this. Later, Eren's phone rings and he sees Miyahara-san's name on the display. He answers and Miyahara-san expresses her gratitude for an award, crediting Yanagimoto for it, and then asks to meet Eren, despite it seeming like a hassle. Eren confirms he has finished his business and is free, agreeing to wait in front of the house. Miyahara-san, seen smiling, states her understanding and says she will go right away. In a separate scene, Otsuka Ruji apologizes to Ayanokoji Asushi, explaining he brought mercenaries from America and assures him of definite success this time. Ayanokoji Asushi dismisses his efforts, stating it will only lead to more useless victims, and that he had no expectations from the start. Otsuka Ruji insists this time will be different, believing they can handle their opponents easily by weakening them. Ayanokoji Atsushi questions the possibility of weakening them, noting that Otsuka Ruji sent second-level ability users last time as well. Ayanokoji Asushi looks down with a sly smile, stating the names Snowcat and Scavenger. A narration reveals that Ken Yanagimoto previously fought against these individuals during his mercenary days, as an overhead view of a town is presented. The narration continues, describing Snowcat and Scavenger as professionals used to fighting Yanagimoto, as the two masked figures are seen in a wooded area, one holding a rifle. Snowcat remarks that merely poking at them and running away feels like a waste, especially since it is a revenge match. Scavenger then asks if it would not be more fun to settle the score all at once. Snowcat replies that they are only there to complete the mission. Scavenger expresses boredom, while Snowcat firmly commands him to check if all residents have been evacuated. Scavenger, gesturing, asks if this is not a chance to defeat Yaksha. A close-up of a rifle barrel introduces a narration about an Eastern saying, "Those who are enjoying themselves can't be beaten." Snowcat aims his rifle through its scope, and the narration concludes by urging one to enjoy this to the fullest. Through the scope, a distant figure in a town setting comes into view. Miyahara-san looks on in wide-eyed horror. A bloodied arm extends into the foreground, a stark and brutal shield, as her expression conveys profound shock and terror at the sudden violent turn of events. Eren clutches his bleeding hand, where a bullet is lodged as Miyahara-san looks on in shock. The bullet falls from his grasp, splattering blood on the ground. Eren, with glowing yellow eyes and blood on his fingers, states that the projectile is not an ordinary bullet, but a special round made for fighting ability users. Miyahara-san asks Eren if he is okay, explaining that something suddenly came flying. Eren turns away from her, instructing her to wait there, and assures her that he will be right back. His eyes intensely glow, surrounded by electric energy as he recognizes the unique nature of the bullet, thinking there is only one sniper who would use such a round. Eren then dashes away with incredible speed, leaving a trail of blue and yellow energy. His glowing yellow eye focuses as he declares that he has found the assailant. His foot lands with powerful force, cracking the ground and surrounded by crackling energy, as he thinks about the continuous stream of threats, expressing his frustration before leaping upwards amidst intense, jagged energy. Eren is airborne, surrounded by a radiant yellow aura. As he looks down at an opponent, wondering why he keeps facing amateurs, he then rapidly moves through the environment in a low crouch, declaring that while a particular tactic might work on lesser foes, it will not work on him. With his eyes glowing intensely, Eren lunges forward, confidently stating that his opponents cannot defeat him. Suddenly, Snowcat appears, retreating in the distance, and an unseen speaker remarks that Eren remains as impatient as ever. Eren, visibly annoyed, then inquires about the difficulty of petting a cat, explaining that an overly direct approach will scare it, cause it to run or even bite. As he speaks, Eren is violently thrown backward, enveloped in a burst of yellow energy. The scene opens with a close-up of a dark, metallic barrel emitting smoke, indicating a recent discharge. A masked individual with a red eye recoils, clutching a freshly wounded neck, expressing disbelief about what just happened. Eren, with a triumphant and slightly menacing grin, unleashes a powerful punch, his yellow eyes glowing with intensity. He declares that his opponent only shows himself when certain of victory. Eren then connects his punch, knocking back the masked figure, and exclaims that he had to do this to prevent another escape. Eren's expression turns serious, electricity crackles around him as his eyes glow intensely, and he thinks he must finish this in one strike before the situation escalates. He unleashes a devastating blow, but before it can fully connect, the masked figure frantically shouts for a stop and calls for a timeout. Eren, now standing over the defeated masked figure who is identified as Snowcat, offers to make a deal. Snowcat, still on the ground, responds by stating that Eren has the choice to spare or kill him, but he possesses crucial information that Eren will not regret hearing. Eren's glowing yellow eyes narrow as he sternly tells Snowcat to make it quick. Snowcat, complying, begins to explain, acknowledging Eren's challenge. Suddenly, Snowcat points directly at Eren, defiantly asking if Eren believed he came alone, leaving Eren with a stunned expression of realization and surprise. A man kneels over another man lying on the ground in a forest, while Miyahara-san stands outside a residential building, looking around in confusion. She suddenly exclaims that she does not know what is happening, as bullets start flying at her. Miyahara-san screams in terror and falls to the ground, crying out in pain. A masked figure, Snowcat, holds Miyahara-san by her hair and declares that they thought something might be going on since she was tailing Yanagimoto, but that she was just an ordinary person. Snowcat then tells her that if she is going to hate someone, she should hate herself for being greedy. Miyahara-san asks what Snowcat is talking about, stating that it makes no sense. Snowcat reveals that Miyahara-san was stalking Yanagimoto because she wanted a scoop for her article, concluding that she is the reason Yanagimoto softened up so much. Snowcat raises a knife, declaring that Miyahara-san will die for the sake of his perfect revenge. Miyahara-san, with a look of desperation, thinks she needs to buy some time and do something to distract him. She considers mentioning the 7-Star Council, realizing this is her best course of action. She then ponders the implications of bringing personal feelings into the situation, wondering what the 7-Star Council would think if they knew. Snowcat looks down, agitated, wondering how a mere reporter could do this. He quickly dismisses Miyahara-san's words as a stalling tactic and angrily tells her not to spout such nonsense. However, Snowcat then questions what is happening, as the ground beneath him swirls with a dark, oily golden pattern. He wonders if this is an ability, standing centered in a bright, glowing golden circle that emanates from the ground, his red eyes wide with surprise. Eren holds Miyahara-san, who appears shaken, as he calmly observes that she does not look good and inquires if she had a nightmare. He then gently advises her to sleep tight next to her mama. With his dark, spiky hair and intense, glowing yellow eyes, Eren then directs a powerful statement, declaring that he will let the opponent go today, even if they choose to flee. Eren, his eyes glowing intensely, clenches his fist as red energy radiates around it. He declares that he will let the person off the hook today, allowing them to sleep next to their mom. Snowcat declares that they will let Eren go as promised. Eren sternly warns Snowcat against betrayal. Snowcat reassures Eren of their loyalty to contracts, explaining that their assigned mission is over, and they will not take any more jobs related to Eren, stating their desire to live a long life. Eren dismisses Snowcat's statements. With a smile, Snowcat offers a parting courtesy, telling Eren that Mizukami Yugo himself is supposed to deal with him. Snowcat then advises Eren to call his big sister if anything happens and offers a discount as an apology for shooting him earlier. Miyahara-san, looking distressed, exclaims how shameless Snowcat is for offering a discount after trying to kill her. Snowcat observes that Miyahara-san is not on their side, which Miyahara-san questions. Snowcat clarifies that "on our side" refers to humans who are practically on death's doorstep. Eren, with a serious and somewhat pained expression, declares to Miyahara-san that they should no longer see each other. Eren gently holds Miyahara-san's shoulders, acknowledging that he knows she isn't acting like herself. He declares that he is strong enough and confident he won't die, no matter how dangerous the situation becomes. However, he then confesses that even if he is strong on his own, he will ultimately be all alone, expressing that he doesn't want to feel that way again. Miyahara-san questions if he thinks she is weak. She concedes that having a weak person around can be a burden, but she asserts that no matter how strong someone is, they will break without the support of others. Miyahara-san adds that she has seen this happen many times through her reporting, observing countless people break. She then states that whether someone is strong or weak, it doesn't really matter. A pained expression crosses her face as she struggles with her words, and she pleads for Eren to leave. Her face contorts in anguish as she repeats her plea. Miyahara-san bids farewell to Eren, promising to contact him again and playfully asserting that he will always answer her calls. After Miyahara-san departs, Eren sighs heavily, lost in thought. Suddenly, his phone rings, displaying Romcology. Eren answers, asking what the caller, Otsukaruji, wants all of a sudden. Otsukaruji informs Eren that he has found the hospital where Kuniyama Kyoko was staying. Eren starts to ask for the hospital's name but quickly questions Otsukaruji about the use of was. Otsukaruji reveals that someone in her family couldn't see checked Kuniyama Kyoko out that morning and her current whereabouts are unknown. Eren, his expression turning serious, instructs Otsukaruji to send backup to his location later. Ayanokoji Atsushi shouts into his phone, pleading for the other person to wait and warning that it is dangerous to act alone. Eren, holding his phone, coldly declares that what he does is his own business. Ayanokoji Atsushi then resigns himself, stating that he understands, and hangs up the call. Eren reflects that Aheim's mother is now the only family Aheim has left, and he admits he did not want to owe anything to the man he just spoke with. Elsewhere, a phone vibrates persistently. A woman with long dark hair, holding her phone to her ear, looks distraught as an automated voice informs her that the number she has dialed is currently unavailable. She pulls the phone away in frustration, lamenting the timing as she finally managed to retrieve her phone. She then receives an incoming call from Kenja, but rejects it, asking aloud where Kenja is and what he is doing, mentioning that mom is in a terrible situation. She then reassures herself that rejecting the call is for the best, thinking that if Ken got involved, it would complicate things. The woman clutches her chest, determined that she needs to protect Mai and save Ken. She expresses her immense struggle and questions the usefulness of her allies if they are not going to help her now. Lena clutches her phone tightly, her eyes wide with fear, as she desperately asks who is there. The door behind her is violently forced open. Yanagimoto steps into the room, his gaze fixed on Lena, and he declares that she was there. Lena's expression then shifts to one of rage as she screams for someone to come out. A woman with long dark hair and a red top asks Eren about his intentions. She confidently states that if he plans to kill her, his instincts are not as sharp as he thinks. Eren, visibly agitated, asks if she is still running her mouth. He then expresses his regret that he does not possess the goods that Mei Yanagimoto acquired. Otsukaruji, holding a phone, declares that he will make sure the person he is speaking to never looks down on him again. He then asks if Kuniyama Aiki's mother was brought as requested, and orders one of her hands to be cut off, with instructions to stop the bleeding afterward. Kuniyama Aiki, horrified, protests that this was not their agreement, reminding him that he promised to spare her mother's life. Otsukaruji retorts that he did say he would spare her life and stop the bleeding, dismissing her protest as nitpicking. He threatens to take her mother's other hand if Kuniyama Aiki says another pointless word. Defeated, Kuniyama Aiki kneels and pleads for him to stop, offering to take her mother's punishment instead. Otsukaruji then demands that she call herself a worthless piece of trash, and says she must say it like she means it. With tears in her eyes, Kuniyama Aiki reluctantly complies, stating that she is a worthless piece of trash, as tears fall to the floor. Otsukaruji confirms that her statement is absolutely correct. Yanagimoto holds a cigarette and declares to an unseen recipient that he will show mercy because they followed instructions. A woman named Kira kneels on the floor, seemingly distressed. Yanagimoto then menacingly dictates that a correction should be sent out, instructing them to take a finger instead of a hand as an act of pity. The scene then transitions to a digital interface showing an incoming call from Yanagimoto Ken. On the call, Yanagimoto Ken, a man with short dark hair and a suit, greets Lyra, the hooded figure at a desk, noting the rarity of her call. Lyra asks if Yanagimoto Ken remembers a certain woman, and he confirms he remembers the poor, pitiful girl. Lyra then asks him to find the woman's mother. Yanagimoto Ken agrees but states he does not take normal payment. Lyra comments that he is on a level above, awakened. Yanagimoto Ken then asks what he will get in return this time. Lyra promises a reward for his trouble if he tells her the mother's location. Yanagimoto Ken asks her for a promise not to trick him. Lyra playfully asks if she has ever disappointed him, then assures him she would never dream of doing so. Meanwhile, Eren stands outdoors, holding his phone, and remarks that she's not far from here. Eren stands under an orange sky, his expression serious, and declares that this time, he will make sure things are settled with Mizukami. The scene shifts to a desolate industrial landscape before moving indoors to a grim building. Yanagimoto looks on with a concerned expression as Otsukaruji, holding a knife, and Ayanokoji Atsushi are also present. The camera focuses on a blood-splattered floor where a man named Ren, covered in blood and wearing an apron, is seen reaching out and begging for help. A man named Kaito with distinctive yellow blonde hair on one side, multiple facial scars, an apron, and a mask over his mouth holds a cleaver and expresses his annoyance at the situation. Otsukaruji orders Kaito to silence Saya. Kaito readily complies. Otsukaruji then stabs Saya, a small figure with short dark hair, who desperately tries to cry for help. Kaito, looking frustrated, instructs that Saya should be chopped up and dumped somewhere after she is taken care of. Later, Kaito takes a ring from a bloodied hand, appearing pleased with his find and commenting that things are turning out pretty well. Suddenly, Kaito lets out a scream of pain, clutching his head in surprise and agony. Kuniyama Aki's mother sits bound to a chair, her mouth gagged, her eyes wide with terror. A man with a shaved head, identified as Bald Henchman, stands behind her, observing impassively. In front of her cleaver man, a large man with half-shaved blonde hair and a blood-stained apron, grins menacingly as he holds a cleaver. He addresses Kuniyama Aki's mother, mockingly welcoming her and asking if she has grown tired of waiting. Cleaver Man then assures her that he will make the process quick and tells her to stay still. He remarks that she is lucky not to have ended up like the others. Cleaver Man then ponders where he was instructed to make the cut, listing the shoulder, elbow, and wrist as possibilities. The Bald Henchman interjects, stating that they were told to just take a finger. Cleaver Man comments on the softness of that woman's instructions and notes that Kuniyama Aki's mother's daughter has saved her life. He then dismisses the loss of a finger as not being the end of the world. With a renewed, terrifying grin, Cleaver Man raises the blood-covered cleaver, instructing Kuniyama Aki's mother to stay still so he can make a clean cut. Kaito raises a blood-soaked cleaver, ready to strike as blood spatters across the surface. He then grins menacingly, his eyes glowing yellow and sharp teeth exposed, as he warns someone not to move, stating that he will not be able to make a clean cut if they do. Elsewhere, Ayanokoji Asushi uses a knife and fork to cut into a piece of meat, revealing a bloody interior. He then brings a napkin to his mouth, explaining that Uetsu said he would take care of Yanagimoto. Ayanokoji Asushi confirms that someone has found a way to defeat an adversary. He observes that a particular individual excels at his job but is a troublemaker, expressing his hope that this person does not act unnecessarily. Meanwhile, Otsukaruji cuts a piece of steak and asks if Yanagimoto is truly dangerous, as a quick vision of a blood-stained blade flickers. A voice then declares that the Seven Council Society currently has a solid foundation under a specific man's leadership. The scene shifts to Eren, who stands with a serious expression, a powerful figure with purple hair and glowing eyes ominously appearing behind him. The narration explains that in the past, a situation had deteriorated into a state of ruin. A blood-stained knife rests on a plate beside a cut piece of meat, symbolizing the violence of the past. The narration continues, declaring that all the chaos was caused by just one man. Eren lies on the ground, his body and hands covered in blood, clearly injured. He grimaces, groaning from the pain, his face streaked with sweat or tears, as other figures are also seen collapsed around him. Eren presses Mizukami Yugo to the ground, blood splattering nearby. Eren declares that he crushed Mizukami's testicles, but then he smiles menacingly, contemplating how he should deal with him next. A moment later, Eren lifts Otsukaruji by the neck, holding him off the floor. Eren asks which floor this is again, wondering if it is the fourth or the fifth. Eren smiles sinisterly, his hand reaching out, as he declares that he wants to see how many times someone can be thrown before breaking. Blood stains his white shirt, hinting at recent violence. His eye reflects a small, dark, shadowy figure. Eren then appears distressed, stating that honestly, even a demon would be kinder. He drops a bloodied knife onto a plate that already holds a bloodied fork, remarking that he has lost his appetite. Standing, Eren instructs someone to send an observer from afar. A plate of steak, asparagus, and cherry tomatoes lies before him, ruined by fresh blood spatters. Finally, Eren delivers a stern warning for them to tell anyone that if they do not want to die, they should not approach recklessly. A disturbing scene unfolds as blood splatters across a tiled wall, evidence of recent violence. Kazuki, a man with partially shaved hair, winces in agony, his arm gushing blood, indicating severe injury. A cascade of blood erupts. In the midst of this chaos, Eren emerges from a brightly lit doorway, his presence casting a long shadow into the dim room. He surveys the carnage. Several figures are sprawled lifelessly on the blood-soaked floor. Another man, still standing, faces Eren with apprehension. Kuniyama Aki's mother remains tied to a wooden chair, her back to the entering light, unaware of the new arrival. A bloodied knife lies ominously on the floor near a fallen figure. Eren stands with a determined expression, his gaze sharp and unwavering. He gestures downward with his hand, a silent command. On the blood-splattered floor, a battered Kaito lies injured, his eyes filled with defiance. Kaito challenges his captors, demanding that they simply kill him. Eren walks calmly through the gruesome scene, two of his subordinates flanking him, each holding a knife. His eyes narrow, observing every detail. In a grim corner of the room, Kuniyama Aki's mother is tied to a wooden chair, her mouth gagged, as the injured Kaito lies helplessly near her. Another man stands close, brandishing a wooden bat. A different subordinate steps forward, his expression intense as he raises his blade, prepared to strike. Eren relentlessly strikes an attacker with a wooden bat, delivering multiple forceful blows. The attacker's body recoils from the impact, and blood splatters across the scene. Eren then produces a knife, driving it into the attacker with brutal efficiency. A gray-haired man observes the unfolding violence with a look of terror, while Kuniyama Aki's mother remains tied to a chair in the background, a helpless witness to the savagery. Eren stands in a dark, blood-splattered room, his gaze sharp and unwavering amidst the violent chaos. Behind him, a scarred thug with a partial mask shouts furiously, demanding that someone drop their weapon immediately. Meanwhile, a gun-wielding thug with short brown hair levels his pistol, scornfully telling the person to know their place as Kuniyama Aki's mother remains tied and gagged in the background. The scene unfolds in a blood-splattered room as a man with short brown hair, clutching a pistol, exclaims in surprise. Kaido, a man with a white beard and intense red eyes, looks around frantically asking where someone has disappeared to. The floor is covered in blood, and in the background Kuniyama Aki's mother is tied to a chair gagged. Eren stands resolute amidst the chaos, holding a staff-like weapon, his dark hair a stark contrast to his pale face. Before him, Ryo, a man with yellow hair on one side of his head and numerous scars, lies defeated on the crimson floor. Eren intently watches Scarred Man, who nervously asks if Eren can let him go. Suddenly, Scarred Man screams, demanding that Eren release him and calling him a monster. Eren brutally kicks Scarred Man, causing him to collapse, his face bloodied. Eren then stands over the defeated Scarred Man, who lies disoriented on the blood-splattered floor. Weakly, Scarred Man pleads for help. Kuniyama Aki stands over an unseen opponent, his boot covered in blood, and declares that they are asking for a lot by seeking his help. He violently stomps down, striking his assailant repeatedly as blood splatters across the floor. Meanwhile, Kuniyama Aki's mother is seen tied to a chair, gagged, her face contorted in distress. Tears well in her eyes as she struggles. After the struggle, Kuniyama Aki looks up, his face splattered with blood, and offers a faint, almost melancholic smile as he tells his mother he is sorry for being late. The boss casually holds a lit cigarette, exhaling smoke. He declares that the red jacket woman should be grateful that it ended with just a finger. The red jacket woman, her face contorted in pain and anger, glares at him and calls him a bastard. The boss smirks smugly, then states that useless trash like her is no better than an ashtray as he flicks his lit cigarette towards her. The red jacket woman flinches, her eyes wide with shock, as the cigarette approaches. Manju grins menacingly, holding up a finger as he declares that depending on his mood, someone might lose their other finger too. He then looks down at his illuminated phone, stating that it looks like it is already over. Manju makes a call, smiling widely, and instructs the person on the other end to make sure to cut it off properly. His expression then hardens as he is greeted by the caller, and Manju responds by acknowledging that it has been a while. A chilling voice asks if Otsuka Ruji has been enjoying his pathetic life, implying that it must have been tough because of the speaker. The scene then shows a gruesome sight: a severed head, a handgun, and a knife lie on a blood-splattered tiled floor. The voice continues, declaring that he should have crushed not just the bullet, but also the head. He then reveals that he has killed those below Otsuka Ruji, showing Eren slumped on a sofa, before mockingly asking if that is a problem since Otsuka Ruji doesn't truly care about his subordinates. Manju, his face splattered with blood and a wicked smile, holds a phone and instructs Otsuka Ruji to stay alive until he arrives. Otsuka Ruji listens intently, his teeth gritted in anguish. Eren holds a phone to his ear, his dark, spiky hair slightly disheveled. Blood splatters his white shirt and face as he glares intensely, his eyes wide and bloodshot. He declares with a furious expression that he is going to tear someone apart with his own hands. A gloved hand clenches and shatters a dark object, sending fragments scattering. Lyra, with long dark hair, lies wounded on the floor, angrily declaring that he is a bastard. Manju, wearing a dark suit and a gold chain, looks down, commanding someone to inform the workers at the factory. With a stern expression, Manji further orders them to deploy everything they have reserved. Manju instructs someone to prepare gas masks as they are heading to the factory. Ayanokoji Asushi questions if gas masks can truly stop it. Manju sharply asks if he has a problem with the order. Ayanokoji Asushi quickly responds that he will let them know right away. Manju then orders them to bring along a woman with long dark hair, who is kneeling on the floor, commenting that even trash can be used for something. The woman looks up with wide, terrified eyes. Eren works to untee the rope from Kuniyama Aki's mother's bloodied wrist. He then asks her if she is hurt. Kuniyama Aki's mother, her face streaked with tears, looks up at him and calls out, "Ken." She then pleads with him, asking him to save Aki. Eren looks ahead with a focused intensity, a fresh injury marking his cheek. He gently holds a hand, its clean skin a stark contrast to the bloodstains on his own. Eren reassures the person, stating that he will handle the situation without worry. He offers a tender smile, though his clothes are visibly stained with blood. He silently acknowledges that he could not make a definite promise to save her. Aaron then declares that their immediate priority is to leave their current location. He walks forward, providing support to Kuniyama Aki's mother, who is dressed in patterned pajamas, her long dark hair falling over her back as she leans on him. Aaron's expression darkens as he grapples with an internal dilemma, pondering a choice between Kuniyama Aki's safety and his own quest for revenge. He questions himself on which path he would ultimately choose. Aaron clutches his head in distress, exclaiming in frustration and questioning what he is supposed to do. He then realizes that they knew he was coming and have now appeared. A man named Kane stands behind Aaron, observing him. Aaron, still panicked, turns to Kane and demands to know if there are people present who are trying to kill him. Aaron expresses confusion, before asserting that they must know what is contained within the surrounding barrels. Uryu, with a goatee and wide, panicked eyes, declares that they are already headed this way. Kinji, a man with dark, spiky hair and a suit jacket, registers a look of dismay. He then clenches his hand, exclaiming that he is done with this situation. Meanwhile, Aaron stands in a gritty, industrial environment, his white shirt stained with blood, with two figures lying incapacitated on the ground. He announces that he has taken care of most of the small fry, and states that all that remains is to wait for Manju to arrive. Aaron spins around, his gaze sharp and focused in the unsettling environment. He cautiously peeks around a corner, his eyes narrowing as he takes in the blood, stained walls and dimly lit space. Aaron steps further into the area, observing several containers and equipment, and he concludes that the place appears to be a drug factory. However, he quickly notices an unusual smoke permeating the air, and he wonders about its origin. Aaron then moves forward into a long, desolate corridor, his expression turning to one of deep questioning as he continues to assess his mysterious surroundings. Aaron unleashes a torrent of red energy, his eyes glowing intensely as he strikes with immense power. Unexpectedly, a distorted, red-tinged spirit, resembling Aaron himself, lunges forward with an outstretched, crackling arm. Aaron reacts with a look of profound surprise and quickly gathers his own red energy, clenching his hand in preparation. He then delivers a powerful blow to a figure wearing yellow gauntlets, sending them careening backward. The figure lies amidst shattered debris, defeated by Aaron's attack. Aaron, with his back to the viewer, surveys the blood-splattered scene and asks what the situation is this time. A man whom we will call Madman, with spiky blonde hair and glowing red eyes, smiles maniacally, his face covered in blood, with red energy crackling around him. Aaron speculates with a serious expression, wondering if they injected unstable nectar. The madman, still consumed by red energy, states that human trafficking, drugs, and even nectar are involved. He then screams in agony as a powerful red energy force erupts from his eye, causing the surroundings to shatter. Aaron stands, his white shirt splattered with blood, as red energy crackles around his hands. He confronts Manju, whose own spiky brown hair and form are enveloped in a similar red aura. Aaron declares that Manju has crossed the line. With incredible speed, Aaron attacks, delivering a powerful blow that sends Manju slamming violently against a surface, causing a spray of blood. Afterwards, Aaron stands calmly amidst the blood-splattered scene, holding a piece of bloody cloth in his hand, his eyes glowing with a yellow intensity. Aaron surveys his surroundings, questioning where the smoke is coming from. Covered in blood, he dismisses the notion that past sacrifices were inadequate. His eyes glow yellow with surprise as he reacts to an unseen event, then wonders about the strange red smoke that appeared. Aaron observes the smoke creeping closer, realizing he must escape the area. Manji stands confidently, holding a large rifle over his shoulder, surrounded by several armed men in dark cars in an outdoor area at night. He declares that Aaron is pretty late, then expresses his worry that Aaron might have died from his small gift. Manju then asks Aaron how he likes it. Aaron, looking serious, replies that it is an extraordinary item. A glowing red and white pill is held up, and a character observes that just one pill can push a human beyond their limits, though most versions available are inferior. Manju, with a menacing smile and a rifle over his shoulder, snaps his fingers as he offers to help search for Yanagimoto. Aaron, his white shirt splattered with blood and looking distressed, dismisses Manju's words as nonsense. Manju then chillingly states that Aaron's sister is essential to create the perfect nectar, adding that as a greeting he went to meet Aaron's parents. Aaron's face is stained with blood, his wide eyes expressing intense distress. Manju, with a confident smile and holding a rifle over his shoulder, declares that they kept quiet about Aaron's sister's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Yanagimoto, looking deeply concerned, explains that even with her extensive information network, she could not find a single thing. Manju then menacingly states, if that's the case, and adds that he should have tortured Aaron's parents some more. Kane, with a wide, sinister grin, suggests that perhaps Aaron's sister's whereabouts would have been revealed if he had made a different choice. Aaron, bloodied but firm, states that he is glad. He admits to having been worried, acknowledging that it would have been troublesome if Kane had run away like last time. He then reiterates his gladness. Aaron stands amidst a desolate, war-torn landscape, blood splattered across his clothes, as a powerful golden energy radiates from his form, with other figures and vehicles visible in the background. Eren stands amidst a fiery, chaotic background, his dark, spiky hair disheveled and his white jacket splattered with red. His eyes glow with an intense yellow light as he declares that showing oneself so casually in front of him is unacceptable. Manju shouts, ordering the armed men to kill him. Eren stands surrounded by the attackers, realizing he cannot afford to hold back his power. He decides to instantly push his influence to the limit as a golden aura and crackling lightning engulf him. The armed men open fire with bullet casings scattering around them. Eren rises into the air, radiating golden energy, and declares he will finish this in one blow. Eren, consumed by crackling yellow energy that intensifies the glow in his eyes, unleashes a devastating beam of power from his hand. The force of the blast impacts the ground with a brilliant explosion, sending several suited figures violently into the air. In a separate moment, Otsuka Ruji stands firmly, also radiating power through a swirling purple aura, his grip tight on a large rifle as he forcefully exhales. Eren, visibly frustrated, curses under his breath as he thinks about the monster before him. He stands within a deeply cracked crater, golden energy radiating outwards, surrounded by overturned vehicles and fallen figures. Mizukami Yugo observes the chaotic scene holding a rifle, and urgently orders his subordinates to use something and disregard all previous commands. Meanwhile, Eren struggles, acknowledging that he cannot unleash his usual power. He wonders if failures are the cause of his diminished strength. A hand firmly adjusts a black gas mask on a person's face, while another masked figure stands nearby. Eren, with bloodstains on his white shirt and eyes glowing yellow, speculates if these masked individuals are the reason for his current predicament as golden energy continues to surge around him. Yanagimoto clutches his face, a realization dawning on him about the effects of the earlier smoke as blood stains his shirt and his eyes glow intensely yellow. Mizukami Yugo, clad in a gas mask and tactical gear, aims a heavy machine gun. Mizukami Yugo declares that facing a monster like Yanagimoto with half-hearted preparations would be ill-advised. He then directly orders Yanagimoto to die. Mizukami Yugo unleashes a ferocious stream of bullets, igniting the ground around Yanagimoto. Yanagimoto's eyes blaze with a golden light as he questions if these are special bullets. He moves with incredible speed, dodging the incoming fire, leaving trails of light as he evades Mizukami Yugo's relentless assault. Eren wonders about the mysterious power behind what appears to be just a regular bullet. He then declares that he needs cover immediately, dodging a barrage of glowing orange projectiles and moving swiftly amidst the damaged environment. A masked figure with red glowing eyes and radiating red lightning energy continues the assault. Eren is struck by the powerful force, his own eyes glowing yellow as red energy bursts around him in a shockwave. The impact violently throws Eren backward, sending him crashing onto the ground amidst debris. He lands hard, bruised and bleeding, and slowly drops to his knees, with blood dripping from his injured body. Someone commands the assailants to shoot as Eren stands amidst the chaos, surrounded by numerous enemies. Powerful energy blasts strike around him as the attacks intensify. Eren declares that these strikes are of such an insignificant level that they will not even register as damage. He inwardly resolves to hold out until his ability fully recovers. With a burst of golden energy, Eren unleashes a fierce counterattack, striking down multiple assailants who press in on him. Eren charges forward, his eyes glowing with golden energy as he extends his hand, unleashing a powerful force. Simultaneously, Scavenger furiously fires 2 submachine guns, a barrage of bullets and casings erupting around him. Eren delivers a devastating kick, sending a weapon flying and violently throwing Scavenger backward, who bleeds profusely from the impact. Eren continues his aggressive advance, moving with incredible speed and power, golden energy trailing him. Nanami then enters the fray, swiftly slashing with her katana, enveloped in red energy as she targets the same opponent. Sylas, wearing a gas mask with glowing red eyes, delivers a devastating punch, surrounded by an aura of crimson energy. Eren, crackling with bright yellow electricity, takes the full impact, his body violently thrown back as blood splatters across his white shirt. The force of the blow creates a blinding explosion of light and energy. Sylas briefly stumbles, his form still wreathed in dark red energy. Eren, though bloodied and reeling, remains upright, his hands still glowing with yellow power. Sylas is now seen kneeling, wearing a white lab coat over his suit, still emitting a menacing red glow. A discarded gas canister lies on the floor, releasing a faint vapor into the air. Amidst a desolate landscape littered with debris, Eren stands, his white shirt splattered with blood, radiating a powerful golden aura. His dark, spiky hair frames a face with intensely glowing yellow eyes. He calmly declares that this is a last-ditch effort, adding with a slight smirk that it is not bad, he must say. Below him, the masked assailant, Cain, collapses to the ground, rage contorting his visible features. Cain desperately fires his weapon, cursing aloud. Damn it. Eren, however, remains unyielding, his powerful aura unwavering. Cain, kneeling on the ground, desperately curses Eren, calling him a bastard. Eren stands firm, his white shirt stained with blood, facing Cain, who holds a pistol. Cain pulls the trigger repeatedly. After exhausting his efforts, a distraught Cain, removing his mask, questions why this is happening. He then puts his gas mask back on, aims his pistol directly, and demands to know why Eren will not simply die. Eren stands defiant, his eyes glowing with an intense yellow light, his body emanating a powerful aura. He clenches his fist and reaches out. Scavenger's eyes widen in shock as a blood-splattered man, Kaido, with spiky brown hair and glowing yellow eyes, stands before him. Kaido, with a sinister smile, asks if wearing something like Scavenger's mask makes it difficult to breathe. Reflected in Scavenger's eye, Kaido's fist, crackling with yellow energy, lunges forward. Kaido delivers a powerful punch directly to Scavenger's face, striking with immense force. Kaido then stands over the incapacitated Scavenger, his knuckles visibly bloodied from the impact and still glowing with residual energy. A severely injured man, his face covered in blood, struggles and groans in pain. An unseen assailant taunts him, asking if he has already passed out and noting that his current state won't do. The assailant questions where his earlier bravado has gone. Suddenly, Kaido, with his piercing yellow eyes glowing intensely, emerges from the shadows, carrying another unconscious man over his shoulder. Kaido observes to his unseen opponents that they also have it tough. He then declares that this time, he is not planning to hold back. Kaido stands amidst the debris of wrecked cars, still holding the injured man. Below him, two figures watch from the ground, one with dark hair tied back and the other bald, as a broken camera lies shattered nearby, marking the scene of conflict. The injured men look on in shock, one gasping for air and covered in blood. Kaido, with his glowing yellow eyes, holds up a small blue vial and declares that this is the antidote the other men are looking for. However, Kaido observes that there is not enough for everyone. He then drops the vial, instructing them to discuss it properly and decide, as the four menacing figures in suits stare with wide, intense eyes. Kaido, with his piercing yellow eyes, holds a small, glowing blue object. Realizing it was the antidote, he dismisses his adversaries, stating that neither the subordinates nor their boss were worth looking at until the very end. Kaido then clenches his fist, a fierce resolve hardening his expression as shadowy red energy begins to emanate from him. He unleashes a powerful blow, striking Mizukami Yugo, whose face contorts with pain and anger as red energy flares around him. Kaido declares that the fight is not yet over, asserting his determination. Kage's face is a mask of pure rage, his features splattered with blood. His eyes burn with an infernal red glow as he lets out a guttural roar, revealing bared teeth. Dark, slicked-back hair frames his contorted visage, while ominous, shadowy energy swirls around him, emphasizing the raw, terrifying power he now wields. Gripped Eren appears severely wounded, his face and shirt splattered with blood as he struggles against an unseen force. He contemplates the impossible, thinking even if someone questions Eren, asking when he will finally give up. Eren clenches his fist, his resolve firm, and declares that he will not accept defeat. He is shown gripping his side, blood staining his white shirt as he pushes back. Eren then makes a final, defiant vow, asserting that no matter what tricks are used against him. His expression contorts into a feral snarl, his bloodied mouth wide as a dark, menacing aura begins to surge from him. Mizukami Yugo, battered and covered in blood, clenches his jaw. His eyes glow with an intense red light as a menacing red energy crackles around his head. He fiercely declares that he will kill his opponent with his own hands. Undeterred by his injuries, Mizukami Yugo affirms that the fight is not yet over, his resolve burning brightly amidst the red aura. Kaido stares intently, his yellow eyes glowing, and mentally dismisses his opponent as an idiot. He then states that if his opponent had remained unconscious, he could have died peacefully. Kaido throws a powerful punch, his fist crackling with yellow energy, striking Eren squarely in the face. Eren's features contort from the impact, his own red eyes glowing fiercely. Undeterred, Eren unleashes a burst of red energy, causing his shirt to rip as his muscles expand. He charges forward, declaring that his opponent's big talk ends now. Eren then taunts Kaido, suggesting he is starting to panic as the smoke fills the area. Kaido clenches his hand, his body emanating a furious red energy as he declares that he will make sure the other person meets their parents in the afterlife. He unleashes a barrage of powerful punches, each blow resonating with intense force. Eren, surrounded by his own vibrant yellow energy, expertly blocks and counters Kaido's relentless assault. The two exchange fierce blows, their fists colliding with explosive impact as the battle intensifies. Kaido strikes Brute, causing blood to splatter from Brute's chest as he recoils in pain. Kaido's eyes glow yellow, and he expresses his irritation. Kaido is surrounded by yellow energy, while Brute stands in the distance, enveloped in red energy, poised for a counter-attack. Kaido reflects that taking any more hits like this will be troublesome. With blood staining his side, Kaido muses that he must act before Brute's body gets used to the power. Kaido then lunges forward, his fist enveloped in intense yellow energy. Kaido delivers a devastating punch to Brute's chest, making Brute scream in agony as a burst of red energy and blood erupts from the impact. Kaido cries out, blood splattering from his mouth as he endures a powerful assault. Destructive impacts erupt around him, tearing through the environment. Despite the chaos, Kaido declares that his strength is gradually returning, needing just a little more. His spiky brown hair frames his face, and his eyes glow intensely with yellow energy, signaling his resurgence. He stands firm, radiating a powerful yellow aura amidst the debris. A small red glowing object lies nearby on the cracked ground, while a damaged car with shattered glass and bullet holes sits in the background, hinting at the violence that unfolded. Kato's face then contorts into a monstrous, fanged visage, dripping blood as immense red energy pulsates around him, signifying a terrifying transformation. Manga Yugo stands in a monstrous, muscular form, glowing with intense red energy and jagged lightning. His eyes glow a fierce red, and his mouth is a wide, menacing grin filled with sharp teeth. He declares that he is Manga Yugo of the Seven Stars Council, a man who single-handedly seized the power of the underworld and the nation, and asserts that no one can stand against him. Eren observes the terrifying transformation, noting to himself that Manga Yugo's presence has completely changed. Kato internally muses that things are becoming truly troublesome. Manga Yugo, in his monstrous form, unleashes a powerful red energy attack. Kaido's yellow energy flares around him as he retaliates, the impact causing a massive explosion that rips through the surroundings. As Kato struggles amidst the debris, Manga Yugo scoffs, stating that even as a level 3 awakened, Kato can only unleash level 2 power at best right now. Manga Yugo transforms into a monstrous, muscular figure enveloped in intense red energy and jagged lightning, with glowing red eyes and a sharp, toothed grin. He declares that he has obtained power equivalent to level 3. Eren observes this transformation, realizing this is what it feels like to become an awakened. Manga Yugo proclaims that with this power, he can understand Eren's arrogant attitude. He then states that everyone now looks like insignificant insects to him. Finally, Manga Yugo menacingly declares that this time, it is Eren's turn to become that insect. Kato is on the ground, surrounded by broken concrete and radiating a soft yellow light. He acknowledges that the last attack hurt him a little. Manga Yugo, now transformed into a monstrous figure enveloped in jagged red lightning and intense energy, questions if Kato will continue to lie to himself. Kaito, with blood trailing from his nose, wipes it away, as Manga Yugo observes that Kato seems to be restricted by something. A fierce grin spreads across Kaito's face, his eyes glowing intensely with yellow energy, and he asks Manga Yugo if he truly believed he was merely a level 3 ability user. Manga Yugo's monstrous form expresses disbelief, roaring that it is nonsense, before looking on with a sudden, puzzled expression. Eren's arm transforms, covered in crackling red energy, as his eyes glow with a fierce yellow light. He completes his horrifying transformation into Manga Yugo, who now stands as a monstrous, muscular figure with dark, spiky hair, enveloped in intense red energy and jagged lightning. Manga Yugo's eyes glow a menacing red, and his sharp, toothed grin stretches wide. He declares that he told them over the phone earlier that he would tear them apart with his own hands, then fiercely warns them not to mess with him. Manga Yugo then states, "I am Manga Yugo," engulfed in red energy and jagged lightning roars, declaring that he is not a man who ends here. His monstrous form lunges forward, unleashing a powerful attack that sends shockwaves through the air. Eren observes Manga Yugo's terrifying transformation, noting that he possesses not just physical enhancement but also regenerative abilities. Manga Yugo continues his ferocious assault, striking with overwhelming force as Eren appears to meet the impact. Bunjin, a man with white hair tied in a top bun, swings a blunt weapon forcefully towards Kuro, who wears a blue shirt and has dark, messy hair. Kuro reacts with a startled expression, exclaiming his surprise. As Bunjin advances, shouting in anger and calling Kuro a bastard, he follows up with a powerful kick. Kuro attempts to defend himself, raising his hand to block the impending assault. Kato finds himself ensnared in a swirling red energy vortex, and he expresses his annoyance at the ability. His eyes glow intensely yellow as he considers his options, declaring his reluctance to use a certain power but implying it has become necessary. With a surge of red energy and jagged lightning, the monstrous form of Manga Yugo manifests around him, its red eyes glowing. Kaito's hands glow yellow, and he states that his opponent is impatient. He then decisively says that if that is the case, so be it. Kaito then fully unleashes the monstrous power, asserting that his opponent started this and should not regret it. Kaito's hands glow with an intense, shimmering light as he gathers a massive amount of energy. The light intensifies, forming into an ethereal, powerful visage of Kaito's smiling face. His full figure then emerges, completely enveloped in a blinding golden aura, as he declares to his opponent that if they do not wish to die, they should try their best to endure it. A desolate, storm-swept landscape stretches out, with overturned vehicles and damaged structures scattered across a gray, rocky terrain. A single figure stands in a large crater, surrounded by more wreckage. A monstrous, bloodied man with sharp, bared teeth and glowing white eyes appears, his muscular body also stained with blood. He thinks that the situation is ridiculous, and believes he should have definitely reached the realm of the awakened. Eren observes the creature, contemplating the immense power it possesses. The creature groans and cries out in agony as destruction and regeneration simultaneously ravage its body as a side effect. Eren stands over the creature as it continues to express its pain, declaring that it hurts immensely and feels like it is dying. A man grimaces in extreme pain, his face contorted in agony, declaring that his suffering is so profound that dying would actually be better. He desperately screams, demanding to be killed. Eren observes him with a calm expression, remarking that the situation is troubling. The tortured man continues to groan in discomfort. Eren then asks if this isn't simply a reward for him, clarifying that rewards are something one receives for doing good deeds. The tortured man lets out another pained grunt as Eren kneels beside him. Eren explains that if he desires a reward, he needs to be a good kid, suggesting he start by honestly revealing something. Kai sits calmly next to a bloodied figure on the ground, a faint smirk playing on his lips. The disfigured man frantically cries out that Kai's sister disappeared in the hidden garden of the north. He warns that by now, those guys are probably cracking open her head and dissecting it. Suddenly, Kai delivers a swift kick to the disfigured man, silencing him. Kai then declares that the disfigured man should stop babbling about such nonsense. The disfigured man responds with a sinister laugh, which leaves Kai looking startled and confused. Hiro stands over Ryo, who lies severely beaten and bleeding on the ground. Ryo defiantly declares that Hiro thinks the Seven Stars Council only has Ka backing them. Hiro retorts that Ryo is just a fish out of water. Ryo warns Hiro that if he messes with them, he will die an even more miserable death than Ryo. Ryo then adds a warning that Hiro should not think the people around him will be unharmed either. Hiro declares that Ryo's foolish revenge ends here. Ryo, still struggling, asks Hiro what is wrong and questions if he has finally decided to kill him. The aggressor violently punches the brutalized man's head, splattering blood. The brutalized man's eyes show immense pain as the aggressor then stomps on his hand with a bloody foot, eliciting a pain scream. The aggressor states he will grant the brutalized man the reward he desired. Meanwhile, the glowing figure stands enveloped in a brilliant, fairy aura. The glowing figure declares to Manju that he is the first to witness this event. Manju, whose face bears many scars, looks on as the glowing figure extends a hand and touches his forehead, causing Manju's eyes to glow. Manju kneels on the ground, his body bruised and scarred. He looks up in shock, questioning what is happening, as a powerful, bright energy begins to erupt from within him, engulfing him in a radiant light. Jiro pushes his hand against a wall, his face etched with distress. He questions if he was too late. Jiro then stands over Kane, who kneels on the ground, looking up with a terrified expression. Jiro asks Kane if he knows Kuniyama Aiki. Kane responds that she is on the second floor of the building next door and urges Jiro to hurry, his face contorted in fear. Eren expresses surprise, and an internal thought reveals that the boss has given orders to eliminate a specific individual if the situation deteriorates. A closed door is visible. Then, someone calls out Manju's name, lamenting that that guy persisted until the very end. Kane walks away, leaving Eren on the ground. Eren looks up with wide, intense eyes, while Manju gazes downwards, his heavily scarred face visible. Ken stands looking ahead with a serious expression, while Aki is partially visible behind him. Ken indicates that they have been expecting someone. Aki then recognizes Ken, calling out his name as they hold hands. Suddenly Ryu appears, calling out to Aki in distress. Aki rushes to Ryu, embracing him tightly as he holds her. Aki buries her face into Ryu's chest, expressing her frustration that he is a bit late. She then tearfully tells Ryu how scared she was while waiting. Ryu looks on with an intense gaze. Leon comforts Aki Koyama, apologizing and stating that he should have come sooner. He feels disgusted with himself and wonders which one he would choose if he had to choose between Aki Koyama's safety and his own. He reflects that he had many chances to go to Aki Koyama's side but ultimately acted for his own interests, concluding that he is a selfish guy. Meanwhile, Kane stands nearby, observing Leon as he holds Aki Koyama. Kane gravely announces that Yugo is dead. Aki Koyama, looking distressed, declares that she should not have left the matter to that thug. Yanagimoto Ken then states that, either way, conflict was inevitable as long as Yanagimoto was alive. Kane states that even now, they have to take down Yanagimoto. Elara appears shocked, then declares that Yanagimoto is the root cause of the entire conflict. Elara stands up, widely gesturing, and loudly asks if everyone is ignoring what happened, questioning if they have forgotten how they saved everyone's lives the last time this occurred. Kane responds, accusing Elara of trying to shift the blame and step back, and demands to know what she is thinking. Kane then stumps his foot. Kane tells Elara to go sit quietly in the corner of the room, if all she can do is tremble in fear. He offers to help everyone out this time and instructs her to kill the target next time. Elara, looking distressed, recoils from Kane's words. Serafina states that they should make sure to tell Kay as well. Manjo responds that he understands and tells Serafina not to get so worked up, adding that their first priority is to deal with Yugo's faction as he taps his fingers on the table. Kyoya observes that the Mafia has been keeping a sharp watch, especially since the calamity in the eastern neighboring country. A katana rests on a wooden stand. Ryu questions if Manju is dead and then asks if he properly chose a successor candidate while Jiro stands nearby. Kaido declares that only a limited number of people can be trusted on the ground. Lena, sitting behind him, wonders who moved the Shichisekai. Her eyes narrow as she realizes it is someone named Yanagimoto Ken. Lena reacts with a surprised expression. Meanwhile, Ryu sits in an armchair, smoking, and ponders if it is the guy who made a name for himself in Japan back then. Manji asks if Ken Yanagimoto was causing trouble at the university. Minami confirms that this is correct. Manju extinguishes his cigarette in an ashtray. Manji suggests they include the trouble at college and consider the story finished. He then instructs Minami that from now on, she will follow Ken Yanagimoto and gather information. Kyra states that if necessary, she does not care if the individual is killed.
The scene shows a destroyed street filled with cars. A massive crater sits in the middle of the road, showing the aftermath of a big fight. A black car pulls up nearby. A man in a suit opens the door for a woman, ensuring she is safe and unhurt. Eki is sitting at the back of an ambulance. She looks tired and is wrapped in a blanket, but she is safe now. Men in yellow hazmat suits are investigating the area. They shine flashlights into the dark corners to check for any danger. One of the workers finds something. It looks like the body of the enemy, Yuyubo, buried in the rubble. Ken watches everything silently from the side. He looks deep in thought as he sees the cleanup crew working. The ambulance and police cars are busy in the background. Ken realizes that the government is trying to cover up this mess quickly. The man in the suit stands next to Ken. He looks serious and starts explaining the situation to him. The man looks out at the scene. He tells Ken that they have been doing these secret operations for a long time. Ken holds a glowing red crystal in his hand. He stares at it intently, feeling the strange power coming from it. The man continues to explain. He talks about a red monster that was created from a strange power source. He mentions a substance called nectar. He explains that people are desperate to get their hands on it because of its power. The scene shifts to a dark office with the TS logo. A shadowy figure sits at a desk, plotting something involving this power. Ken listens carefully. The man explains that low-quality nectar makes you strong but has bad side effects. Ken remembers seeing Enki. She looked scared and confused when they found her in a hospital room. The memory shows Enki hugging someone tightly. She was crying, relieved to be alive after everything that happened. The suit man looks serious. He says that the perfect nectar is rumored to give a person an immortal body that never dies. Ken turns to face the man. The man says that his organization wants to offer Ken safety and protection at their headquarters. Ken looks down, suspicious. He asks if this protection is actually just a way to study him or use his blood. The man in the suit steps closer. He tries to intimidate Ken, saying that the higher the power, the more valuable Ken is to them. Ken smiles, but it's a scary smile. He realizes these people don't really want to help him. They just want to use him. The man in the suit suddenly looks nervous. He feels the intense pressure coming from Ken and starts to sweat. Behind the man, several large bodyguards in suits stand ready. They are watching Ken closely, waiting for a fight. Ken stares the man down. He asks if safety really means locking him up in a lab to be tested on. The man in the suit stays silent. He knows Ken has figured out their plan, and he looks very uncomfortable. Ken's expression turns cold. He tells them that he knows they are trying to corner him by using the people around him. The man in the suit tries to regain his composure. He wipes the sweat from his face, trying to look tough again. He glares back at Ken. He tells Ken that he doesn't really have a choice in this matter. Ken turns away, looking bored. He starts to walk off, showing he isn't afraid of their threats. The man watches him go. He realizes that simple threats won't work on someone as strong as Ken. Suddenly, the man pulls out his phone. He shows Ken a video on the screen to grab his attention. The video shows a birthday party. Aki is there, smiling and celebrating with her friends. She looks happy and safe. Ken looks at the phone screen. His eyes widen slightly as he sees Aki in the video. The man in the suit explains. He says they threw a birthday party for Aki to keep her happy and calm. The man smiles creepily. He says Aki thinks they are kind people who saved her, so she trusts them completely. Ken glares at the man. He realizes they are holding Aki hostage nicely so she won't run away. The man's face twists into a smug grin. He asks Ken if he will cooperate now for the sake of Aki and her safety. The man touches his chin, looking satisfied. He knows he has found Ken's weak spot. He gives a wide, ugly smile. He tells Ken that if he comes with them, Aki will continue to be treated like a princess. Ken sighs and agrees. He holds his chest, looking annoyed, but says he will go with them to check his own condition too. Ken turns his back to the man. He warns him to stop with the creepy faces and just lead the way. The man in the suit looks relieved. He quickly agrees and says he will take Ken to the headquarters immediately. Ken smirks over his shoulder. He tells the man to prepare the strongest training facility they have because he wants to test it. The scene changes to a large, white building. This is the National Security Committee headquarters where they are going. Ken walks down a hallway. He is now wearing a casual jacket and looks relaxed as he enters the building. Inside a room, Eki is sitting on a bed. She looks surprised to see someone entering her room. Eki smiles brightly. She sees Ken and looks genuinely happy that he came to visit her. Ken stands in the room with her. It looks like a nice hospital room with a desk and a comfortable bed. Aki sits on the edge of the bed. She slides off to greet Ken, looking much better than before. Ken smiles back at her gently. He is glad to see that she is safe and recovering well. Ken asks Iki how she is doing. He also asks about her mother and if she is okay. Aki looks at him. She tells him that her mom is in the hospital, but she is doing fine. Aki smiles, but it looks a bit sad. She asks Ken why he came all the way here to see her. Ken looks down. He apologizes to her for dragging her into his dangerous mess and causing her trouble. Aki clenches her fist on the bedsheet. She shakes her head, telling him he doesn't need to apologize. Aki looks up with a forced smile. She reminds him that she told him she was fine when they first met. The screen goes dark for a moment. It represents the heavy feelings Aki is holding back inside. A tear drops onto a phone screen. Aki is looking at her phone, and she can't hold back her emotions anymore. She starts crying. She covers her face with one hand, letting out all the fear she was hiding. She looks away, wiping her tears. She admits that even though she tried to be strong, it was actually really hard for her. Ken listens silently. He looks sad as he watches her cry, feeling guilty for what she went through. Aki continues to cry. She says she was terrified when she found out her mom was taken from the hospital. Ken sits on the bed next to her. He places a hand on her head to comfort her as she lets it all out. Aki laughs through her tears. She says she used to think she was tough, but this situation proved she wasn't. Tears stream down her face. She admits that the thought of dying or getting hurt was more terrifying than she ever imagined. We see Ken's thoughts in bubbles. He realizes that she was putting on a brave face this whole time just to not worry him. The view shifts to show Aki's back. Ken's hand is gently resting on her shoulder, offering her support. A flower pot with white daisies sits in the foreground. In the background, Ken sits with Iki, telling her that she didn't give up. The scene changes to outside the building. It is a sunny day, and the pavement is clean. Suddenly, a foot stomps down hard on the ground. Someone has just landed outside the headquarters. The view zooms in on the sneaker. The impact is heavy, showing that this person is strong and confident. The camera pans up. It is a woman with purple hair tied in a ponytail. She looks serious and ready for action. She carries a long sword on her back. She stands in front of the massive headquarters building, looking up at it with a determined expression. After everything is settled, the girl waves goodbye to Ken from the car window, looking happy to be safe. Ken waves back politely as the car drives away, taking the people he protected to a safe place. He watches the car disappear down the road, feeling relieved that they are now under the protection of the National Security Committee. Now that he is alone, Ken's expression turns serious. He knows that his job isn't finished yet. He hears a noise and looks to the side, realizing that someone has been waiting for him. The blue-haired woman stands there holding a wooden sword. She has a sharp look in her eyes. Ken looks at her without surprise. He knows she is from the organization that watches awakened people. She stares back at him silently, observing his every move. She looks calm but ready for action, wondering what Ken will do next. Ken sighs, looking annoyed. He realizes that getting rid of this watchdog won't be easy. Ken puts his hands in his pockets and asks why she is still following him. He looks down, hoping she will just leave him alone so he can rest. The woman is shocked by his rude attitude. She didn't expect him to be so dismissive of a government agent. Ken ignores her shock and starts walking away. The woman quickly runs after him, shouting for him to wait. Ken keeps walking, but he glances to the side. He sees that she is still following him closely. They arrive at a large white training facility. Ken stands in the middle of the room, looking at the empty space. He stretches his neck, getting ready to test his body after his recent transformation. Suddenly, he moves into a fighting stance as the training program begins. A holographic screen appears, announcing that level 20 training is starting. Massive machine guns rise from the floor. The guns immediately start firing. Ken runs forward at high speed, dodging the rain of bullets. Bullets explode everywhere, bouncing off the floor and walls as Ken moves like a blur. Ken stops moving. Smoke rises from his body, but he stands tall amidst the chaos. The guns stop firing and retreat into the floor. The first phase of the training is complete. Ken looks at his hands. He feels different. The poison from his last fight has made him immune to attacks, and his body has fully healed. Golden energy starts to crackle around his hands. He decides to test his new power. A bright yellow light flashes through the room as he releases his energy. The woman watches from the observation room, covering her eyes from the blinding light. Ken's eye widens as he focuses his power on a single point on the ground. A massive vortex of magma and fire erupts from the floor, melting everything in its path. Ken smiles with satisfaction. His molting process is finished and he is stronger than ever. Ken stands in the ruined room, picking his ear casually as if the destruction was nothing special. In the observation room, the woman and her superior, a man in a suit, stare in silence. The man thinks about the monsters they face. He knows that normal powers cannot defeat them easily. He imagines a giant golden eye, the symbol of true power. He wonders where Ken's power comes from. They look down at Ken through the glass. The man realizes that Ken is not just a normal awakened user. Ken looks at his hand again, wondering why his aim was slightly off during the attack. The man in the suit watches Ken closely. He is analyzing Ken's threat level. He compares Ken to the legends. He suspects Ken might be at the 4th stage, or maybe even in the realm of gods. The thought of a human having the power of a god terrifies and amazes him. Ken smirks at the glass, sensing that they are talking about him. Inside the office, the man in the suit leans on his desk, looking tired after seeing the data. Ken walks into the room with a towel around his neck, looking fresh after his workout. The man hands Ken a report about his physical capabilities. Ken takes the paper, reading the results of his training session. The woman stands behind them. She looks at Ken's back, feeling competitive. She steps forward with a determined look. She wants to prove that she is strong too. She tells the man that she wants to try the training simulation next. The man frowns. He warns her that it is too dangerous for her level. Ken watches them argue, not really caring what she does. The woman draws her sword and smiles confidently. She refuses to back down. The man sighs, realizing he can't stop her. Ken smiles, amused by her stubbornness. He decides to let her learn the hard way. The woman enters the training room holding her sword, ready to fight. She poses confidently, looking like a true warrior. Some time later, the scene changes completely. The woman is sitting in a wheelchair, covered in bandages and casts. Ken stands in front of her, yelling. He looks angry that she was so reckless. He scolds her for trying a level that was way too high for her. The man in the suit stands by the window, watching them. The woman blushes from embarrassment and shame. Her face turns red as Ken lectures her. Ken continues to look at her with disappointment, while the man stays silent in the background. The woman snaps. She can't handle the insults anymore and grips the armrest of her wheelchair. She tries to stand up, shaking with anger. She swings her fist at Ken, but she is too weak and misses completely. She loses her balance and falls forward out of the chair. The man in the suit quickly catches her before she hits the ground. Later, she is lying in a hospital bed, looking exhausted and defeated. The man looks at her sleeping face, feeling a bit of pity. He turns his attention back to Ken. He realizes that Ken was right to scold her. The man thinks to himself, if he can make Ken an ally, it would be a huge advantage for the organization. He adjusts the blanket for the woman and prepares to leave the room. The man walks toward the door, but stops to say one last thing. He looks back at Ken with a serious expression. He tells Ken to follow him, because he has a present for him since he is trusting him with the girl. Ken smirks, interested in what this reward might be. Jianzhua looks closely at the deputy director. He tells him that he expected his muscles and organs to be in bad shape, but this is much worse than he thought. Jianzhua explains that the director's body is a complete mess inside. He warns him that to gain power, he must pay an equal price for it. Jianzhua says he has to rebuild the director's body from the inside out. He asks if the director can handle the terrible pain that comes with it. As the process begins, the director remembers his past. He thinks back to a time when he was working with the security team during a dangerous mission. In his memory, there was a huge explosion. Someone shouted that the hostages were still inside and the situation was critical. Despite the danger, the director had walked into the fire. He remembers how almost every mission felt impossible, but he kept going. He recalls carrying a survivor out of the flames. Seeing a successful rescue always filled him with overwhelming emotions and pride. He had admired the awakened heroes so much that he wanted to be just like them. He was willing to give everything he had to reach that level. Back in the present, the director sits on the floor. He tells Jianzhua that he doesn't care about the cost, even if it means risking his life, because his life has little value to him otherwise. Jianzhua accepts his answer. He places his hands on the director's back and begins to transfer energy to rebuild his body. The energy flows into the director. His face twists as he tries to hold back the scream from the intense pain tearing through him. The pain becomes too much and he slams his fists onto the ground, struggling to stay conscious as his body changes. Unable to hold it in anymore, he screams loudly. A bright golden light bursts from his body, signaling that the procedure is working. Once the procedure is finished, Jiang Zuo steps out of the room. He opens the door calmly, leaving the director to recover. Jiang Zuo looks tired but calm. He checks the hallway to see if anyone is waiting for him outside the room. The purple-haired assistant is waiting in the hallway. She looks worried and wonders how the operation went inside. She notices Jiang Zuo coming out of the room. She quickly stands up straight, anxious to hear the news. Jiang Zuo looks at her silently. He doesn't look happy or sad, just neutral, which makes her more nervous. She looks past him toward the room. She can sense the power in the air and wonders if the director survived the risky process. Jiang Zuo walks past her without stopping. The assistant leans against the wall, relieved that the immediate tension is over. The assistant gathers her courage. She looks at Jiang Zuo's back and asks him a serious question that has been on her mind. She asks if she can become an awakened to using the same method. She imagines a staircase of light leading up to power. She pictures the deputy director standing at the top of those stairs. She wants to follow the path he just took to get stronger. Jiang Zuo stops and turns to her. He tells her that her situation is completely different from the director's. He explains that the director had already built a foundation that just needed repairing, but for her, she would have to build the stairs from the very ground up. The assistant looks disappointed and sad. She realizes that trying to take a shortcut to power is not as easy as she thought. Jiang Zuo warns her seriously. He says if she tries to get strong too quickly without the basics, she will have to pay an even greater price. She clutches the handle of her sword tight. Jiang Zuo asks her why she is so obsessed with becoming stronger right now. A flashback shows a ruined city destroyed by monsters. She says her reason is personal and related to the disaster that happened in the past. Jiang Zuo looks down at her. She mentions that she heard a rumor that a person holding a key is necessary to stop the disaster. She looks at him with determination. She believes that this key is connected to the cause of the disaster and she wants to find it to save everyone. Jiang Zuo turns away again. He tells her that this hallway is not the right place to discuss such sensitive information. He starts walking away. He warns her that he hates liars, and if her plan puts the key in danger, he won't be happy. The scene shifts to a different location. A blonde woman is smiling while sitting at a table, looking very relaxed. A hooded young man appears on a digital screen in front of her. He is the hacker named Oriokuma, and he seems amused. The blonde woman talks to the screen. She asks Oriokuma if he is having fun watching the events unfold. On the screen, Oriokuma is watching footage of Jiang Zuo. He comments that the protagonist's growth is currently too slow for his liking. A dark, shadowy figure is shown in the background. Oriokuma explains that their plan requires definitive growth from the key player. Oriokuma smiles mischievously. He says he just made a few adjustments to the plan to speed things up. He looks excited, like a gamer making a move. He says that lying is boring, but manipulating the story is fun. Oriokuma continues his explanation. He talks about common story tropes where heroes get stronger when they are pushed into a corner. The blonde woman listens while holding her teacup. She seems interested in his twisted logic about how to force the protagonist to evolve. She leans forward on the table. She asks him if he thinks getting in Jiang Zuo's way is really a good idea. Oriokuma waves his hand in the air. He says the protagonist always awakens his true power when someone important to them is in danger. He grins widely, looking very creepy. He asks the blonde woman if that isn't a very common and effective trope in stories. Two screens appear showing different people. Oriokuma says he needs Jiang Zuo to grant his wish, so he will set the stage for him. A close-up of a purple robotic eye is shown. The hacker is using his surveillance to target someone close to Jiang Zuo. The scene changes to a quiet room with tables and chairs. A man in a suit is sitting alone, waiting for someone. The man in the suit looks calm but dangerous. He clasps his hands together, waiting for the target to walk into the trap. A young brown-haired girl walks into the room. She looks nervous and stands politely in front of the man. The girl smiles nervously. She doesn't realize she is walking into a dangerous situation set up by the hacker. The man in the suit looks at her. He speaks in a cold tone and says, "I've been waiting for you, Aoi Miyahara." Aoi Miyahara bowed politely to the man sitting in front of her, introducing herself with a nervous smile. She sat down, looking at the man, asking why a high-ranking government official from the National Security Council wanted to meet her. The official looked at her calmly. He apologized for the sudden meeting but said he had urgent news to share. They sat in a quiet corner of the cafe. The official started talking about a dangerous gas leak incident at an abandoned factory. From behind, the official appeared serious and professional, holding the reporter's full attention. He explained that the incident was covered up, but he wanted to share the truth with her because the public needed to know. AI listened intently. She knew about the explosion, but had been stopped by the police from reporting on it earlier. She remembered the chaotic scene at the factory, where police lines blocked anyone from getting close. Flashes of cameras and reporters shouting questions filled her memory, reminding her how strange that day was. Back in the present, AI looked at the man, wondering if she could trust this sudden source of information. AI looked down, her expression full of worry and confusion after hearing the official's words. The official took a slow sip of his coffee, watching her emotional reaction with a cold, calculating gaze. He gave a sharp sideways glance, noticing the other people in the cafe. In the background, a cafe worker recognized AI and whispered to a colleague about the famous reporter. AI drank her coffee nervously, the bitter taste doing little to calm her shaking nerves. She placed the cup down on the saucer, the clinking sound loud in the tense silence. From behind a wall, the official watched AI closely, assessing if she was buying his story. The scene shifted slightly. The official was now sitting alone, looking satisfied with how the meeting went. He poured himself some water from a glass bottle, his movements relaxed. He picked up the documents he brought, ready to move on to the next phase of his plan now that the seed was planted. AOA's face was pale with shock. The official asked if her judgment was clouded because she knew the suspect personally. He slid a document across the table. It was a wanted poster featuring Ken's face, labeling him a dangerous criminal. The official watched her reaction closely, knowing that the evidence was shaking her confidence in Ken. AI's hand trembled as she reached out to touch the paper, her mind racing with doubt. She looked up, sweat running down her face. She tried to argue that Ken wasn't a bad person based on his past behavior. The official smiled smoothly, telling her that she didn't know the real Ken and that he was far from a hero. AI slammed her hand on the table, feeling defensive but cornered by the official's logical arguments. The man remained calm, continuing to speak about Ken's supposed crimes in the underworld. AI hesitated, torn between her trust in Ken and the facts presented by the government official. The official took another sip of his drink, confident that he had manipulated her successfully. The official began to describe a horrific scene, painting a picture of bodies lying on the ground in a pool of blood. He claimed that the man responsible for this violence walked through the destruction without any mercy. In his story, the man named Ken appeared like a terrifying monster surrounded by a dark and dangerous aura. AI looked shocked and scared as she listened to these terrible accusations against someone she thought was a friend. The official stood up, towering over her, and invited her to follow him to his office to see the full files. AI looked up at him, feeling small and pressured to comply with his requests. He turned his back and started walking, expecting her to follow him without question. AI stood up slowly, her legs feeling heavy as she prepared to leave the safety of the cafe. She walked forward with her head down, her expression full of doubt. Outside, they walked toward the massive National Security Council building, AI stepping into the lion's den. Suddenly, a door opened in a different location, and May walked in wearing a tracksuit. Ken, who was resting on a sofa, looked over his shoulder to see who had entered. May had a blank, unbothered expression on her face as she stepped into the room. Ken leaned back, watching her with a critical eye, analyzing her presence. He turned his head slightly, wondering if she had sensed his distress or just came for something else. Ken's eyes widened slightly as he focused on her, assessing her strength. May gulped nervously, sweat forming on her face as she felt the intensity of Ken's stare. Ken watched her silently, thinking about her potential role as a key in the coming battles. He looked thoughtful, realizing that despite her power, relying only on her might not be enough. May stood there awkwardly, waiting for him to say something, her posture stiff under his gaze. Ken stood by a large window, looking out at the city while holding a small black box. He explained that the box was a bug-jamming device to keep their conversation safe from listeners. A memory flashed in his mind of strange demon-like women and the mention of a key during the disaster. Ken grabbed his head as a sudden headache struck him, the memories becoming painful and intense. He rubbed his temple, trying to focus. The voice he heard at the disaster site was bothering him. He remembered the chaos and fire of the past, realizing that these events were not random accidents. On the wall, an investigation board was filled with photos and red strings. Aoi's photo was pinned right in the center. The web of connections was complex. Ken realized that the situation was escalating quickly. Ken stared at the board intently. He knew he had to destroy the Seven Stars Association soon. He sat back on the couch, looking exhausted. He realized he couldn't do this alone. He needed allies. Ken thought about the person he was waiting for, someone he could trust to watch his back. He rested his chin on his hand, looking gloomy as he realized his contact wasn't answering yet. Ignoring the heavy mood, May happily started munching on a snack she brought with her. Ken glanced at her, annoyed that she was eating so carelessly while he was stressing out. May ignored him completely, chewing loudly and looking away with an innocent face. She continued to stuff her face with sweets, imagining happy cats floating around her, completely in her own world. Outside in a parking lot, the atmosphere was much more serious and dangerous. Heavy weapons were being loaded. A hand gripped a large rifle tightly. A team of SWAT soldiers and mercenaries waited by an armored truck, ready for a fight. The soldiers sat on crates, looking bored but alert, waiting for their commander to arrive. The soldiers turned their heads as they heard the roar of an engine approaching. A large, dark-skinned soldier with a beard looked up, his expression stern. He was wearing heavy tactical armor, looking like a tank in human form. Another soldier questioned who was arriving, looking toward the sound. A bright red sports motorcycle drifted into the area, coming to a stylish stop in front of the team. The rider removed his helmet, shaking out his bright red hair. It was the ally Ken had been waiting for. He smiled confidently, apologizing for being late but declaring that he made it just in time. A young man with bright red hair stands alone in a dim parking garage. He turns around with a playful smile, apologizing for arriving later than everyone else. He walks casually toward a large, intimidating man who is waiting for him. The large man looks annoyed and warns the boy to watch his attitude. The boy just waves his hand dismissively, not taking the warning seriously at all. The large man stands silently next to a motorcycle in the foggy garage. The red-haired boy stretches his arms high, acting bored and relaxed. He sits down on a nearby bench and asks what their mission is for the day. The large leader stares down at him with a serious expression. He pulls out a photograph to show the boy who their target is. The boy looks closely at the photo of a handsome man with dark hair. The picture shows the face of the specific target they need to eliminate. The leader hands the boy a small glass vial filled with purple liquid. The boy acts shocked and jumps back, pretending to be scared of the item. He asks what this strange liquid is and why he is being given it. Behind him, a masked ninja sits silently, listening to the conversation. The boy keeps talking loudly, making a big scene about the mysterious drug. The leader explains that it is a power-boosting drink provided by their bosses. The large man towers over the boy, pressuring him to take the mission seriously. The boy looks down at his trembling hands, staring at the purple vial. The group of mercenaries sits together in the garage, waiting for the signal. The red-haired boy smiles brightly, seeming excited about the coming fight. The large leader remains stone-faced and focused on the job. He touches his earpiece, listening to a command coming from headquarters. The ninja and the other team members look over, ready to move. The boy holds the vial, wondering if he will actually need to use it. Outside the building, a man in a suit and a young woman walk toward the entrance. The woman looks nervous and glances sideways as she walks. They pass through a long line of uniformed guards standing at attention. The man and woman continue walking past the heavy security detail. The woman looks around anxiously, feeling uncomfortable with so many guards. The security team stands completely still, blocking off the area. From a high angle, the lobby is filled with dozens of armed soldiers. Elsewhere, a purple-haired woman looks annoyed and frustrated. She walks down a hallway with the dark-haired hero, complaining to him. She yells at him for treating her like a child during their conversation. She turns her head away, still pouting about his comments. Inside an office, a nervous man in a shirt leans against the door, sweating. The dark-haired hero approaches the room with a confident smirk. The nervous man looks up in fear as the hero and a woman enter the room. The hero stands comfortably with his arms crossed, staring at the man. The nervous man looks pale and terrified, sweating heavily. The hero places a friendly hand on the man's shoulder to calm him down. The purple-haired woman stands behind them, watching the interaction closely. Suddenly, the hero pushes the man back, sensing something is wrong. A man in sunglasses bursts into the room with his own security team. The man in sunglasses shouts orders, revealing that this was a trap. The hero looks at the new enemies with a sharp, focused gaze. The nervous man suddenly rips his shirt open, revealing a muscular body. The hero watches calmly as the nervous man transforms into a fighter. The muscular enemy looms over them, looking down with arrogance. The purple-haired woman quickly steps forward to block his path. She looks back at the hero, waiting for his signal to attack. The hero looks at the enemies without any fear in his eyes. The woman grips the handle of her sword, ready to pull it out. The hero begins to put on a pair of black tactical gloves. He pulls the gloves tight, making sure they are secure for the fight. He turns his back to the camera, his body language showing total confidence. The muscular man and the sunglasses man wait for him to make a move. The hero and the swordswoman stand side by side, ready to take out the trash. A secret file is placed on the desk titled Illegal Trespassing. The woman, Miyahara, picks up the document with a serious look on her face. She looks up in confusion, asking what this place was actually used for. The man in the suit leans against the wall and smiles mysteriously at her. The desk is covered in scattered photos and files detailing the secret. Miyahara reads the papers closely, her eyes widening as she learns the truth. She is shocked and asks if Yanagimoto Medical was really involved in this. Outside, a large modern building stands tall under the blue sky. Inside the lobby, the man in the suit talks to a large captain while guards stand by. Captain listens as the man gives him strict orders to watch Miyahara. Later, the captain touches his earpiece, listening to a report with a serious face. He yells into the radio, demanding to know what is happening outside. He is suddenly shocked by the loud noise coming from the entrance. Suddenly, a massive armored truck smashes through the glass walls. The truck flies through the air, sending debris everywhere. The captain covers his face to protect himself from the flying glass. The heavy truck skids across the floor and comes to a sudden stop. The door opens, and black boots step out onto the lobby floor. The captain stares angrily at the intruder who just crashed in. The main hero, looking stylish in a long coat, stands confidently in the hall. The hero smirks, looking completely relaxed despite the danger. Beside him, the swordswoman Aikuji stands ready with a cold expression. The soldiers in the background hesitate, unsure of what to do. The captain watches them from behind, his neck thick with muscle. The hero and his allies stare down the enemy team without fear. The view zooms down the long hallway where the enemies are waiting. The hero's face is shadowed as he smiles, enjoying the situation. The three intruders begin walking calmly toward the army. The captain screams out a loud order for his men to open fire. The soldiers immediately pull their triggers, spraying bullets everywhere. Aikuji spins her sword rapidly, creating a shield against the bullets. She lowers her body and dashes forward, dodging the gunfire. Sparks fly everywhere as her blade deflects the incoming shots. She moves like a blur, cutting through the air toward the soldiers. With a wide swing of her sword, she clears the space in front of her. Captain gritted his teeth, annoyed that his men are missing. Aikuji stands protectively in front of the hero and the suit guy. She points her sword forward, challenging anyone to come closer. The captain crouches down, looking like a beast ready to pounce. He stands tall, blocking the path of the vehicle behind him. The captain turns his head, and his eyes begin to glow with red light. The soldiers stand frozen, awaiting his mental command. The man in the blue jacket looks down, noticing something strange. The captain's eyes shine bright red as he activates his ability. The hero and Aikuji notice the change in the atmosphere. Aikuji tightens her grip on her sword, sensing danger. Suddenly, all the soldiers' eyes glow red, just like the captain's. The captain flexes his gloves, controlling his army like puppets. The soldiers drop their rifles, letting them clatter to the floor. Instead of guns, they all pull out combat knives in perfect sync. Suddenly, a car behind the hero speeds up to escape the chaos. The suit guy yells out, telling Yanagimoto to seize the chance and run. The hero watches calmly as the car zooms past him. Lightning crackles around the area, destroying the floor. A massive beam of light blasts through the soldiers, clearing a path. A soldier tries to block the way, but is blown back by the force. The black car smashes through the obstacles, driving away fast. The captain charges up a ball of red energy, furious at the escape. Aikuji watches him, ready to intercept his attack. The captain reaches out with his glowing red hand to stop them. He bursts forward with a red aura, moving incredibly fast. He slams the ground, creating a massive shockwave of energy. He flies through the air like a missile, aiming for Aikuji. He throws a massive punch, his fists surrounded by red power. Aikuji raises her sword to block the heavy strike. His fist collides with her blade, creating a huge impact. The force of the clash causes an explosion of wind and dust. A bright white light blinds everyone for a second. Aikuji is pushed back, sliding across the floor from the hit. She looks up, sweating, shocked by the incredible pressure he puts out. The captain glares at her with a terrifying expression, ready to kill. The large bearded man attacks with a powerful punch, his fist glowing with red energy. However, the man in the suit dodges the attack smoothly, moving his head to the side. He moves incredibly fast, leaving only a blur as he avoids the dangerous strikes. The suited man stays calm and keeps his distance while the big man continues to swing. He slides backward on the floor, creating some space between him and his attacker. The man in the suit realizes that the big guy's massive body isn't just for show. He remembers hearing rumors that this man became weak after a failed experiment, but seeing this strength, he knows he cannot afford to underestimate this opponent. The big man pulls out a sharp combat knife, looking ready to kill. The suited man raises his fists, preparing to fight seriously against this strong enemy. The fight continues intensely as they exchange fast movements and strikes. Suddenly, the suited man grabs the big guy's arm, stopping his attack. He twists his body, using his enemy's own weight against him. With a loud crash, he slams the large man violently into the wall. The impact is huge, shattering the glass and sending debris flying everywhere. The suited man falls back, watching the dust settle from the powerful throw. But suddenly, a burst of energy explodes from where the big man landed. A heavy fist punches through the smoke, showing that the fight is not over. The big man leaps out from the dust, landing heavily on the ground. The ground cracks under his feet as he stares down the suited man with glowing eyes. The big man is shocked that his opponent handled his power so easily. Suddenly, the suited man releases a terrifying dark aura from his body. Behind him, a group of soldiers appears, their eyes glowing ominously red. The purple-haired woman draws her sword, realizing she is surrounded by enemies. A soldier rushes at her with a knife, moving with unnatural speed. She realizes these soldiers are brainwashed and follow orders without hesitation. She gets ready to fight, knowing these men are like living killing machines. A massive soldier charges forward like a tank to crush her. She drops low to the ground, sliding under his heavy attack. Moving quickly, she strikes back, slashing her sword upwards. She begins to fight multiple enemies at once, her sword moving in a blur. She cuts through the soldiers, blood spraying into the air from her strikes. Another soldier attacks from the side, but she cuts him down instantly. She twists her body gracefully, slashing with perfect aim. Suddenly, she senses a deadly threat coming from a distance. High above, a sniper aims a rifle directly at her. The sniper fires, and a bullet flies straight toward her head. She reacts instantly, swinging her sword to deflect the bullet midair. She stands tall in the chaos, surrounded but refusing to give up. More soldiers with red glowing eyes step forward to attack her. She takes a deep breath and tells herself to focus on the battle. Memories of a tragic past flash through her mind, filled with blood and death. She remembers standing alone in a destroyed city as a child. A voice in her memory reminds her that she must never die. Her eyes snap open, glowing with a bright red light as she powers up. She decides to push her body to the limit and go all out. She becomes a storm of red energy, slashing through the soldiers wildly. The enemies cannot keep up with her incredible speed and power. She delivers a massive slash, cutting through a soldier's defense. She stabs another enemy deeply, her face cold and focused. A soldier tries to ambush her, but she dodges the strike just in time. She lands in a crouch, looking for an opening to attack. Suddenly, a blade catches her off guard and cuts her arm. She winces in pain but grits her teeth, ignoring the injury. Her eyes are wide with fury as she forces herself to keep moving. Another soldier lunges at her from the dark shadows. She blocks the attack with her sword, sparks flying from the metal clash. She kicks the enemy away violently to create some space. Her sword glows with red energy as she swings it with all her might. A heavy boot stomps down, trying to crush her into the floor. She parries the heavy attack, the glass shattering around her from the force. A soldier jumps at her from above, holding a knife ready to stab. She lies on the ground for a second, looking exhausted and beaten. A soldier stands over her, thrusting his sword down to finish her. She catches the blade with her bare hand, stopping it just inches away. She thrusts her own sword upward, piercing through the soldier's chest. Her face is covered in blood and she looks crazy, pushed to her absolute limit. A massive explosion engulfs the room as the intense battle reaches its end. A soldier holds a sharp knife right against the woman's neck, using her as a hostage. The woman looks terrified and badly beaten, with blood on her face. Suddenly, a massive explosion blasts through the door, creating a huge shockwave. The hero rushes through the smoke with a furious look on his face to save her. The soldier is caught off guard and panics as the hero charges in. The hero swings his arm fast to attack before the soldier can react. He moves with incredible speed, slashing at the enemy. The soldier tries to defend himself, but the hero is too strong. The hero grabs the soldier's weapon with his bare hand to stop the attack. He delivers a powerful punch straight to the soldier's face. The impact of the punch sends the soldier flying backward. The hero grabs the enemy by the shirt and slams him down. He throws the soldier across the room with massive force. Dark energy starts to surround the hero's body as he gets serious. He stands ready in a fighting stance, covered in a black aura. The hero notices more enemies approaching in the distance. He clenches his fist, preparing to use his special power. He stands in front of the exit, blocking the way. He charges forward like a blur, moving faster than the eye can see. His fist glows with red fire as he punches the next enemy. Kalash 3. He dodges an attack and strikes back instantly. His punch hits so hard that black lightning crackles around them. The enemy is spun around by the force of the blow. The hero looks at his opponent with glowing, angry eyes. He unleashes a final, devastating attack from above. The enemy's armor shatters into pieces under the pressure. The punch lands squarely on the enemy's face, breaking his mask completely. The woman watches the intense battle from the corner of the room. She sits slumped against the wall, too weak to move. She looks up at the hero, relieved that he came for her. The room is now destroyed, with defeated soldiers lying everywhere. One last soldier tries to aim his gun at the woman. The woman closes her eyes, thinking she cannot hold on any longer. The hero shoots the soldier quickly before he can pull the trigger. He looks at the woman with concern and apologizes for being late. The woman smiles faintly, happy that he arrived just in time. He helps her stand up, supporting her weight. They leave the room, walking past the bodies of the enemies. Another man arrives at the scene, looking at the destruction. A squad of armed soldiers waits in the hallway to ambush them. They aim their guns steadily at the door. Suddenly, the door flies open with a loud bang. The hero walks out through the smoke with glowing yellow eyes. The soldiers are terrified and start shooting in panic. He walks away calmly, leaving a trail of unconscious bodies behind him. Two men stand over a defeated soldier, looking at the mess. The man grabs the soldier by the collar to interrogate him. He asks the soldier which basement level the target went to. A man with red hair looks around at the destroyed facility. He wipes some blood off his jacket, looking annoyed. He pulls out a walkie-talkie to report to his team. He sits down on a crate, looking very relaxed despite the chaos. He laughs while talking on the radio, not taking things seriously. Suddenly, he notices someone moving on the lower level. He looks down into the large open area below. He sees the hero standing there, looking up. The red-haired man looks surprised to see him there. The hero senses he is being watched and draws his knife immediately. The hero glares up with a sharp, dangerous look in his eyes. The battle breaks out in the warehouse. Several masked mercenaries charge at the man in the black coat all at once. Fists fly and energy explodes, but the man easily weaves through the attacks without breaking a sweat. He stands calmly amidst the chaos, dodging a blade with a slight movement of his head. The man looks at his attackers with a bored expression, completely unimpressed by their skills. One of the mercenaries grits his teeth, furious at how easily his attacks are being ignored. He shouts in anger, hating the man's arrogant attitude, and throws a massive punch. The punch creates a shockwave, but the man in the black coat simply steps to the side. The mercenary loses his balance as his powerful attack hits nothing but air. Taking advantage of the opening, the man watches the mercenary stumble past him. A massive explosion of energy erupts as the mercenary crashes into the ground. Suddenly, a new fighter arrives on the scene. A young man with red hair rushes into the warehouse. He looks frantic, scanning the area for his allies. He sees the masked mercenaries lying defeated on the floor. He spots a large burly man on the ground and shouts, "Mister." The man in the black coat turns his head, noticing the new arrival. The red-haired boy screams "murderer" and launches himself into the air. He moves with incredible speed, leaving a blur behind him as he charges. The man in the black coat widens his eyes, surprised that this boy is faster than he expected. The boy spins in the air, gathering blue wind energy around his fists. He unleashes his special move, the killer cyclone punch, aiming directly for the man. A massive collision occurs, shaking the entire room. Dust and debris fly everywhere from the impact of the strike. As the dust settles, the man in the black coat is standing perfectly still. He has caught the boy's powerful punch with just one hand and looks completely unbothered. The red-haired boy is shocked, unable to believe his strongest attack was stopped so easily. He quickly jumps back to create distance, trying to figure out what happened. The man in the black coat stands comfortably, sliding his hands into his pockets. Refusing to give up, the red-haired boy charges in again with a flurry of attacks. He throws a lightning-fast punch, but the man leans back, dodging it by an inch. The boy grits his teeth, frustrated that he cannot land a single hit. He unleashes a barrage of strikes, his fists moving like a blur of light. The man in the black coat blocks and weaves through every single punch effortlessly. The boy puts all his strength into a final swing, sweating from the exertion. The man catches the boy's arm and thinks that this kid is surprisingly strong for his level. He shoves the boy away, sending him sliding across the floor. Suddenly, the large burly man from earlier stands up, recovering from his injuries. The red-haired boy looks back, relieved to see his partner is still alive. The burly man looks serious and warns the boy not to be reckless. He tells the boy that this opponent is way beyond their normal level. The red-haired boy looks confused but stays ready to fight. The two allies stand together, facing the terrifying opponent. The man in the black coat stares them down, his hands still in his pockets. The burly man whispers to the boy, telling him to escape while he holds the enemy off. The boy refuses to leave and they both rush forward to attack together. Sparks fly as the man in the black coat blocks both of their attacks simultaneously. The red-haired boy tries to kick him while the burly man swings a weapon. The burly man throws a heavy punch charged with red energy. The man in the black coat twists his body, letting the attacks pass harmlessly. He grabs the burly man's wrist, stopping the attack instantly. With a swift motion, he throws the burly man aside. The man in the black coat spins and delivers a high kick. His eyes glow yellow as he decides to end this fight. He slams his foot into the red-haired boy's chest. The impact is devastating, creating a burst of golden light. The boy is sent flying through the air, crashing hard onto the concrete. The man in the black coat looks down at the defeated boy and warns him, "If you get up again, I'll really kill you." The red-haired boy lies on the ground, struggling to breathe and looking up in fear. He realizes the gap in their power is massive and wonders why the man is sparing his life. The man in the black coat turns his back and begins to walk away, done with the battle. The burly man slams his fist on the ground, furious and humiliated. He trembles, feeling sick to his stomach from the fear and the beating he took. He watches the man's back, feeling small and inferior. A dark shadow covers his face as dangerous thoughts fill his mind. He desperately thinks, "How can I kill this monster?" His eyes glow red with madness as he makes a drastic choice. He pulls out a mysterious purple syringe from his pocket. The red-haired boy spots the item and realizes what his partner is about to do. The boy looks terrified, knowing the item is dangerous. The burly man injects the purple fluid into his neck, and dark purple veins instantly spread across his face as he transforms. The man's face begins to crack apart, revealing a glowing purple energy underneath as he screams in pain. His arm twists violently and mutates, turning into a large, monstrous purple claw. He stands up, fully transformed into a monster with purple lightning crackling around his body. Eugen watches in shock, sweating as he wonders if he is going to end up turning into a monster like that too. He realizes that nobody ever told them about this kind of horrific side effect. Eugen crouches down low, pressing his earpiece to check on the situation. He speaks into the comms, asking Scavenger what his status is. Getting no reply and seeing the danger, Eugen decides he needs to get out of there immediately. The monster suddenly moves, emitting a dark aura to stop Eugen from leaving. The creature turns its head, its eyes glowing with a terrifying red light. A strange voice comes from the monster, asking how many years it has been since they last met. The monster smiles with a twisted face, mentioning their time back at the university. Eugen looks confused, wondering who is speaking through the monster's body. The enemy stands amidst the rubble, saying this ruined place is exactly right for a reunion. Eugen senses a familiar energy and asks if that power is his authority. The monster raises a hand, radiating dark purple energy as he confirms his identity. Eugen realizes this presence belongs to the leader of the Seven-Star Society. The possessed man grins widely, enjoying the look of realization on Eugen's face. Eugen glares with golden eyes, asking why he came here for answers. The leader raises his clawed hand, simply telling Eugen to calm down. He explains that he is not here to fight Eugen right now. He says he only came here to deliver a specific message. He admits that in this weak, possessed body, he wouldn't be a match for Eugen anyway. He makes an offer, stop fighting here and he can go back to his normal life. Eugen listens to the deal, looking completely unimpressed and angry. Golden electricity sparks around Eugen as he mutters a curse word. Eugen rushes forward and delivers a powerful punch to the monster's face. The impact sends the monster flying backward with a burst of light. Eugen pins him to the ground, grabbing his neck while mentioning someone is still missing. Even while being choked, the monster smiles and says he can happily wait. The monster breaks free and stands up, calling Yujin tough. A command to kill flashes in the air as the monster's eyes glow red with rage. The monster throws a massive punch aimed right at Yujin's head. Yujin blocks the hit, creating a shockwave that cracks the air. A beam of energy shoots across the rooftop, tearing up the ground. A huge explosion engulfs the area, sending debris flying everywhere. Yujin's golden eye shines intensely through the smoke and lightning. He walks calmly toward the enemy, completely unfazed by the explosion. The monster laughs, mocking Yujin by saying he seems to have made a lot of enemies. Yujin looks slightly surprised by the comment but stays focused. Yujin dashes forward again, moving so fast he becomes a blur of light. He leaps into the air and slams a lightning-charged kick down on the enemy. The monster tries to defend, but the impact is too heavy. He is smashed into the concrete floor with a loud boom. Yujin summons a red energy claw of his own to finish the fight. The monster roars and swipes back with his purple energy claws. Yujin leans his head back, dodging the sharp claw by inches. The attack misses completely, cutting only the empty air. The monster looks shocked that he missed at such close range. He grits his teeth in fear, saying Yujin's name as he realizes he lost. Yujin grabs the enemy's shoulder, telling him this method won't let him achieve anything. He adds that it won't protect a single thing either. A massive blast of fire and energy erupts from Yujin's hand. The monster screams in agony as the body is consumed by the attack. As he burns away, the leader's voice says he looks forward to the day they meet again. Yujin stands alone in the silence, wondering if the person he saved got away. He sighs, thinking that it is good they escaped. He turns and walks away from the destruction he caused. He looks down and sees the dead body of the mercenary leader. He notices another dead body nearby, confirming the enemy team is wiped out. The side of the building is completely shattered, showing the scale of the battle. The scene shifts to a luxury room where a man in a suit is relaxing. He calmly takes a sip of whiskey, seemingly the true body of the leader. He speaks to himself, wondering if the mercenaries were used for something else. An attendant helps him put on his suit jacket as he prepares to leave. Back at the ruin, Yujin puts on his own jacket, mirroring the leader's action. Yujin stares ahead with a serious expression, knowing the real war is just beginning.